If your teacher ever calls on you during class, even though you didn't raise your hand, I have a way to make sure they'll never do that again. Because my teachers used to do this to me all the time because they noticed I wasn't paying attention. So I guess they wanted to embarrass me or something. And before, I used to freak out when this happened because I wouldn't know the answer, so I'd start panicking trying to figure out what to say until one day I got called on and I still didn't know the solution. But this time, I decided I was just gonna say a random answer super confidently. So that's what I did. The teacher was like, Tyler, what's the answer to question 4? And I just said, 36. And she goes, no, it's -2. But because I sounded so confident when answering, it made it seem like I was paying attention, but I'm just dumb. And it worked because from this point on, she didn't call on me the rest of the year unless I was raising my hand. She also recommended that I get held back because of this, but that's besides the point. This is a warning to never put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode because my friend got arrested for trespassing. But you may be asking, what does that have to do with my phone being on Do Not Disturb? Well, you see, my friend lives by himself and the rest of his family lives a couple states away. So if he ever has a problem, he either reaches out to me or one of our other friends. So he got arrested and I had no idea this happened until I looked at my phone and I saw that I had a voicemail from 9 hours ago. But I didn't recognize who the voicemail was from. So I clicked on it and I listened to it. And it turns out I was his one phone call from jail. Why would you call me? Who do I look like, Saul Goodman? But anyways, I called the jail back and apparently he got released by the time I saw my voicemail. So I called his actual number to see how he was doing and he said that he was fine and that he walked home from the jail when he got out. So in my head, I'm like, oh, the jail must be pretty close to where he lives then, right? So I Googled the location of the jail and he lives 7 miles away from it. So I called him back and I said, dude, did you just walk 7 miles home? And he says, oh, is that how far I walked? So this is your friendly reminder to never put your phone on Do Not Disturb because your friend, that's now a felon, might get stranded if you do. This is your reminder that your parents aren't racist, they just don't have a good memory. How does that correlate, you may ask? Well, you see, I have a friend who's Asian, and my parents love this kid. They always say how nice he is, but my parents' problem is, they can never remember names. So whenever I say I'm going to hang out with my friends, they ask which ones, and I say, Jaden, and they say, is that the Asian one? Yes, Mom, he does happen to be Asian. But here's the other issue. I have a couple friends who happen to be Asian, so asking if he's Asian isn't enough to know who it is. So after they ask that question, they say, oh, is it the one on the heavier side? Wow, I mean, he has red hair, so you could have asked if it was the one with red hair, but yeah, I guess he's the one on the heavier side. But they love this kid. They don't mean to say it with any harm. They just can't memorize names. Even mine. One time, my mom said, get in here, Ryland. I've never met a Ryland in my life. So is anyone else's parents like this, or is it just mine? A girl came up to me today and asked for my number for the first time in my life. And I know what you're gonna say. Was she attractive? Well, she was like 65 years old. And I'm pretty sure she was homeless because she didn't have shoes and she was barking at people. But a win is a win, right? A win is a win. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you're watching a movie with your parents and a love scene comes on. Because for some reason, whenever I'm watching something with them, there always has to be an inappropriate scene. It could be Finding Nemo and there would still be something freaky happening in it. I remember one time, me and my parents went to go watch the new Oppenheimer movie. And I'm super excited, like, yeah, I can't wait to watch this movie about science and nothing else. But then about 20 minutes into the movie, the characters are getting their freak on. I thought this movie was about atomic bombs. But whenever this happens, you have to pretend like you're not even watching the movie. Like I started looking at the ceiling, checking the weather in Cupertino. You can't look at the screen or else your parents are gonna wonder why you're watching that freaky stuff. Does anyone else have a friend who's been consumed by brain rot? Like they can't even have a normal conversation anymore. Because I'm starting to get worried about my friend going through this because we were just on a flight together and this lady was trying to get to her seat, but she tripped over her suitcase and fell. So a couple people were trying to help her up, but while this was happening, my friend goes, I give that 3 big booms. So I go, what? And he says, I give that lady's fall 3 big booms. First of all, you can't scream boom on an airplane. We're about to get kicked off here so fast. But second of all, are you okay? Since when did we start rating everything on a boom meter? Come on, bro, I know you're still inside there somewhere, okay? You gotta fight. The sad part is, I always thought my friend was super smart. He probably could have been a doctor or something, but instead, he just recites brain rot memes. We're all so cooked. I just made a little kid cry on purpose because I was at a restaurant with my family and there was this boy at the table in front of me that just kept staring at me. And I didn't have a problem with it at first because I was like, okay, he's just a kid, that's what they do. But then our food came and he was still staring. So I started to get a little bit uncomfortable because I don't like when people watch me eat. So I was trying to think of a way to get him to stop while I was eating and I decided I was gonna look at him like this. So that's what I did, and I was hoping the kid would laugh or something and then stop, but instead, he started crying right away. He was crying loud, but I didn't want to look responsible for making this happen. So when his mom asked him what was wrong and he pointed to me, I just pretended like I had no idea what he was talking about. He pointed to me and I just did this. I felt really bad because I was low-key gaslighting a 4-year-old, but I'm sorry, little bro, I just got uncomfortable. There's a trend going around where people ask if you were to pass away, who would be the 6 people to carry your casket at your funeral? And this trend terrifies me because I got like 2 friends. How do y'all have so many friends? I see a bunch of people going out every weekend with different people. Where did you find them? Is there a secret on how to have new friends that I'm just not aware of? Because I got 2. They're about to be dragging my casket like this. If you're ever thinking about buying a TV off Temu, don't do it! Because I just bought this one and I was super excited because it was only 30 bucks until it arrived and I realized it wasn't an actual TV. It's a Wendy's menu screen! I was trying to watch the Lakers game on it, but instead, I'm stuck staring at the breakfast Baconator. Okay, that actually sounds kind of good. But still, if your teacher ever tries to take away your phone during class, don't let them. Because one time, I had a class with a super strict teacher who never let anyone use their phone. Like if she even saw it slightly slipping out of your pocket, she took it away. So I never dared to go on it during class, except for this one day where the group chat I had with my friends kept going off because everyone was arguing. And I was getting roasted in it, so obviously, I had to defend myself and I was texting during class. And I thought I was being slick until my teacher saw me and took my phone away, which wouldn't have been that big of a deal if it weren't for the fact that it was still unlocked when she grabbed it. And like I said, she hated when people tried using their phone, so she said to me, "What's so important that you need to use your phone during class?" And she read the messages we were sending in the group chat. And let's just say, those messages may or may not have had some Diddy jokes that she definitely did not understand. This is your warning to never do what the guy I just saw at Target did, especially on Valentine's Day. He was in an argument with his girlfriend, so I went to the aisle right next to them so I could hear what they were arguing about because they were not being quiet. So when I started listening, I could hear the girl saying, "You always do stuff like this. You're so cheap." So I was like, what's he being cheap about? So I keep listening and they're just going back and forth, but they haven't revealed what exactly made her angry. But then I hear him say, "It's the thought of the card that counts." And she says, "The card is $5. You don't think I'm worth $5? So after a little bit more arguing, I figured out that what happened was this man went to Target on Valentine's Day with his girlfriend, went to the card section, picked out a card for her, let her read it, and then he put it back. The worst part is this guy was wearing like nice Jordans, so he can't be that broke. I kind of get it though, because once you read a card, what do you do with it? You throw it away anyway, right? But you just can't do that to your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. I can't wait for when Christmas time comes around and he takes her to like the Chanel store or something and he lets her try on a bunch of different purses. And when she finds the one she loves, she says, "Ooh, can I please get this purse?" And he says, "Wasn't wearing it in the store enough?" I feel like that might actually happen. So if you have a girlfriend, don't do what he did or you won't have a girlfriend anymore. If you go to the bathroom past midnight, always turn the light on. Because around 2 a.m. last night, I woke up and really had to pee. So I got up, but I was pretty much still half asleep. My eyes felt super heavy and I didn't really have any of my senses yet. So I'm walking in the dark and I open the bathroom door, but right when I do that, I see a shadowy figure on the toilet. So I scream because I'm thinking, why is there a ghost taking a dump in my bathroom right now? But I didn't know if I was just imagining it because I was super tired. So I turned the light on and what do I see? My mom just sitting there. She was sitting in complete silence at 2 a.m. with the lights off. So I asked her, "Mom, what are you doing?" And she says, "I'm just going to the bathroom." But then I say, "Yeah, but why are you just sitting here with the lights off, not saying anything?" And she was like, I don't know, that's just what I always do. Next time I gotta go to the bathroom at this time, I'm just gonna wet the bed. I just got tricked by a homeless man because I was driving through a parking lot and there was a guy with a sign saying, "Homeless, anything helps." So I rolled down my window and offered to buy him food from Subway because we were right next to one. But he was like, "No, I'm not really hungry right now. I would just prefer if you could give me some cash." So the anything helps part of his sign was definitely a lie, but I had some cash with me, so I was like, whatever, I'll just give him some money. But a couple days later, I'm driving through that same parking lot again, and guess who I see? The homeless man. But something was different about him this time, because on this day, he was wearing brand new Jordans. He spent the money I gave him on Jordans. And you may be like, "Oh, why are you mad? Homeless people need comfy shoes too." And you're right. But I'm mad because the ones he bought are off-white Jordans that are literally worth more than I could afford. But somehow this homeless man could buy them? He should have been helping me out. Am I low-key just jealous of him? Yeah. Even homeless people have more drip than me. Nobody talks about the difference between how moms text versus dads. Because I have a group chat with my parents, and a couple months ago when school ended, I sent them a picture of my grades and they were pretty good. So immediately I got a text back from my mom that was about 9,000 words. It looked like she was trying to fill up the word requirement on an essay. Cause she was like, "Great job, Tyler. I'm so proud of the young man you're becoming and I can't wait to see what you do in the future." So I'm thinking, dang mom, I appreciate it, but I didn't just win the Nobel Prize. All I did was pass algebra. And that was mostly cause of Quizlet. But when it comes to my dad, he didn't respond to this text for a couple hours until finally I see a text from him pop up. And you know what it said? Nothing. He just sent a thumbs up emoji. I could tell my dad I cured cancer and he would respond by sending a thumbs up emoji. He'll use that thing no matter what the scenario is. If you're ever trying to think of an excuse to go home early from school, Don't say you're sick. Because I was at school one time, but I really didn't want to be there since a new video game I wanted to play just came out. So I made a plan to pretend to be sick, hoping the teacher would let me go home. So I raised my hand and the teacher walked over to me and I told her that I felt nauseous and like I might throw up. But then she looked at me right in my eyes and her smile faded away as she said, "Oh yeah, you don't look very good right now. I'll call your mom." And then she immediately went to the phone and I got sent home. Which, yeah, that was what I wanted. But at the same time, what do you mean I don't look good? I wasn't actually sick. That's literally how I always look. I know I have bags under my eyes, but it's genetic, okay? I can't control it. Now I see why people always told me I look like Goob from Meet the Robinsons growing up. Nobody talks about the difference between how boys act on their birthday versus girls. Because whenever it's a girl's birthday, you can tell right away. They're dressed like it's prom night. They've got enough balloons with them to float to Mars. But for guys, it's completely different because I remember one time I was talking to this dude I sat next to in class and we were friendly, but we weren't like friends. So I didn't know when his birthday was, but then the teacher gave us a worksheet to do and we had to put the date on it and the guy asked me what today's date was. But when I told him, he paused for a second, then went, "Really?" So I said, "Yeah," and he was like, "Oh, it's my birthday today." And I had to stop what I was doing and be like, wait. There's no way you didn't know it was your birthday until right now. But apparently, not one person said happy birthday to him that day, and he didn't know the date, so he just completely forgot. I feel him though. I get about 3 texts on my birthday, and they're all from people that have the same last name as me. It's so sad. I went to a barber that doesn't speak any English, and this was a big mistake because when he asked me what haircut I wanted, I told him I just wanted it a little bit shorter all the way around, and he must have not understood a damn word I said because this is what he gave me. What the? He turned me into Coconut Head! I'm never having kids because I just saw a video where this father showed off some pictures his daughter drew for him. And at first, it was cute because the daughter was like, "Daddy, look, I drew our family." And the drawings would have her, the father, and their dog in it. Seems really sweet, right? Well, it was until the father showed the last drawing she made. Because in that one, it wasn't just them and the dog in it. There was one extra person. But I don't even know if you could call it a person because it looked like a demon. When I first saw it, I thought she was trying to draw the thing from the Momo challenge. So the dad asks the daughter who that extra person is, and she goes, "That's my friend." Well, that's terrifying, but then it gets even worse because the dad says, "Oh, well, why does she look like that?" And the little girl goes, "Don't say that, Dad. She gets mad when you talk about her like that." What? I'm sorry, but if this happened to me, my daughter and her little friend over there can go hang out at the orphanage because I ain't messing with whatever that is. If you're ever ordering food and they ask for your name, do not give them a fake one. Because me and my friend were hungry the other day, so he ordered Chick-fil-A on his phone, and he said he would pay for it if I picked it up. So I agreed, but what he didn't tell me until I got there was that he put the food under the name Jamal. Now I was super nervous because obviously, I do not look like someone with that name. But I arrived and it was a Friday night, so it was super busy inside. And once the order was ready, the worker goes, "Order for Jamal." But I was gonna wait until they called out the name for the next order so people wouldn't be looking at me. But instead of just putting my food down and calling out the next name, the worker whips out a microphone and says, "Jamal, your order is ready. Please come to the front counter." So now everyone is paying attention and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder where Jamal's at." So at this point, I've accepted that I just cannot go up there and get the food. So I went back in line and ordered again. But this time, I didn't get my friend any food. That's what he gets. What would you do if you ruined someone's gender reveal? Because that's what I did. So I was at a party for a gender reveal, but I made the dumb mistake of not asking anyone how the couple was gonna reveal the gender of the baby. Like if they were gonna cut into a piece of cake or hit a piñata or something like that. So I'm walking around the house and I see this room with a bunch of pink and blue balloons in it. And there's a bunch of kids running around popping them. So I'm like, well, I may not be a kid anymore, but I'm still full of jolly and glee, so I wanna pop these balloons too. So I go in there and start popping them. But there was this one really big white balloon at the top of the ceiling that the kids couldn't reach. So when I came in, they asked me if I could pop that one. And because I want to have that cool uncle vibe, I immediately do it. But unfortunately, no one told me that was the balloon they were popping to reveal the gender. So a bunch of blue powder just falls all over the place. Luckily, the parents of the baby didn't see it happen. Only like 2 adults saw this happen, so everyone else still didn't know the gender. So me and the other people who saw it happen just got another white balloon and filled that one up with powder. This is what I get for trying to be the cool uncle. Have you ever had a friend who refuses to let you inside their house? Like they definitely gotta be hiding something in there because I have a friend that I've known since I was 5 years old. Yet he has never let me inside his house and he'll do whatever it takes to make sure I don't. Like there was a time where we were playing basketball together and he sprained his ankle really bad to the point where he couldn't walk. So I drove him home, but when we got to his house, I was like, "Here, let me help you get inside." But he goes, "No, I got it." So I was like, "What are you even talking about? You can't walk on that foot." But he opened my car door and just hopped all the way to his house. He was literally screaming like, "Ow, ow, ow, ow." So I've asked him before why he refuses to let me inside his house, but every time I bring it up, he just tries to change the subject or act like he doesn't know what I'm talking about. At this point, I don't think I want to see what's inside there. You know how every school had a kid who would bring a speaker and play music in the hallways? Well, I do not recommend being that kid because the one who did it at my school got in big trouble one day because everyone was really annoyed that he would always do this. But one kid in particular named Chris was super fed up. So he made an evil plan to make sure the speaker kid, whose name was John, would stop doing this. Because during lunch, John would put the speaker inside his locker. But since it was high school, no one actually locked their locker. So during lunch one day, Chris went up to John's locker and he connected his phone to the speaker so that from now on, whenever it turned on, it would immediately connect to his device. So fast forward a few days later and he's in class with John taking a test. But Chris connects his phone to the speaker during the exam and starts playing music. So while the classroom is completely silent, the speaker starts blaring music. So the teacher took the speaker away and said, from now on, I don't want to see that speaker with you inside school. And the whole class cheered. No, they didn't do that part, but they definitely wanted to. If someone is talking in a different language around you, they are talking trash. Cause I was at the nail salon getting a pedicure once. And yes, I get pedicures, okay? They feel nice. But I've always felt like the ladies who worked there were talking trash about me in another language. And I knew the ones at this nail salon spoke Vietnamese, so I had a plan to figure out what they were saying. Now obviously, I don't look like a person who speaks Vietnamese, but in reality, you're right, I don't. But Google Translate does. So when I was at the nail salon, I pulled my phone out and turned my microphone on. So whatever the ladies were saying would get translated from Vietnamese into English. So when the time came where it looked like they were talking trash, I used it. And I expected to see the translation say something like, this boy's feet smell like chemical waste. But no, instead, she was just talking trash about her husband, saying how he's lazy and he needs to help the kids out more. I'm just glad the trash talk wasn't about me. Girls will never be able to understand male friendships because my homie got a girlfriend recently, but before they started dating, she didn't know who I was. So we all started hanging out together, and after a while, she thought my friend and I secretly hated each other. She literally went up to her boyfriend and said, hey, be honest, do you and Tyler actually like each other? And he goes, yeah, of course. Why would you think we didn't? And you know what her reason for thinking this was? She thought we hated each other because of how much we would insult the other person right to their face. Like one time he picked me up for us to all hang out and I said his shirt was ugly. So instead of letting me in the car, he locked the door and threatened to run me over. What his girlfriend didn't understand is that when it comes to male friendships, insults are a guy's love language. The meaner a guy is to his friends, the more he likes them. I don't make the rules, but that's how it is. When people say massage parlors are scary, they are not kidding. I just went there for the first time and this tiny Asian lady was there working and I had no expectations going into this, but now I know to never go back. First of all, she forced me to take all of my clothes off. Like all of them. At first I took off everything except my underwear. Then she aggressively told me to take those off too. She literally said, take off underwear! So I don't know if that part is normal or if I'm like a victim now or something. But anyways, the lady that worked there was like the smallest person ever. Like I think if a chihuahua saw her in public, it would eat her. But I think she was possessed because there is no other explanation for how she was so strong. When she massaged my back, I thought she turned into the Hulk. It felt like she was doing a WWE takedown like this. Oh, my back! I think I broke my back! I started screaming because it hurt so bad. And then because I screamed, she slapped me and said, no screaming! It's a good thing the place was so dark because if she saw how much I was crying, I think she would have chopped one of my toes off or something. Nobody talks about how scary it is when your mean friend starts being nice to you. Because my friend and I were staying at a hotel together one night and he was acting completely normal until randomly he says, dang it. So I asked him what's wrong and he told me he just ran out of data on his phone. So he tries connecting to the hotel Wi-Fi, but it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, he starts acting suspiciously nice. Like he asked if I wanted him to get me a drink from the lobby. So I was like, bro, why are you acting like this? And he goes, acting like what? I'm just trying to be a good friend. But after about 5 minutes of this really strange behavior, he asks if he could use my hotspot. So I was like, oh, now I get why you were being nice. But I tell him no because it'll ruin my battery and I forgot to bring a charger. Plus it was super late by this time, so I was like, let's just go to bed. So I thought this would be the end of the conversation until I went to sleep. Because around 2 a.m., a bright light wakes me up. So I open my eyes to see my friend trying to unlock my phone by using the Face ID on me. First of all, my eyes have to be open for that to work. Second of all, why are you that down bad for a hotspot? Did anyone else purposely pick the kid who couldn't read during popcorn reading at school? Like I know this sounds evil, but I would always do it to mess with my friend. Because I remember the teacher would always ask who wants to read first, and I would raise my hand because I liked reading. But the moment I finished my page and it was time for me to pick a different person to read, everyone knew exactly who was gonna be up next because I picked the same person every time. The funny part is, my friend always knew I was gonna choose him because while I was reading, he would ask to go to the bathroom or try to come up with an excuse to leave class. But the teacher would always be like, no, class just started. You don't need to go to the bathroom. So I'd pick him and he would just be reading in like 0.5 speed. I also did this because since he was slow to read, it took up more class time. Looking back at it though, I was an evil kid. I'm sorry for making you do that, Jimmy. Oh, you think your parents are strict? Well, one time, me and my friends really wanted to go snowboarding. But we knew our friend Aaron wouldn't be allowed to go because his parents would just say no. So he decided to lie and tell his parents he was sleeping over at my house. And he left his phone in my room while we went snowboarding. So when his mom checked his location, it looked like he was just hanging out with me. And we thought he got away with it until we got back. Because Aaron got his phone from my house and he had a bunch of missed calls from his mom. Apparently, she found out we went snowboarding, but how did she know this, you ask? She put an AirTag in his shoe a while ago without him knowing, just in case he ever turned his location off. And you may think he just got grounded or something and that's the end of it, but no. Because the next time we hung out, he had something wrapped around his leg, so we asked what it was, and it was an ankle monitor. His mom forced him to wear it when hanging out with us now because she didn't trust him. I can't believe he got put on parole by his own mother. If your teacher tells you to get into groups for a project, don't join your friends. Because I used to think doing a group project with my homies would be so fun. Until we had a day where our teacher let us choose who we wanted to work with. So of course, I chose my 3 best friends in that class. And at first, it was awesome. I looked forward to going to that class every day because I just got to hang out with my friends the whole time. But after a couple of weeks, I showed up to that class one day and the teacher told us our project was due tomorrow. But you know how much work we got done up to that point? None. This whole time we were supposed to be working on the project in class, we just spent yapping about the most useless topics like, would you rather eat chocolate flavored poop or poop flavored chocolate? Like, what are we even talking about? So we had to rush to get the project done in one night. And then when we presented, no one could keep a straight face. I'm working with the smart kids next time. Have you ever started saying a certain word as a joke, but now it's become part of your normal vocabulary? Like, no matter how hard you try to stop saying it, you can't. Because I was at a restaurant the other day and the food arrived looking delicious. So I take a bite and this is how I react. Bombaclat. Now let me ask you a question. Do I look like someone who says that word? No. The only reason I started saying it in the first place was because I loved watching those soccer videos where the player would do something embarrassing and the crowd would react by going, Bombaclat. But it became so satisfying to say that I started saying it way more than I should have. And I don't even pronounce it correctly, so when I said it at the restaurant, I could see a person at the table next to me who heard it and they were laughing. I say Bombaclat like how a Karen says quesadilla. It just don't sound right. I went to school with a girl who cheated on literally every test, but she posted a picture the other day saying that she just officially became a nurse. So immediately when I saw that, I commented on it saying, oh my gosh, congratulations. Just out of curiosity, what hospital are you working at? Then she told me the hospital. But the reason I asked this question at all is because we had a lot of classes together in high school. And I have never seen anyone cheat as much as she did. So I asked what hospital she was at so I can make sure to avoid it. You think if I break a bone, I'm going to a hospital that has a nurse who was in a committed relationship with Quizlet? No shot! If she cheated to get through high school, just imagine what she did to get through nursing school. That's way harder than learning the Pythagorean theorem. I ain't putting my life in her hands. So if you're ever at a hospital in Southern California, beware of Nurse Ellie, because she's probably gonna be asking Siri how to fix you. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when everyone's texting in a group chat, but then you send a message and no one replies. Like, why am I even in here? Because y'all clearly hate me. I remember I got added to a group chat once that was literally for a party someone at my school was throwing. And there was like 75 people in it, so texts were coming through every second. And I was just kind of observing the group chat, not saying anything. But then I saw these 2 people in it arguing, and one of them said, why are you even talking, Barry? You barely made it in. But because I have possibly the worst comedic timing ever, when I saw that text, I saw a golden opportunity. So I replied to that message saying, that's what she said. And I was expecting at least some people to find that funny, but no, it was just crickets. There was not one more text in that group chat for the next 30 minutes. The joke was somehow so bad that it even got them to stop arguing. The only way I knew how to get over this embarrassment was to just leave the group chat. This is why I don't talk in them. A girl at my school asked me out and I panicked because I did not want to say yes, but I also didn't want to hurt her feelings. So I said, yeah, I'll go out with you, but you should know that the last girlfriend I had was a little bit crazy. And after we broke up, she saw me talking to another girl and she bit a part of her ear off. Poor girl can't even hear out of the right side anymore. I was lying. This did not happen. My ex-girlfriend was not Mike Tyson, but it was enough to scare her off so that every time after that, when she saw me in the hallways at school, she would turn around and speed walk the exact opposite way. So if you need an excuse to tell someone no when they ask you out, just use that. It will work. Does anyone else have a friend who never wants to leave when you're hanging out? Because I had a friend who got their license before me and he was like this. So whenever we were hanging out, it would get to the point where it was like 1 a.m. and we already went to 4 different places that day. So I'd be super tired and want to go home. But unfortunately, my friend would pretty much keep me captive and force me to hang out longer. Because he'd be like, all right, what do you guys want to do now? And me and our other friends would be like, bro, we just want to go home. My mom's about to send out an Amber Alert for me if I don't get back soon. He'd respond with something ridiculous like, aw, come on guys, it's not that late. How about we go fishing? Dog, it is 1 a.m. One of our friends has been passed out in the back for the past 2 hours and we don't even own fishing rods. What are you even talking about? But since he was driving, he had the final say. So if he wanted to go fishing,
We were going fishing. I was about to just sleep with the fish.
If you have an embarrassing group chat name, never let your parents hold your phone. Because I was just trying to show my mom my grades from the previous school year. So I pulled them up on my phone. But for some reason, whenever you show your parents something on your phone, they want to hold it. So she had it in her hand now, and all of a sudden, I hear a notification sound go off. But not just a normal one. It was a very distinct one I have set for a specific group chat. So I looked at her when it went off, but she didn't have a reaction. So I was like, okay, maybe she didn't read it. But then the notification sound went off again and again. And after a couple times of that happening, she gave me an awkward side eye. I just know that she was super uncomfortable when she saw that I was getting texts from Stephen Hawking's pit crew. I didn't know whether to explain that I wasn't the one who named it or just say nothing at all. I'm definitely muting that group chat.
Have you ever had a new kid at your school that gets popular super quick? Because a couple years ago, our teacher said there was a new kid transferring and no one really cared at first until he showed up because he was super shy on the first day he got there, which made sense since he didn't know anyone. I remember seeing him eat lunch alone and not really talking to anyone at all. But the next day, I stayed home from school because I was sick and I went back the day after. But by that time, this man already became the most famous person in school. All of a sudden, there's people sitting around him at lunch. And I heard people asking him if he wanted to hang out after school. Everyone looked like minions following him around as if he was Gru. So I jokingly said to my friend, dang, this man got more popular in 2 days than I did in 8 years. Maybe I should transfer so this happens to me, right? But he was like, nah, don't do that. It wouldn't work. They actually just like him.
Nobody talks about the difference between dress codes for girls versus guys at school. Because you would have thought everyone in my class was super down bad with how much the students got dress coded. Like the girls would get so angry because anything they tried to wear got them sent straight to the principal's office. There was one time where a girl wore a long sleeve shirt that completely covered her whole body, but it was a little baggy around the neck. So when she adjusted it, you could see her shoulder. And the moment the teacher saw that shoulder peeking out, he sent her straight to the office and she came back with a triple XL gym shirt on. But what even is the thought process there? Are there really people at school gooning over a girl's shoulder? I mean, I thought toe fetishes were weird, but y'all are taking it to the next level. Meanwhile, dress codes for guys at my school was basically non-existent. I remember during Halloween, one kid literally did not wear a shirt to school and the teacher didn't care. Honestly, my theory is that the dress code is for the teachers, not the students. To the person I just met in the elevator that said they watched my videos, I'm so sorry about what happened. Because I was staying at a hotel and I got in the elevator to go back to my room, but I had Mexican food like an hour before this. So there was an absolute hurricane going off in my stomach and I farted in the elevator. And initially, I was the only one in it, but the hotel I'm staying at is 10 stories and I was on the 8th floor. So I'm just hoping that the elevator doesn't stop before getting to my floor, but then at floor 6, I hear a ding go off and the elevator stops. So I'm like, oh no, they're gonna smell my fart. And a guy walks in and gives me a weird look. So I'm like, yep, he definitely smells it, but no, it was even worse because he goes, are you a YouTuber? And I tell him I am, and he says, no way, I've seen your videos before. Dog, that was the worst thing you could have said right now. Because after he got in the elevator, he started coughing, so he definitely smelled it. But when he did that, I started coughing too to make it seem like I wasn't the one who farted. And when the elevator got to my floor, I ran out of there as quick as possible. You just can't trust those bean burritos, man.
Did anyone else ever have a classmate who would only show up to school like once a month? And whenever they showed up, it felt like a special occasion because they were normally never there. I have no idea how these types of people pass their classes though, because there was one kid I sat next to who literally did not show up for 25 days straight. So the day he came back, I was like, bro, where were you? Did you go hike Mount Everest or something? And he says, nah, I just went to see the 7 wonders of the world with my family. Huh? Why'd you just say that like it's normal? Like that's the tone I use when I have to tell someone I clogged the toilet. But I did not like sitting next to him because when he finally got back, we had a group project to do. But 3 days later, he was gone again and he didn't return for 2 weeks. So I had to do the whole project on my own. He just got done seeing the 7 wonders of the world. Where was he going this time? Mars? You know, actually, don't even answer that because he probably was. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you're at the grocery store with your mom and she leaves you at the checkout line. Like this used to be my worst nightmare because one time me and my mom were in the checkout line at Walmart and she's looking at her list, making sure she got everything she needs. And she realized she forgot to get laundry detergent, but the lines were super long and she didn't want to have to wait through it again since we were almost at the front. So she told me to stay in it while she went to get the detergent. But I was freaking out because after a couple minutes, it was our turn to check out and my mom wasn't back yet. And I think the worker knew this and was trying to mess with me because he started scanning items like 5 times faster when it was my turn. He finished scanning the items and my mom wasn't back yet. So he asked how I was gonna pay and I almost started crying. But then finally, my mom got back. Do the workers always do this when they see a little kid?
Old people have to stop getting tricked by AI so easily. Because my mom was scrolling through Facebook the other day and she starts laughing hysterically. So I'm like, what's so funny, mom? Then she tells me that she saw a video of an English bulldog cooking a steak. So I'm like, no way, let me see the video. And she shows it to me, but it's the most obvious AI I've ever seen. Like the dog was literally holding a knife and cutting the steak as if it was a human. So I was like, Mom, that video is not real. But then she was like, how do you know? So I tell her that it's super obvious that the video is AI, but then she says, it looks so real though. Mom, the knife was literally going through the dog's paw. It was not real. So I had to break her heart and tell her that this dog wasn't the next Gordon Ramsay. But this wasn't even nearly as bad as the time where she saw a photo of what Nicolas Cage would look like if he was a dog, and she thought that was real. Now that one was terrifying. I just know that in like 6 months, there's gonna be AI videos of pigs flying and old people are gonna be like, they finally did it. Oh my gosh. Have you ever been taking a test and the kid next to you covers their answers as if you were trying to cheat off them? Like even if it's obvious you're not cheating. Cause I got so frustrated one time when I was in math class and we were taking a really important exam. But every time I would move my head at all, the kid next to me would quickly cover his paper. So the teacher saw this and started to think that I was cheating. So while making direct eye contact with me, she said out loud to the whole class, everybody remember to keep your eyes on your own test. If you are caught cheating, you will get a 0. But this made me so angry because I sat next to this kid the whole year and I definitely did not need to cheat off of him. Like he made Forrest Gump look like a Nobel Prize winner. And when we got our results back from the test, I had to fight so hard to not laugh at him. The only person he should be hiding his test from after getting that bad of a score is his parents. You know how when a group of pretty girls walk by, you check the weather app to pretend like you're on your phone? Well, I have a friend that used to be super socially awkward and did not know how to talk to women. And no, I'm not talking about myself, okay? Even though that does describe me. But anyways, my friend used to check the weather app so much when he was in this situation. And I just saw him for the first time in a couple years recently. So I asked him what he's been up to, and he told me he's trying to become a weatherman. So I was like, oh, I never knew you wanted to do that. And he goes, neither did I. But after checking the weather app so much around girls, I started to realize that it was super interesting to me. This man literally figured out what he wants to do in life from this happening so much. I guess there are some perks to being scared of women. I'm just coping. Get ready with me to go to a funeral. So my grandma passed away last week, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm really sad. But she left us her house in her will. And I'm sure some of you will probably say, okay, cool, she gave you her house, but you should still be more sad than you are right now. And to that I say, shut up! My grandma would want me to be happy. Matter of fact, she always told me that I was her favorite grandson. Mostly because she had dementia and she forgot all her other grandkids. But still, another reason I'm so happy is I heard there's gonna be a chocolate fountain at the funeral. What? Are they gonna put a bounce house there too? Like you're telling me if you were at a funeral and they had a chocolate fountain and a bounce house, you would not be happy. Anyways, this is the final look. Nobody talks about how scary it was when the principal came to your classroom during school. Because I remember one time during class, all the students were talking, but the moment that door opened and we saw that it was the principal, the whole class immediately went silent. You would have thought she was a military leader with how scared she made everyone without even saying anything. She walked in and I was like, should I salute her or something? I don't know. But what was so funny about when the principal came to our class was our teacher would turn from the meanest person ever to the kindest. All of a sudden, someone would answer a question and the teacher would be like, good job, Anthony, you're so smart. Even though just 2 days ago, she told Anthony he's gonna be working at Walmart when he graduates. But what was really scary was when the principal would sit down next to you. Cause she sat down next to me a couple times and she would be like, what are you working on? And my hand would be shaking and I'd be like, I don't know, I was watching LeBron highlights. Then 5 minutes later, she would just vanish. I don't think my heart rate has been that high since. Rich people spend money on the dumbest things. Because I know someone who got hired by this really rich guy to literally just follow him around all day and take notes on what he says. Because he wants to write a book with all of his tips on how to become wealthy. So my friend starts doing this job, but after a couple of days, he was already bored of the job and he was like, there's gotta be a more efficient way to do this. And that was when he realized he could just use this AI note taker instead of having to listen to what he says all day. All he had to do was press record, and when the guy would talk, it would listen to everything he said. And once he stopped recording, it'd turn everything he said into notes for him. So my friend literally got paid $300 a day just to follow this guy around and record what he says. The most funny part is, the rich guy could have just used this app himself to record what he said. It's called TurboLearn, by the way, if you want to use it. But he didn't even need to hire anyone. My friend definitely ain't complaining though. I was staring at a girl on the bus because she had a piece of gum in her hair. And right as I'm about to open my mouth to tell her, she says, excuse me, I have a boyfriend. So I was like, all right, you're gonna give me attitude, I'm gonna give you attitude back. So I was like, what does your boyfriend think of your hair? And she said, why do you care? As she was running her fingers through her hair. And then she felt the piece of gum and she started crying. And I felt bad at first, but then she accused me of putting the gum there. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna mess with her. And I said, no, I didn't put the gum in your hair. Although I did see a homeless man earlier chewing on gum and he isn't anymore. And she started screaming. You may have done something stupid today, but it wasn't as stupid as what my friend did. My friend was throwing a surprise party for his girlfriend that he's been dating for 6 months. Remember that. And he invited a bunch of their friends over, but when she got there, everyone jumped out and yelled, surprise! But she was super confused. Why was she confused, you may ask? Well, you see, it turns out her birthday wasn't for another 3 months. How did my friend get her birthday that wrong, you may ask? Well, he never actually knew his girlfriend's birthday, but he thought he did. And it turns out that he mixed up his current girlfriend's birthday with his ex-girlfriend's birthday. And you know what the dumbest part was?
He told her that. Why would you even admit that? Just don't talk. Don't say anything. There's nothing you can say that will make the situation better. But hey, I still had a free slice of cake, so it was a good day for me. The one thing you should never do during a school fire drill is use the bathroom. Because one time, I left class because I had to go number 2. Yes, I went number 2 in the school bathroom, okay? I had no choice. But anyways, the fire alarm goes off as I'm there. And if you've ever been in the bathroom when that alarm sounds, you know that it is loud in there. So I'm freaking out because the teacher never told us a fire drill was happening, so I didn't know if it was real. So I'm there trying to finish as quickly as possible just in case there's actually a fire and I need to get out. So I start wiping like there's no tomorrow. But the only problem is every school uses toilet paper thinner than a celebrity on Ozempic. So I'm wiping for like 10 minutes using the whole roll until finally it was good enough. So I quickly flush the toilet and run outside to see my whole classroom lined up. So I join them, but my teacher sees me and goes, "Tyler, where were you? I just took attendance and you weren't there." "Sorry, Mrs. Slater. I was busy fighting for my life." Maybe you should get some toilet paper that doesn't make me feel like Casper the Ghost is wiping me next time. Having the same teacher your older sibling had can either be the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. Because there was 2 times where I was in this situation at school, but they played out very differently. The first time this happened, my brother must have been the best student in that class, because on the very first day, the teacher is taking attendance, but then she says my name out loud and she goes, "Wait, your last name is Vitelli?" And I say yes. Then she says, "Are you Ryan's younger brother?" So I say I am, and she was like, "That is awesome." So I felt like a Nepo baby in that class because she treated me way better than everyone else. But the second time this happened, when the teacher saw my last name, she went, "Vitelli? Is Ryan your older brother?" Then I go, "Yeah," and I asked if she knew him, but then she said, "How could I forget him?" What could my brother possibly have done in that class to get that reaction? She looked at me like my brother was the reason for her divorce. So I knew I was cooked for that class. That teacher disliked me so much, I thought about changing my last name just so that would never happen again. This is your warning to never date someone whose love language is physical touch. Because when a person has this love language, it's nonstop. If you aren't touching them for 1 second, they will think you hate them. You could be holding hands with them walking down the street and then get hit by a car and they'll still be mad at you because you let go of their hand. I remember one time I went to see a scary movie with this girl and we were holding hands, but there was a jump scare, so I flinched and accidentally yanked my hand away from her. And for the rest of the movie, I could tell she was angry at me. Like, "Sorry, I'm terrified of clowns. What do you want me to do?" A person with physical touch as their love language could literally be wearing your skin as a jacket, and that still wouldn't be enough.
Nobody talks about how hard it is to be in a friend group where everyone is indecisive. Because my friends and I rarely ever hang out, because anytime we try to, this is how the conversation goes. "Do you guys want to go somewhere tonight?" "Yeah, I'm down. What do you want to do?" "I don't know. What do you want to do?" "Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do." "Okay. Looks like we're doing nothing." But the worst part about everyone being indecisive is that I would ask my mom if I could go hang out with my friends, and she'd be like, "What are you guys gonna do?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, we haven't decided yet." Then she'd be like, "Well, who's gonna go?" And I'd say, "I don't know." Then she'd say, "How are you guys gonna hang out when you don't know where you're going or who's going?" And I just have to be like, "I have no idea, Mom. I don't know either. We may never hang out again." Never answer the phone they put in hotel rooms. Because I was staying at a hotel last week and it was really old, so I was already a little spooked. But around 1 a.m., while I'm sleeping, I get a call on the hotel phone. And I'm thinking to myself, who is calling in the middle of the night on the hotel phone? Because you can only call those if you're in the hotel. So I knew it was someone else staying there. So I pick it up, but all I hear is breathing. So I say, "Hello, is anyone there?" But no response, just breathing. So I'm spooked and I hang up the phone, then go back to bed trying not to think about it anymore. Until about 5 minutes later, I get a call again. So I pick it up and say, "Is someone pranking me or something?" And finally, I hear a voice. So I say hello again, but they don't respond, which makes me hang up. But then a couple minutes later, someone knocks on my door. So at this point, I'm shaking. And I nervously look through the peephole and guess who it is? An employee. Because right when I checked into the hotel 4 hours ago, I asked them if they could bring me extra towels, but apparently they were busy until 1 a.m. So they were finally bringing them to me, but their phone didn't work, I guess, when they were calling. So that's why they were just breathing. I'm glad that's all it was. But why are you bringing my towels in the middle of the night? Why do middle school teachers make high school sound so scary? Because when I was in middle school, one of my classmates unfortunately passed away from a sickness. And you may be like, "Tyler, what does that have to do with your teacher making high school sound scary?" Well, after this happened, there was a day in class where everyone was misbehaving. So the teacher screamed, which made everyone go quiet. Then she said, "You guys think you can act like this in high school? You can't. If you try acting like this over there, you're gonna end up like Michael." Michael was the kid who passed away, by the way. But what did she even mean by that? Was it a threat? Because it kind of sounded like a threat. So anyways, after she said this, I was absolutely terrified for high school, thinking it was gonna be like a max security prison in there. But in reality, the teachers did not care. Like, high school was so chill that I used to play Call of Duty with one of my teachers. I'm pretty sure that teacher was just trying to threaten us. If someone asks you to guess their ethnicity, don't do it. Because I just saw this pretty girl at the airport, so I started talking to her, and eventually she asked what ethnicity I was, so I told her, but then I asked what hers was, and she wanted me to guess, and she kind of looked European, so I was like, are you Italian? She says no. So then I ask if she's Spanish. She says no again. So I guess a couple more incorrect countries until it got to the point where it started to become awkward. So finally, I just asked her to tell me, and she said that she was German. But the only thing I knew about Germany was World War II. So I had the worst possible reaction to this information because I said to her, oh, Germany, nice. You guys had that 1 liter back in World War II, huh? And she just had that look on her face that was like, what did you just say? And I don't blame her because I was also thinking, what the heck did I just say? So right after that, she told me she had to get to her gate, which I knew was a lie because she said she was flying to Houston and the only plane going there wasn't leaving for another 2 hours. I don't blame her though. I would have left that conversation as soon as possible too. I need to learn more about other countries, bruh. We really need to teach our parents how to use emojis correctly because my mom was just texting me about the fires that are happening in California and I was saying how it's super sad because a lot of people lost their homes and some people even passed away. But in response to saying this, my mom sends me a message that says, yeah, apparently over 20 people have already passed away from the fire. But that wasn't the end of the message. You know what she sent right after that? 3 emojis, and it was the fire emoji, the skull emoji, and the freaky ghost emoji that sticks its tongue out. The emojis literally made it sound like she was telling a joke, and I was like, Mom, that is not the right context to use those. But then I sent the skull emoji after saying that, so she was like, why are you allowed to use the skull emoji in that text, but I can't use it in mine? And it made me realize, I was like, dang, she's right, because her situation was actually appropriate for the skull emoji while mine wasn't. But because we've changed the meaning of the emoji, it just doesn't fit there. Please teach your parents what the emojis mean. If you're on a date, never order anything green, because the other night I was at a restaurant and I saw this pretty girl a couple of tables over, so I was trying to act all nonchalant and mysterious. And to impress her, I decided to order a salad because I was hoping she would be thinking something like, ooh, who is this mysterious healthy hunk of a man? So my salad comes and I start eating it, and all of a sudden we make eye contact. So I smile at her real big, and what does she do back? She laughs. So I'm thinking, damn, I didn't even have to say anything and she's laughing already? She's definitely feeling me. Turns out that could not have been further from the truth because I was at this restaurant with my friend. So I was telling him how I think this girl likes me because she laughed at me when I smiled. But then he laughs at me too, as if there's a secret that I'm not in on. So I'm like, why are you laughing? And he responds with, how's that salad tasting? And I say, it's not bad, why? Then he says, well, it must have been pretty good since you saved some for later. And I say, okay, what are you talking about? So he tells me to go to the bathroom and smile into the mirror. So I do, and what do I see? A big piece of spinach lodged in between my 2 front teeth. The girl wasn't laughing because I was funny. She was laughing because I was funny looking. Imagine how dumb I looked trying to be all mysterious with spinach in my teeth. That's not nonchalant. That's hella chalant. So I was too embarrassed to approach her the rest of the night. But hey, at least now I have an excuse to never eat a salad again. To any girl that ever wants to know if a guy likes you, it's super easy to tell. Because my friend started liking this girl recently, but he didn't even tell me. I just figured it out on my own because of what he was doing. Because I was scrolling through social media and I saw that he posted a story, which was weird in itself because he never posts at all. But I click on it and it's a photo of a sunset with a Lana Del Rey song in the background. By the way, this guy's top artists last year were NBA Youngboy and Chief Keef. There's a 95% chance his most recent Google search was something along the lines of, is Lana Del Rey a person or a place? Do you really think someone that blasts NBA Youngboy is taking sunset pictures? Maybe. So when he posted this, I slid up on the story and said, what's her name? Then he replied saying, huh? So I asked what the name of the girl he likes was, and he goes, damn, was it that obvious? Well, considering the fact that you used to think Dua Lipa was the name of a yoga stretch, yeah, it was pretty obvious. Never get a haircut from a deaf person. Because my barber got deported recently, which means I had to find a new one. So I tried out this place I've never been to before today, and right when I walk in, all of the barbers are busy except one. So he waves in my direction, signaling for me to come over, so I do. But after I sit down, he doesn't ask what type of haircut I want or say anything at all. So I just take the initiative and start telling him the style I'm looking for. But as I'm doing that, another barber hears me and goes, oh, he can't hear you, he's deaf. First of all, he had an AirPod in. Why was he wearing that? But second of all, how am I gonna tell him the haircut I want? So the other barber says to show him a picture, so I do. But this is where I messed up, because in the picture I showed him, it was just how I wanted the sides to look, not the top. But obviously he couldn't hear me, so he thought I wanted the exact haircut from the pic. And what did that picture look like? This! I look like an egg! The whole process was a train wreck too. There was a point where he was using the razor on me, but it wasn't even on, and he couldn't notice because he didn't hear it. So honestly, this was probably all my fault. But if you have a barber like this, make sure you're specific. Why do moms just not answer you when you ask them a question? Because I've asked my mom before if I could go hang out with friends, and she would literally not respond even though she's 3 feet away. So I would ask her again, and then she would be like, I heard you the first time. Well, then why didn't you respond? Or sometimes I'll ask her a question and she'll be like, stop, I'm thinking. And I'll look at her phone and she's literally playing Candy Crush at the same time. Like, you ain't thinking, you're just straight up ignoring me. But the craziest thing was one time I was choking on a piece of sushi, so I was clapping to try to get her attention, and she literally just kept scrolling on her phone. She did not
not even move a muscle. And don't get me wrong, I have the best mother in the world, but I don't understand why moms do this. I think they're just tired of us, to be honest. This is your warning to never correct your teacher. Because I had a teacher who was pregnant. I know, shocker, teachers are always pregnant. But anyways, because of this, she was super emotional sometimes. And there was one day where you could tell she was really frustrated. So she's teaching our math class and she tries adding two numbers together, but she gets the answer wrong. So most of us students are looking at each other like, should we tell her she made a mistake? But then we all kind of silently agreed not to because we could tell she was in a bad mood. But apparently one of the students did not get the memo because he raises his hand. So the teacher calls on him and he goes, actually the answer is supposed to be 573, not 473. But you could tell this was the teacher's final straw because once he said this, the teacher put her marker down and goes, Albert, do you want to teach the class? And he responds by saying, I was just trying to help. But then she was like, let me do my job. If I made a mistake, I'll figure it out. So we all just looked at Albert like, why would you say that? Like you knew that was gonna happen. She was so angry, I thought she was gonna pop the baby out right there.
Have you ever met someone that is obsessed with their ex? Like they try to hide it, but it's so painfully obvious because I know someone that still follows his ex on all social media platforms, and every time she posts, he always says something about it. Like she has a new boyfriend, and when she posted him for the first time, my friend was like, oh, I feel so bad for that guy. He doesn't even know she's crazy yet. Like my brother, she doesn't even follow you anymore. She doesn't care about you. If she's so crazy, why do you still follow everything she does? But how I know for sure that he still likes her is that she posted a picture on her story of a song she was listening to by Ice Spice. And the next day, I'm in this man's car and tell me why he starts playing Ice Spice. You might say, that might just be a coincidence. A lot of people listen to Ice Spice. No, this man only listens to country. And last time I checked, Ice Spice is not singing about tractors. So yes, this man is obsessed. And I've tried to tell him to let it go. Like I've literally been like, bro, she does not want you. Give it up. But he will not listen. Honestly, I feel bad for him. He's delusional.
I saw a TikTok video where someone was able to run 10 miles because they just imagined someone that's trying to pinch their nipples is chasing them. So I'm gonna try it. Mile 1 done. I feel so fast. This is easy. I could run forever. Mile 2 done. This is the worst thing ever. I don't know why people do this for fun. Mile 3 done. Tell my family I love them. I don't think I'm gonna make it home. I'm still on mile 4. I'm pretty sure I am paralyzed from the waist down. I've accepted the fact that this is the spot where I will pass away. Why do people date someone who cheated on their ex to be with them and then get surprised when they also get cheated on? Like I know someone, let's call him Fred, and Fred liked this girl, and even though this girl was in a relationship with someone else, she would still give Fred attention. That's the first red flag, but eventually she cheated on her boyfriend with Fred and then they started dating. So they're in love for a couple of months, but then Fred finds out that she cheated on him too. He tells me this crying and he's like, I can't believe she cheated on me. Really? I can. But he's super sad, so I have to pretend to be shocked, and I'm like, what? You mean the girl that cheated in her last relationship with you cheated again? Who could have saw this coming? Stevie Wonder could have saw that coming. To be honest, I don't feel bad for him though. He was partially responsible for ruining the other guy's relationship, and he was delusional enough to think that the same thing would have happened to him.
My barber got deported a couple weeks ago, so I'm trying a new one for the first time, and I'm kind of nervous. I hope he does a good job. Since old people in nursing homes like to listen to music from their generation like this, does that mean that when our generation is in nursing homes, we're gonna be like,
Cassie, I'm so happy you guys found love. And the best part is, you get to spend Valentine's Day with each other and not alone. Like some of us. When will it be my turn?
oh, you think you're a picky eater? Well, I just went to a restaurant that I've never been to before yesterday that served American food. So I just assumed they would have chicken tenders on their menu because that's what I wanted. But after looking through the whole menu, I didn't see them. So I asked the waitress if they had chicken tenders and she said yes, but only on the kids menu. But the kids menu is only for ages 12 and under. And obviously, I don't look under 12 years old. I hope. But that was really the only thing that looked good on the menu. So when the waitress came to take our order, I just told her I wasn't gonna be getting anything except for a water. But then I asked if I could order chicken tenders for my nephew that was on his way. Did I actually have a nephew coming? Of course not. But she ain't getting paid enough to care. So when the chicken tenders came out, I ate them. Can we please just put chicken tenders on the normal menu? Adults like them too. If you ever see someone sleepwalking, do not wake them up. Because I was sleeping over at someone's house for the first time once, and they warned me before we went to bed that they have a history of sleepwalking. So I was like, all right, is there anything I should do about it? And he was like, no, it's usually fine. I just wanted to let you know so you don't get scared. So I figured this would be no big deal until later that night. I'm sleeping, but then I hear a loud noise come from the kitchen. So I go to investigate it, and I see my friend holding a fork in his hand. And I know he told me not to wake him up, but he kept waving the fork around, and I didn't want him to get hurt, so I tapped him a couple times. But nothing happened until I yelled out his name, and he quickly opened his eyes. But literally the moment he did that, he tried swinging at me with the fork. I asked him why he did that, but when he was finally fully awake, he was like, I don't even remember doing that. But then we looked into it, and apparently when you wake people up after they're sleepwalking, they get really aggressive. So don't try it. Rich people trying to be relatable is so funny because I had a friend growing up that was super wealthy. Like anything he wanted to buy, he would get. But everyone else in our friend group was just normal kids that had like 14 cents in their bank account. So he would try his best to act as if he had the same problems we had. Like one time, we all really wanted to go to a Lakers game, so we looked up the price of tickets and it was like $50. So all of us were like, dang, we're never gonna be able to go because we genuinely couldn't afford that. We didn't have jobs, we just played Fortnite 18 hours a day back then. But what was funny about the situation is when we found out the price, my rich friend was the one who acted the most upset out of all of us. He was literally like, dude, 50 bucks? That's insane. How does anyone afford to go to these games? Then one of our friends went, can't you like easily afford that? And he goes, yeah, I can. I was just trying not to rub it in your guys' faces. Hey, I appreciate the effort, man.
Have you ever met a friend group that uses code names to talk about people at school? Because I didn't know this was even a thing until one time I was in class and I was eating M&Ms. And this girl I sat next to asked if she could take a picture of me holding them. So I was like, why? Then she started laughing and she said she couldn't tell me. But eventually, I got her to admit what was happening. And apparently, her and the rest of her friend group had code names for every guy at school. And I guess mine was M&M's. But I still didn't understand, so I was like, is it because I'm shaped like one? But she said, no, it's just our way of communicating without anyone knowing who we're talking about. Then she started naming a bunch of other guys at our school and the nicknames they had, and that's when I realized they were all candies. I'm just glad I wasn't the guy who got the nickname Candy Corn. They must have not liked him.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but some people need to put their pets down already. Like I knew someone with an 18-year-old dog that was blind and deaf, so he would just sit there all day doing nothing. But when he would move around, he would just walk straight into the wall. And I saw this happen one time and the owner could tell that I was concerned. So they were like, oh, don't worry. He does this all the time. You think that makes me feel better? Now I know the dog is deaf, blind, and probably has CTE from banging his head against the wall. Also, he couldn't bark because he had throat cancer and the doctor had to cut out his vocal cords, which makes it even worse because you know if he could still speak, he would be barking, begging for the owner to put him down. Like that dog don't want to be here anymore, you know it, but you still force him to be. Just let Fido rest already. Never teach little kids new words because my friend's little brother watches my content and the other day he asked me what Diddy means. So I told him who it is and that if he ever sees him, he should run because he's Diddy's target audience. But after I taught him about this, his mom got home a couple minutes later and literally right when she arrived, he just ran around the house going, Diddy, Diddy, Diddy. And obviously, he never said that word before I arrived, so his mom knew I taught it to him. She asked why I did that, so I was like, I don't know, he just asked. I didn't think it would become his new favorite word, but then she was like, oh, every time he learns a new word, it's all he says. The other week, his older brother taught him the word freak off, which I still don't know what that means, but for the next 3 days, he kept asking everyone if they wanted to have one. So I learned my lesson. Nobody talks about how dangerous it is to take an after-school nap. Because you always think it's just gonna be a quick 30 minutes, but then all of a sudden, you wake up and it's 3 a.m. I literally had to stop myself from taking these naps because one time, I went to go for a nap after school and my whole family was home. But when I woke up, all the lights were off and it was completely silent. So I was like, okay, looks like I just entered the void. But then I got up and started walking around the house and that's when I realized no one was home. And it was also nighttime outside. So I texted my parents to see where everyone was at. And you know where they were? At dinner without me. So I asked them why they didn't wake me up to go eat, but they were like, we tried. We literally shook you telling you to wake up, but you refused. So we just figured you wanted to sleep more. I don't even remember them doing that though. So I don't know what they put in those after school naps, but it makes it impossible to wake up. I went to school with a foreign exchange student who didn't speak any English, but he really wanted to learn it. So he would ask us to teach him words. And we would, but there was one kid who just loved to troll people. So he would purposely teach the foreign exchange student words in English, but lie about what they meant. Like he told him the word poop meant to eat. So when this poor kid was at lunch, he'd see our food and be like, what are you pooping? Instead of saying, what are you eating? But the worst part is, no one ever corrected it. I'm pretty sure he's still out there asking what people are pooping. Akira, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, bro. Does anyone else have a friend you only call by their nickname? Like it almost feels wrong to even say their actual name. Cause I had a friend who everyone referred to as Beans. Cause for some reason, that was all this man ate. That's not even an exaggeration either because he would literally cook beans in the morning and bring them in a thermos and that would be his lunch. Nothing else. Just Beans. So that's what we'd call him. But since we never used his real name, there was one day where he didn't come to school and I had a class with him. So when he didn't show up, the teacher who knew I was friends with him said, you have any idea why Evan isn't here? And I was like, who? Then she goes, Evan, you guys are always talking to each other. But for about 5 seconds, I had no idea who she was talking about. I didn't know an Evan until she pointed to where Beans usually sat. So then I was like, oh, you're talking about my boy Beans. His first name is Evan, huh? When I was younger, me and my classmates got our first day of school ruined because these older guys did a drive-by on us. And what I mean by that is 2 guys drove around in their car with megaphones and yelled, Santa's not real, Santa's not real. You would have thought that the school just got bombed because everyone was crying. The worst part, these guys were lying. Santa is real. He is.
He is 100% real. They were lying. They were lying, okay?
Never fall asleep with AirPods in, because the other night I was listening to a true crime podcast before bed because it calms me down. And normally I just take my AirPods out when I want to start sleeping, but I had a really long day and I ended up falling asleep with them in, which I didn't think was a big deal. But I was wrong, because the podcast I was listening to was about a guy who would crawl through people's windows to get his victims. So I don't know if my brain was still listening to the story while I was sleeping, but in the middle of the night, I thought I heard a noise that woke me up. So I look around my room and I see this man that the podcast was describing climbing through my window. So I start freaking out, accepting that I'm about to meet my demise, but right before he could get to me, I woke up. So from now on, I'm just gonna listen to podcasts about things that I actually want to have dreams of. Like LeBron. Gen Z being parents is so hilarious because we're not gonna be able to help our kids with anything. Like if my kid doesn't know how to do their math homework and they ask me for help, what am I gonna do? I stopped understanding that stuff when they added letters to it. ChatGPT better be real good by the time I have kids in school, or else we're both gonna be crying. We might not even be able to help them with learning how to spell because we don't know how to either. Have you seen a TikTok comment section recently? Every word is abbreviated. Like, why did we start abbreviating the word this? It's already one syllable. And then my kid's gonna be complaining about how much school sucks and that he doesn't wanna go. And instead of just consoling him, telling him that it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna start crying too and be like, I know, right? School is awful. It's why I started embarrassing myself on the internet instead. Have you ever looked at the first question of a test and realized you're cooked? Like you literally just give up right away after reading it. I was taking a test once in chemistry, which was by far my worst subject throughout all of school. It was like those tests were in Mandarin. But I was super nervous for this one specific test because my grade was already pretty bad. So I knew I couldn't afford to keep shooting air balls on all these exams. But then the teacher hands it out and immediately I only understood like 2 words on the first question. Okay, no big deal. Let's just skip that one and go to question 2. But no, can't do that because you know what question 2 says? Based off your answer to question 1, solve this problem. When I read that, I put my pencil down, tipped my cap to my teacher, and quit. I knew it was over. It was kind of nice though because all the stress and anxiety from the test was gone. And now, it was just pure acceptance that I was absolutely cooked. Gen Z is the most unserious generation ever because I just saw body cam footage from a cop who was arresting this girl that looked about my age because she was driving without a license. So he asked her to step out of the car. And I don't know if the girl just didn't care about getting in trouble or what, because the cop went to put handcuffs around her and she said, ooh, getting handcuffs put on me is one of my kinks. And you could tell that made the officer so uncomfortable because then she went, can you put them on tighter? And he was like, no, I don't think I will. So he said, you do realize you're going to jail for this, right? And she responds with, yeah, I didn't want to show up to work tomorrow anyway, so you're actually doing me a favor. The cop almost sounded like he didn't even want to arrest her anymore because of how much she was enjoying it. So if I ever get arrested, I'm just gonna try doing what she did. Probably won't work the same because I don't think a 40-year-old male cop will find me as attractive as her, but hey, it's worth a shot.
Have you ever been in a conversation with someone where they say something sad but like kind of funny, and then you just respond with the most insane facial expression ever, and then think, I should not have made that face out loud? Because I was talking to someone and they were telling me how their grandma passed away from falling off a jet ski at 84 years old. And I kid you not, this was my reaction. I did that face for like a second and then I stopped because I was like, that is the most out-of-pocket reaction I could have just had to what she said. I think I just have like no social awareness at all.
Gen Z is starting to become pilots, and it is so scary because I had a flight the other day, but as I was waiting to board the plane, I was talking to this guy that was wearing a suit, so I just assumed he was a flight attendant on my flight because he looks pretty young, and eventually he goes to board the plane with all the other people working on it. But then later when it's my turn to get on, I walk inside the plane, look in the cockpit, and who do I see? The guy I was talking to in the pilot seat. But oh, Tyler, who cares if the pilot's young as long as he's qualified? I agree. But when we were talking to each other before boarding, he was telling me about how he has ADHD. This man just told me he struggles to focus for long periods of time, but now I'm supposed to trust him to focus going all the way from Dallas to Los Angeles? But what's even crazier is, he had AirPods in while we were waiting to board, and I could hear him listening to Chief Keef. I thought this man was gonna try to do a barrel roll if that's what he's listening to while flying. He ended up doing a great job though.
I just ran over my hamster. I'll show it to you in a second, but it died yesterday and I put it in a box because I was gonna go bury it today. And for some reason I put this stupid box on top of my car. So when I drove away, I ran over the box. I'm so sorry, Alfred. You didn't deserve this.
Growing up ugly is so much better than growing up good looking because when you're ugly, it forces you to have a personality. Because if you're ugly and don't have a personality, you ain't gonna have any friends. And I know this because when I was younger, I was not handsome. My long lost twin was Quasimodo, so the ladies were not flocking to me to say the least. And the only way for me to make friends was to be funny. So naturally, I was forced to work on my personality just to get people to like me. Didn't work that great because I still don't get any girls. But now I'm so glad I had to grow up like that because I've talked to some people before that are gorgeous. But you can tell they never had to form a personality for people to like them, so they didn't. And I don't even blame them. If I could have just sat there mogging everyone all day looking like this, I would have done the same thing. Instead, I was born looking like baby Spencer from iCarly. When I have kids, I'm gonna be so dramatic describing what COVID was like to them. I'm literally gonna make it sound like I lived through an apocalypse, because just the other day, I was talking to my friend's little brother who's maybe 6 years old. So he doesn't really have any memory of COVID, but we were talking about that time. And I'm not kidding when I tell you, I made it sound like a horror movie. I was like, people were passing away left and right. We were locked in our houses for days, weeks, months. But the most funny part was when I said to him, you couldn't even buy toilet paper. Because then he was like, well, what'd you use instead? And I just said, anything we could find. Napkins, towels, pets. I was being as dramatic as possible. Meanwhile, all I actually did during the pandemic was clock 9 hours a day on Fortnite. I even missed that era sometimes, but I'm never gonna let the future generations know that.
Nobody talks about how scary it is to do a school presentation in a class you have friends with, because they will do literally everything in their power to make sure you laugh while presenting. So you have to force yourself to not make eye contact, or else they're gonna be staring at you with the most ridiculous face ever. But then even if you do somehow manage to get through the whole thing without looking at them, it's not over. Because whenever I would do presentations in school, after we finished, the teacher would ask the class if they had any questions, and normally no one would ask anything. Except for when me and my friends presented. Because my friends knew I just copy and pasted my whole project from the internet and I didn't actually know anything about the subject. So they would ask a bunch of questions about my presentation that I didn't know the answer to. But I do it right back to them when they presented. So we would just both end up with awful grades. I hope it was worth it.
If you're in an Uber and the driver starts talking to you, be careful. Because I was in one the other day with my friend, and we like to do this thing where we pretend to be bilingual. So we'll just speak in gibberish and act as if it's a different language. So that's what we did in the Uber, but this driver was really friendly and social. So he asked what language we were speaking, and I just said the first one to pop in my head, which was Portuguese. But that was literally the worst language I could have said, because immediately he responds by asking us a question in Portuguese. He actually knew how to speak it. Obviously, we didn't know how to respond because we didn't really speak the language. So we start panicking and I'm like, do I just pretend to be deaf? But then I said, to be honest, dude, I have no idea what you just said. We don't actually speak Portuguese. I don't know why we made that up. And he just goes, oh. And not one word was said the rest of the ride. We really need to stop teaching old people brain rot, because I was at a restaurant the other day, but at the table in front of me, there was a family with 2 kids who were anywhere from 10 to 12 years old. But they were pretty loud, so I could hear the conversations they were having with their parents. And all I can say is, I feel so bad for them. They were teaching them brain rot like how a parent teaches their kid the alphabet. One of the kids was literally like, Dad, say hawk, hawk. Now say Tua, Tua. Now put it all together. Hawk, Tua, hawk, Tua. Then the kids would just start laughing. But that wasn't all, because when the food arrived, one of the kids stole a couple fries from his parents. So his dad was like, hey, don't take my fries, you have your own. But the little kid responded by saying, this is your phantom tax. And you could tell the dad didn't even want to bother learning that phrase, because instead of asking what it meant, he just started eating his own meal while shaking his head in confusion. These older generations must feel so lost. Oh, you think your parents are bad with technology? Well, my mom recently told me she thought her phone was broken. But when I asked what was wrong with it, she said she couldn't receive any text messages or phone calls, which was weird because it was brand new. So she was like, yeah, I think the phone company just gave me one that doesn't work. I'm gonna go return it and get a new one. So I was like, wait, before you do that, let me see if I can help with the problem. So she gave me her phone and I texted it to see if it was really having the problem she said, and it did. So then I tried figuring out why this was happening, and literally within 10 seconds, I found out her phone wasn't broken. She just had do not disturb on. I turned it off, and what do you know? All of a sudden, she was getting text messages and phone calls again. But there's no better feeling than fixing technology for old people. All you do is press one button and they think you're the next Einstein.
Does anyone else have a friend that has no social anxiety? Like, I literally question whether these types of people are real humans or not, because one time my friend went to the dentist, and when he was done, he was telling me about how he had a really big crush on the dentist, but he swore she liked him back. So I was like, what makes you think that? And he said it was because they were holding eye contact with each other for a long time. But then I went, wait, how are you making eye contact with the dentist while she's working on your teeth? And he just says, oh, because when she was leaning over me flossing my teeth, I would just stare into her eyes. So I was like, hold up. You were staring at the dentist's eyes while she was working on your teeth? That is literally like the one thing you shouldn't do when you're at the dentist. Everyone knows that the #1 rule is that you stare at the ceiling while the dentist is working on you. But he just thought that was a completely normal thing to do. He somehow doesn't overthink anything.
Did I just fail the most important test of my life 10 minutes ago? Yeah, but hey, at least all the stress and anxiety leading up to it is gone now.
Having a best friend is so scary because no matter what happens, you have to stay homies forever since they know all your secrets. Like, forget your friend's group chat getting leaked. A best friend breakup would be 10 times worse. Because there were these people I knew who were best friends. Like, they did everything together. But one of them had a girlfriend, and that girl ended up cheating on the guy with his best friend. So obviously, they weren't friends anymore after he did him dirty. But like I said, they were super close, and apparently they shared an Amazon account to save money. But after this happened, the friend that got cheated on was super mad and wanted to get revenge. So he decided to go on an Amazon shopping spree buying thousands of dollars worth of stuff. But he didn't use his credit card, no. He used his ex-homies. This could never happen to me though, because the moment they try buying that stuff, my card's getting declined. I hate texting for one reason, which is the fact that no one actually means what they say when they're texting. Like my friend was showing me a video on his phone one time, but while he was doing this, someone sent him a funny video, so he was like, wait, let me respond to this real quick. So he took the phone and texted them back in all caps saying, ha 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 ha, I'm screaming, rolling on the ground right now. But you know how he looked when he was typing that out? Like this. Ha ha ha, I'm screaming, crying on the ground right now. No, you ain't. You ain't even smiling. You're texting that person back, making them think they just sent you the most hilarious video you've ever seen. When in reality, you've laughed harder when someone makes a fart noise. I can't even lie, I'm guilty of doing this too. So now whenever someone responds to a text I send like that, I just assume they didn't even find it remotely funny. Does anyone else have a person in their friend group that just gets bullied for no reason? Like even if they aren't doing anything wrong, they're just the group's punching bag. Because me and my friends were getting in a heated argument one time about whether it's better to watch a show in a different language dubbed or with subtitles. And it got to the point where we were yelling, but then my poor friend who gets bullied for no reason, who wasn't even a part of the argument, coughed because he was eating a chip and it went down the wrong pipe. But this just made everyone in the group more mad than they already were. So they were like, shut up, Derek, you're not a part of this argument. Meanwhile, Derek is just sitting there fighting for his life while a chip is going round for round with his esophagus. He couldn't even defend himself either because he was practically choking. We need justice for all the Dereks in the friend group out there.
I made a video talking about how a bunch of people were screenshotting my face when I looked really ugly and making it their profile picture, but after I posted that, everyone in the comments on that video did the same thing. Except now, they're editing my face to make me look even more ugly. So now, I'm just gonna wear a hat and not show any emotion in my videos to make sure there is no way you can get an ugly screenshot of me. Checkmate.
Does anyone else have a person in their friend group that just gets bullied for no reason? Like even if they aren't doing anything wrong, they're just the group's punching bag. Because me and my friends were getting in a heated argument one time about whether it's better to watch a show in a different language dubbed or with subtitles. And it got to the point where we were yelling, but then my poor friend who gets bullied for no reason, who wasn't even a part of the argument, coughed because he was eating a chip and it went down the wrong pipe. But this just made everyone in the group more mad than they already were. So they were like, shut up, Derek, you're not a part of this argument. Meanwhile, Derek is just sitting there fighting for his life while a chip is going round for round with his esophagus. He couldn't even defend himself either because he was practically choking. We need justice for all the Dereks in the friend group out there.
Does anyone else have a friend you can't be in a serious situation with? Like someone could have just passed away and they're still gonna make a joke about it or laugh. Because unfortunately, I'm like this. And one time, my friend was crying, so I asked him what was wrong. But before he was even able to tell me, I started laughing. I just couldn't hold it in, but I got it under control after a couple seconds. And finally, that was when he told me his parents were getting a divorce. And obviously, this is like the worst news you can get as a kid. So I didn't think it was funny at all. But for some reason, I just could not stop myself from laughing. This is how the interaction went.
Yeah, man, my parents are getting a divorce.
Sorry, man, I got a cough. That's horrible, bro. I'm here for you. I can't control it. I'm not trying to laugh. I think I just don't know how to act in awkward situations, so my brain's reaction is to laugh. If there's a cure for this, please let me know.
If you're in a group chat with your friends, just know that there's also a second group chat with only the core members of the group in it. And if you don't think that's true, it's because you're not in it. And I had to learn this the hard way because a couple of years ago, I had a group chat with my friends, and one day they posted a picture at an amusement park. So I was like, damn, I couldn't get an invite. But one of my friends who must have just not been thinking said, what are you talking about? We planned this in the group chat a couple days ago. Everyone was invited. But I scrolled through the previous text to make sure I wasn't developing Alzheimer's, and sure enough, I was right. They never mentioned anything about going to an amusement park. Then I found out it was because that text was only sent to a separate group chat. This is how it always goes for me though. I'm a part of a lot of friend groups, but I'm never a core member in any of them. It's kind of depressing. I just found out that some people I used to go to school with thought that I've been dead for years. Because I was at the store and I saw one of my friends from my old school. But when we made eye contact, he looked so surprised to see me. So I said what's up to him. And he told me he thought I passed away a while back. So I was like, huh? What made you think that? But then he explained it to me and it all made sense because when I was younger, I randomly switched schools one day, but I didn't tell any of the people at my current school that this was happening. So one day, all of a sudden, I just wasn't there anymore. So my classmates thought I passed away. But then I said to him, that's kind of extreme to assume I just passed away because I stopped showing up, isn't it? But then he was like, well, yeah, but the last couple days you were at school, you were saying how you felt really sick. So we just assumed you caught some disease and passed away. Now I kind of want to just go find my old classmates in public and stare at them as if I was a ghost.
I think I accidentally joined a gang because I made a video the other day where I did this sign because I thought it meant okay. But after I uploaded it, I got a DM that said, yo, be careful with those hand signs you're doing in your videos. So I responded back asking what he meant. And this is where I started to get scared because he told me that sign, which I probably shouldn't have done again now that I think about it. But anyways, he said it's a sign for a dangerous gang. But he didn't stop there because then I asked if I was in any danger for doing this sign. And he was like, nah, probably not. The gang is only in Los Angeles. So as long as you're not there, you should be good. That's great. But brother, I live in Los Angeles. If anyone in any gang sees this, I mean no harm. I ain't like that.
Growing up is so crazy because my friend just got engaged, and when he broke the news to me, he said he wanted to thank me for making this happen. But I was like, what are you talking about? I wasn't like the one to introduce you guys to each other or anything. But then he said, no, you made it happen for a different reason. And then he asked me if I remembered when him and his future wife first started going out. And I was like, yeah, why? Then he goes, well, you were the one telling me what to say in those text messages to her when I wanted to ask her out. So then it hit me, and I remembered that when they first started talking, he would be super nervous around her and not know what to say because of how much he liked her. So I would just type the messages on his phone and send them, which eventually led to them dating. When he told me this, I was so happy, but at the same time, how did I help someone else get married before I could even get a girlfriend? When will it be my turn? Never go to the chiropractor if you get embarrassed easily, because I've been having back problems lately, so my friend was like, hey, you should try going to the chiropractor. And he gave me the number of the one he goes to, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I regret saying that because I show up, and this guy is like super friendly, like over friendly. And he tells me to lay down on the table, so I do. And he starts rubbing his elbow on my back real hard. And it's kind of hard to breathe when he does this. By the way, I had Chipotle before I came here, which is an important detail. Because the chiropractor would do this thing where he would be like, okay, take a deep breath. And I would. And then he would tell me to exhale. And he would push on my back really hard. But I was not aware just how much force he was going to put into my back when he did this. So I exhaled and he pushed into my back. And I let out the loudest fart ever. It was like the fart was being shot out of a cannon with how aggressive it sounded. But I think I almost blew my shorts off. And the chiropractor chuckled a little bit. But then he was like, oh, don't worry, this happens all the time. But then he starts coughing, and I'm like, damn, did I just gas this guy out with the fumes from my fart? So he finishes adjusting my back, but then he's like, do you want me to adjust your neck too? And I almost said yes, but then I thought about it, and I was like, is he just asking this so he can snap my neck for revenge? So I said, no, thank you, and I left. But I'm just gonna suffer through the back pain from now on. I'm not going back. Why do people who can't wake up to alarms have the most obnoxious ones? Because I almost hit my brother with a frying pan last night because he went to bed 2 hours before me, and this guy cannot wake up to an alarm no matter what. But he had 20 alarms set for 6 a.m. So when 6 a.m. came around, guess who woke up? Not him. He just sleeps through it the whole time. And you know what the worst part is? This is his ringtone. Why would you choose that one? Every time it goes off, I think we're getting a tsunami warning in the middle of the night. And somehow, he sleeps right through it every time. I'm gonna throw his phone out the window next time. Matter of fact, I could throw him out the window. He still wouldn't wake up. Have you ever noticed how different guys' hear me outs are versus girls? Because for guys, it's usually pretty boring. They'll say Sabrina Carpenter is their hear me out, and you'll be like, dude, do you even know what hear me out means? Because that is literally like the most common celebrity crush. We're not bold at all for our hear me outs. But for girls, it's the complete opposite. Girls will have things that you never would have even thought of as their hear me out. And I say things because it's not always even something that's living. Like, what do you mean the Pythagorean theorem is your hear me out? I tried so hard to understand that one, but I just couldn't get it. Maybe it's because I always sucked at math. But then when they actually do choose someone that is living, it's something bodacious. Like I saw a video where this girl said her hear me out was Thomas the Train. I don't even want to know what was going on in your head watching that show as a child. Good for my boy Thomas though. Having a girl best friend is not for the weak because I dislocated my kneecap a while ago and I was super sad because this meant I was gonna miss my baseball season. So I came to school the next day and this girl that was my friend asked me why I was wearing a leg brace. So I was like, oh, I hurt my knee playing basketball. And I said it in a really sad tone like that. And she responds by saying, oh, period. So then I go, what? Then she goes, period. You don't know what period means? And I'm like, no, I do. I think. I just don't understand how that's the word you say as a reaction to my kneecap falling off. Like imagine you see someone crying and you ask them what's wrong and they say, my grandma just passed away. And you respond by saying, slay. That's what this felt like. But it was my fault for getting upset because what I didn't realize at the time is when girls use words like this, it can mean many different things. It just depends on the situation. So if something bad happens to you, like a relative passing away and a girl says, period, just know that she's trying to be supportive.
I made a video talking about how a bunch of people were screenshotting my face when I looked really ugly and making it their profile picture, but after I posted that, everyone in the comments on that video did the same thing. Except now, they're editing my face to make me look even more ugly. So now, I'm just gonna wear a hat and not show any emotion in my videos to make sure there is no way you can get an ugly screenshot of me. Checkmate.
Have you ever been hanging out with your friend and their mom uses you as an example of how they should act? Like there's no better feeling than that, but it's also scary because you'll just be standing there and she'll be like, Jimmy, why can't you be more like Tyler? He's always so respectful and hardworking. And you can tell Jimmy is about to tell his mom the most preposterous, vile thing you've ever done in your life just to make himself not look as bad. Like my friend's mom said this to him once because he failed a test and I did really good on it. But I made a mistake because I was egging him on and I was like, yeah, dude, why aren't you more like me, huh? So this made him angry and he was like, Mom, the only reason Tyler did good on the test was because he cheated off the smart kid. But when he told her that, she snitched to my mom about what I did. And then I ended up getting in trouble and my mom was lecturing me about how I should be more like my friend because he actually studied instead of cheating. I guess none of the kids are behaving.
Do people actually have foot fetishes? Because someone DM'd me and they said, how much for feet pics? And I thought they were just kidding at first, so I replied back joking too, and I said, I charge per toe. But then they sent me $10 and they said, okay, now you know I'm serious, so how much do you charge per toe? I didn't reply for like a day, and I thought it would just end there, but he kept spamming me and he said, how much do you charge per toe? And I said, wait, are you actually serious? And he said, yeah, I have a foot fetish. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna say a huge dollar amount so that he says no, and then he stops asking me for feet pics. So I said, $500 for feet pics. But he said, okay. So then I had to think for a second. I was like, wait, should I actually send him feet pics if he's gonna give me $500? But I didn't do it because it felt too weird. But I never knew people actually had foot fetishes. I thought it was a joke the whole time. Like, send feet pics? I didn't know that was real. But like, what would you do? Is this weird or am I tripping? Like, should I send the pics? I could use the money. I'm not gonna lie.
I made a video the other day showing off my bad haircut, and a bunch of people in the comments screenshotted my face when I looked really ugly and made it their profile picture. So from now on, I'm just gonna talk like this so you can't get an embarrassing screenshot of me. Ha ha.
There is nothing more embarrassing than when you accidentally keep making eye contact with the same person. Because every time this happens, they think you're flirting with them. One time I was at the mall waiting in line to get a corn dog, and within maybe 30 seconds, I made eye contact with the same girl 7 times, completely on accident. So she started smiling at me, and I could tell she thought I was flirting with her. So after I got my corn dog, she started walking over towards me, but I got scared because I was not trying to flirt. So I just walked in the opposite direction, but she followed me waiting for me to stop so she could approach me. And it felt like I was in a police chase trying to evade the cops. I was weaving through people just trying to disappear until eventually I was able to get to the parking lot and leave. Nothing against the girl, I'm sure she was sweet, but that was not the message I was trying to send. It was an accident, I'm sorry.
There is nothing more embarrassing than how fast someone can get on my best friends list. Like, I just added this girl from school on Snapchat because she wanted me to send her the answers to our homework. But literally after I sent one picture, she was number 2 on my best friends list. But the worst part is, you know who's number 1? My AI bot! I need friends.
The difference between visiting your mom's side of the family versus your dad's is so crazy. Because when I visit my mom's side, it's like a party. Like, we spend every holiday with them, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. And I'd always look forward to it because we're super close. But for my dad's side of the family, it's like a whole different world. I barely even know anyone on that side. I could literally walk down the street and see 5 people from my dad's side of the family that I'm related to, and I wouldn't recognize them. I'm not even exaggerating because one time I went to a wedding for someone on my dad's side of the family, and the whole time, my dad just kept introducing me to people, and I would be like, wait, Dad, who's this? Oh, that's your uncle. My uncle? You have a brother? Why did I not know that? To be honest, I don't even really know who the wedding was for either. I'm just glad I got free cake.
If you're ever thinking about looking up your teacher on social media, don't do it. Because a couple years ago during school, I had a teacher that everyone was terrified of. He was super strict, never smiled, and he always smelled like lavender for some reason. But anyways, one day my friend asked me what I think our teacher does when he's not teaching because we could not imagine this guy outside of the classroom. So I was like, I don't know. Let's try looking him up on social media. So we typed in his name, and right away, we found his profile. But we were traumatized because apparently outside of school, he had a hobby of drawing. And you may say, well, Tyler, what's the problem with that? Nothing, except for the fact that every single drawing of his was just girls with really big melons. Every single one. All his posts were just drawings of girls that were shaped like Mewtwo. And listen, I ain't judging, but you might want to make that profile private, Teach. I just got bullied by a vegan lady because I was eating at Chipotle and there was a girl sitting at the table next to me who had a dog with her. So I'm just enjoying my meal like usual, but then I accidentally drop a piece of chicken from my bowl onto the ground. And I didn't even notice I did this at first until this lady aggressively tapped on my shoulder. So I turned to her and said, hello? Then she goes, can you please stop trying to feed my dog? So I say, what are you talking about? Then she goes, I saw you drop chicken on the ground for my dog to eat. But I was like, ma'am, if I dropped any food on the ground, I promise it was an accident. I'm not trying to feed your dog. But she wasn't happy with that answer because she said, I don't care why you dropped food on the ground. Just don't do it again. My dog is vegan. Did you just say your dog is vegan? Did he tell you that? Or now I kind of actually wanted to drop some chicken on the ground to help the poor guy out. Are vegan dogs like actually a thing?
Does anyone else have a friend that never responds to any of the videos they send them? It's literally like you're trying to converse with a brick wall because they just refuse to say anything. You could have just watched the most funny video ever and you're thinking, oh man, my friend would love this. And you send it to them and it's just crickets. Like, you can't at least give me a little laughing emoji to make me feel good? And the worst part is, I know he doesn't even watch them because I've sent him a video before that said, send this video to your friend. And if they don't respond with the skull emoji, they don't watch the videos you send them. And you know what happened when I sent him that video? Nothing. The crazy part is, I still send him videos every day knowing that he's not gonna respond because I'm just hoping that one day he'll actually watch the video and respond with something like a laughing emoji. When that happens, it'll make all the videos that I've sent him that he ignored worth it. It's never gonna happen.
If there's one person you should never be friends with, it's someone who has creative insults because you can never argue with them. If you do, they're just gonna roast you in the most unimaginable way ever. I have a friend who's like this, and there was a time where he got a really bad haircut. And rule number one about being friends with someone is that if they get a bad haircut, you have to cook them for it. So I did, but I immediately regretted it because after I did it, he makes eye contact with me, and without saying anything, he looks me up and down. So I knew I was about to get cooked like some barbecue chicken already. But then he goes, I find it really interesting that you're trying to make fun of my appearance when you look like a character in a zombie movie that just got bit but is trying to hide it from the rest of the group. I couldn't even understand what that meant at first. So as I was thinking about it, I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. Oh, now I get it. Damn, he's right. Congrats, man, you win, okay? Just leave me alone. If your friend has a job, do not show up there while they're working. Because my friend used to work at Subway, and I was super bored one day. So being the good friend I am, I decided to visit him while he was working and mess with him. But I didn't realize what the consequences of doing this would be, because when I got there, he asked what I wanted to order, so I told him I wanted a sandwich with olives. But every time he would add olives, I would ask him to put more and more and more until there was like a pound of olives on the sandwich. And every time he would do what I said, I would be like, good boy. But after I finished my order and left, he sent me a picture about an hour later of a paper inside Subway with my face on it saying, this person is not allowed inside this establishment. He got me banned from Subway. Can a man not order an olive sandwich in peace anymore?
To anyone that's ever wondered why girls all go to the bathroom together, I think I figured it out. Because the other day, I was at a restaurant, but I had to go number 2 really bad. So I quickly ran into the bathroom and went into a stall, but when I was on the toilet, I heard a group of people walk in, and I didn't think anything of it at first until I heard them speak. Because they sounded a lot like girls, so I looked under the stall, and that's when I realized I ran into the women's restroom instead of the men's. So I just stayed as quiet as possible, hoping that no one would notice me. But while I was in there, I heard this sound go off like 100 times. And the flash was going off like every second in there. It felt like a club. So I realized this group of girls was having a full-on photo shoot in the bathroom. But the worst part was I was waiting till they left to get out of the stall because I didn't want them to see me in the women's restroom. But they stayed in there for so long taking pictures that I just had to sit in the stall for like an hour. Okay, it wasn't that long, but it felt like it. I'm not even joking, I almost fell in the toilet. I'm still sore from sitting on that thing so long.
I got a DM yesterday asking why I'm lying about being American, so I replied to it saying, what are you talking about? I am American. But then they said, no, you clearly aren't. So I asked what makes them think that, and then they said I don't have an American accent. But I didn't even know what that meant, so I asked them what they thought an American accent sounded like, and they sent me a video of someone from New York. They thought since New York is in America and people over there talk differently, everyone in America talks like that. To all the non-Americans out there, trust me, most of us don't talk like we're in the Godfather movie.
Have you ever had a friend that will defend you even when they know you're in the wrong? Like you could have done the most diabolical thing ever and they would still find a way to justify it just because you guys are homies. A perfect example of this is when I got punched in the face and my friend saw my black eye. So he was like, bro, what happened? And I told him another dude punched me. Then he said, no, we can't stand for that. Let's go teach him a lesson right now. But then he asked why I got punched and I was like, oh, because I threw my applesauce at him during lunch. And he goes, oh, like as a joke, right? No, he was talking to the girl I liked, so I threw my applesauce at his face as hard as I could. Okay, well still, applesauce doesn't hurt, so he shouldn't have responded by punching you. Oh no, he only punched me because after I threw my applesauce, I then went up to him and punched him first. He's just a better puncher than me, clearly. Okay, well that's what he deserves. Listen, I'm definitely not proud of my actions I did as a 7th grader, but still, everyone needs a homie like this.
Why do guys always take on the personality of their girlfriend? Because I have a friend who just got in his very first relationship, and he's clearly madly in love. Good for him. But the only problem is, I texted him the other day showing him a picture of a new jacket that I got, and his response was, it's giving Hunger Games. First of all, ow, that hurts my feelings. Second of all, it's giving? When did you start saying that? I don't even think you knew what that phrase meant 3 months ago. Also, when he said this, I still hadn't met his girlfriend at the time. So about a week later, we all go to lunch together and I finally meet her. And this girl asks what I do for work. And after I tell her, she says, slay. Right when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, now I see what happens. This man just completely stole his girlfriend's whole personality. But good for him. He's in love. I'm not mad about it. Because if you ask about my love life right now, it's giving lonely.
If there's one thing you should never do at school, it's let people borrow money. Because I was waiting in line to get lunch one time during school, but the kid behind me didn't have any money. And we kinda knew each other, so he asked me if he could borrow 20 bucks. But I was like, wait, lunch is only $4, why do you need 20? And he said he wouldn't have lunch money for the whole week because it was Monday and his mom gives him his allowance on Saturday. And apparently he already spent all the money for that week on video games. But he promised me he would pay me back the next Monday, so I was like, all right, fine, here's the $20. And I didn't think anything more of it until the next week. I remembered the kid was supposed to pay me back, but I hadn't seen him at school the past couple of days. So I asked one of his closer friends if they knew where he was at. And they were like, oh, Mikkel? He moved back with his family to Spain last week. And I go, last week? What day? Monday. You mean Monday, as in the day he asked me for the $20? He was never gonna use that money for food. He just knew he could rob me, so he did it. Mikkel, if you're seeing this, I don't care that it was 12 years ago. I'm coming to Spain for that $20.
I have seen 3 different animals pass away in 3 really weird different ways this week. The first animal I saw pass away was a possum. It was in a trash can, and the trash can fell over, the possum rolled out, and I ran it over on accident. The second time, my dog was barking at a squirrel, so the squirrel climbed up a telephone pole, got electrocuted, and fell into our pool. And the third time, which was the most stupid, was I was getting into my car, and then I started to close my door, and as I closed my door, a butterfly tried to fly in, and I crushed it. I had a friend who ate a butterfly once. Weird kid. I'm pretty sure he's in prison now. But anyway, has anyone else seen stuff like this happen to animals? Or am I just cursed?
The craziest part about growing up is becoming old enough to learn about your family's lore. Because when you're younger, you just think your family is completely normal with no crazy stories. Until one day, your dad randomly decides you're old enough to tell you an insane story that will change how you view your family forever. Like, what do you mean Ted Bundy is your second cousin? But it's so funny because they'll just casually drop it on you as if it's no big deal. You'll be eating dinner with them like normal, and then out of nowhere, your mom will tell you something that will become your new go-to when you play 2 truths and 1 lie. She'll be like, oh, by the way, honey, great-grandma Shirley was one of the people who survived the Titanic shipwreck. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Here's a picture. Then she just shows you a flick of your great-grandma boarding the Titanic at 22 years old waving goodbye to her family. Maybe the stories of them having to travel 5,000 miles just to get to school every day weren't fake.
Have you ever gotten a text from someone and you respond right away, but then they somehow don't respond back for hours? Like, what could you possibly have been doing within those 2 milliseconds of texting me and me texting you back to where you didn't see the message? Is this what you do right after sending the text? And send. Like, I know you're still on your phone when I texted you back, so what's the deal? And I get it, some people don't like to respond right away, and that's fine. Take 5-10 minutes to respond, but not 6 days. I texted my friend last week asking who he thinks is gonna win the Super Bowl, and he just responded to me yesterday saying the Eagles. Like, why are you even answering that question? You watched the game already. If there's one positive thing from this, at least I know who I'm not putting on my emergency contact list.
I just got a call from a number I didn't recognize, so I didn't answer it at first, but then they left a voicemail saying, hello? Is this Tyler Vitelli? So since they knew my name, I called them back. And once again, they go, hi, Tyler Vitelli? And I say, yes, that's me. But then I got absolutely shocked because they go, hi, Tyler, I'm Catherine. Do you know anyone by the name of John? I'm not gonna say his last name, but I did know this person. The John she was referring to is my friend. So I was like, yeah, I know John, why? Then she told me that he put me down as a reference for a job he's applying to. So the lady asks if John has ever worked for me. And even though he definitely hasn't, I'm always gonna try to help my homies out. So I was like, yeah, he did. She goes, great. How was John as an employee? Man, John was the best. Always showed up early, hardest working person I know. My only regret is when he decided to leave us. Was any of this true? Absolutely not. I actually don't think John has ever had a job a day in his life, but still, that ain't gonna stop me from trying to help. John, if you're watching, I hope you get the job, bro. You know how when you're talking to someone and you can't understand what they're saying, you just laugh and hope for the best? Well, I do not recommend doing that because my friend was telling me about how he wasn't gonna be at school for a couple of days. But when I asked why, I couldn't understand his response because he talks faster than if Eminem and Trisha Paytas had a baby. So he's telling me why he's gonna miss school and I just keep going, huh? But after doing that about 4 times, it started to get awkward and I didn't want to say huh again. So instead, I just laughed after he repeated himself for the 4th time. But apparently this was not the reaction I should have had because he asked why I was laughing. And I just told him the truth and was like, to be honest, I have no idea what you just said, but I didn't want to keep saying huh. So then he said, oh, gotcha. Well, I was telling you that I have to miss school because I'm gonna get a tumor in my leg removed. Should have just kept saying huh. If you're in class and you hear someone scream in the hallway, don't look at them. Because I was taking a test one time, so the whole class was completely silent until out of nowhere, we hear a scream. So everyone laughs, then goes back to taking their test. But a couple seconds later, out of the corner of my eye, I see my friend in the hallway. He was smirking at me, so I realized he was the one who screamed, but I also figured out why he did it. Because instead of continuing walking wherever he was going, he just kept staring at me while I was taking the test because he was trying to get me to laugh. So I couldn't hold it in and I laughed, which made the teacher suspicious that I was cheating. But I wasn't gonna fail because of my friend, so I told my teacher that there was a random man staring at me in the hallways. Unfortunately, he ran away right when I pointed at him, so when the teacher checked, no one was there. Why is there always people screaming in the hallways? If I ever go to prison, I'm definitely not surviving because I was just talking to this guy I met on the bus and he was telling me about his past and how he went to prison a couple times because he used to rob gas stations. So out of curiosity, I asked him what prison was like, but I shouldn't have done that because after I said that, he chuckled a little bit and I said, why are you laughing? And he goes, I'm laughing because they would have liked you in prison. So I say, what does that mean? And he responds with, let's just say, a lot of the guys in prison would have thought you were real pretty. What? So basically he's saying if I ever go to prison, I'm cooked. But this made me realize that if I'm ever in a situation where I either have to snitch or go to prison, I'm snitching on everyone. Grandma, dog, cat, I don't care, I'm snitching. Cause from the way that man on the bus was laughing,
I don't think I'd last a day in there.
Why are fashion trends so weird? Like, tell me why. I just saw a video where this guy was wearing pants with a pee stain on them. So this girl got his attention and was like, hey, I don't want to embarrass you, but I think you might have peed yourself. And he looks down at his pants and starts laughing. The girl asks what's funny, and the man goes, I didn't pee myself. The pants come like this. So then she goes, what do you mean? And he tells her he bought the pants with the stain on them. But when the girl asks why, he says, cause it's fashion. Dog, that's not fashion. That's first grade after you drink too much water at recess. So then I looked it up, and they literally do sell these pants online that come with a pee stain on them. People will literally buy anything these days. Choosing to have pee stains on your pants is literally almost as bad as wearing jorts. That's still the worst one.
Nobody talks about how scary it is when your friend that takes forever to respond to your text finally texts you back. Because when this happens, you literally have 5 minutes to say something back to them before they stop responding until next year. One time my friend texted me saying he had something super important to tell me, but I didn't respond for like 30 minutes because I was busy. So by the time I saw the text, I texted him back saying, yeah, what do you need to tell me? But I was too slow and he didn't text back for 3 days. Then when he finally did, he was like, oh, I forgot what I was gonna tell you. Like, I don't know if my friend just thinks I'm a girl on his roster or something, but he always does this. At this point, it would be faster if I just wrote him a letter and had a pigeon fly over to him. Now that I think about it, we should start doing that again, actually.
Have you ever been telling your mom a story and then you accidentally say something illegal you did? Like, me and my friends were hanging out one time, and when I got back home, my mom asked how it went. So I started telling her details about what we did that day, but I messed up because I told her we went swimming. But I was the only one of my friends that had a pool, and we weren't at my house, so my mom was like, wait, if you weren't swimming here, where were you? And then without thinking, I just told her, oh, we just hopped the gate at school and we went in the pool there. Right when those words left my mouth, I realized I just admitted that we trespassed onto school property. So before she could even get a word in, I was like, oh wait, that's not what happened actually. My friend has a cousin and we went in his pool. But my mom ain't stupid. She knew exactly what we did. I'm always yapping myself into crimes. Why are people making gifs of me crying over my haircut and posting them in the comment sections on videos? But you know what the worst part is? This isn't even my video! I saw this comment on a random video that had nothing to do with me. How do you even post a GIF as a comment? I'm wearing hats from now on.
Does anyone else have a friend you hated before you became friends? Like, they were your biggest enemy, yet now you can't live without them. Because one of my best friendships started like this in middle school when he was dating a girl I had a crush on. I was obviously jealous of him, so I just naturally didn't like the guy. And he knew that, so he didn't like me either. But then we got put together for a group project one day, and it all changed because at first, my plan was to not do any of it and force him to do the whole thing because I didn't like him. But then the teacher made us sit next to each other in class to work on it. And after being together for about 5 minutes, I was like, damn, I hate to admit it, but this guy's pretty sick. I didn't want to like him, but he was cool. So I got over my ego and realized I never had a chance with that girl anyway. And from that point on, we were best friends.
I've been getting hit on by a bunch of lesbians in my DMs ever since I got this haircut. And at first, I wasn't sure why this was happening. But after reading more and more of the DMs, I realized these women think I'm a lesbian too now because of the haircut. I know I said I look like Ellen, but I didn't mean it in that way. I was driving and I sneezed, so I swerved a little bit and the car next to me honked. But they didn't stop there. No, they sped up right next to me. And remember, they have tinted windows, so I can't see inside their car. And I was thinking this guy's either just about to flip me off or curse at me or something. So he rolls his window down, and what does he do? He throws a piece of cheese at my car, then rolls his window right back up without saying anything. Why do you even have cheese in your car? Are you going to a picnic or something?
To all the people out there who get made fun of for having an iron deficiency like me, it's time we start standing up for ourselves, okay? Wait, never mind.
Have you ever been telling your mom a story and then you accidentally say something illegal you did? Like, me and my friends were hanging out one time, and when I got back home, my mom asked how it went. So I started telling her details about what we did that day, but I messed up because I told her we went swimming. But I was the only one of my friends that had a pool, and we weren't at my house, so my mom was like, wait, if you weren't swimming here, where were you? And then without thinking, I just told her, oh, we just hopped the gate at school and we went in the pool there. Right when those words left my mouth, I realized I just admitted that we trespassed onto school property. So before she could even get a word in, I was like, oh wait, that's not what happened actually. My friend has a cousin and we went in his pool. But my mom ain't stupid. She knew exactly what we did. I'm always yapping myself into crimes.
This is so disgusting. My dog keeps farting while I'm trying to eat, and now all my food tastes like seasoned farts. I'm not even kidding. The food even smells like farts now. The fumes from his farts are literally attaching to the food. His gas is literally making my eyes water. Imagine that fart spray that used to be popular. This literally smells like it, but 10 times worse. It's like eating a fart. This sucks. I love Wingstop, but I don't know if I could eat this, and it's so expensive. My phone is literally fogging up from his farts. I need to open a window. What did you eat? What do people talk about? Because, like, I'm not shy, but I just cannot think of anything to say when I'm talking to someone. I see people having conversations for hours, and I'm like, what do you guys talk about?
Because after I say, hey, how are you doing? I'm finished. It's gotten so bad that one time I Googled what to talk about with people and the search results terrified me because all of them were like, hey, don't worry. I don't know how to talk to people either. But now I'm 39, single, no friends, and I have a lizard. And honestly, I kind of like this life. Like, no offense, but I do not want to be you.
Have you ever done so bad on a test that you apologize to the teacher? Like, I remember during my final one year, the teacher did everything in her power to make sure everyone did good on the test. She gave us a bunch of study guides, so she really wanted everyone to pass. But unfortunately, this was chemistry class, and I'm no Walter White. I was awful at chemistry. No matter how much teaching she did, I just could not understand it. So when the final came around, I literally left half of the test blank because I didn't know how to answer any of the questions. But I felt so bad because of how much effort the teacher put into preparing us. So when I turned my test in, I literally wrote on the front page, I'm sorry, I tried my best, with a frowny face. The next day, she pulled me to the side and asked me what she could have done better to prepare me for the test. And I literally had to say, it's not you, it's me. Cause that was the truth.
Why are old people so dramatic? Like, I just saw a video where this grandma was getting ready to go on a yacht, and all she had to do was take a tiny step from the dock to get onto the boat. But instead, she walked straight into the crack between the dock and the boat. The crack was like this big. It was literally harder to fall in it than not to. But the worst part was, it didn't even look like she was trying to get on the yacht. She just walked straight into the crack like there was a bag of candy down there. There's no way she wasn't doing it on purpose. And the people in the video were screaming like, she can't swim, she can't swim. So I thought, yeah, damn, she's definitely cooked. She ain't making it out of there. But after doing some research, it turns out she was totally fine and still went on the yacht. Even though it looks like she was just on one of those water slides where the floor drops from underneath you. Old people really gotta stop getting hurt in such cartoonish ways.
Oh, you think you're an introvert? Well, one time I was driving with my friend and he asked if we could go pick his cousin up and get something to eat. But when we got to his cousin's house, he came inside the car and my friend introduced us to each other. But for some reason, whenever someone I don't know joins a conversation I'm having, I forget how to talk. So basically for the whole car ride, I did not say a single word. But then when we got to the restaurant, we all got out of the car, but then his cousin made eye contact with me and looked really confused. So he whispered something to my friend, which made him laugh. So I was like, what are you laughing about? And that was when my friend told me his cousin thought I was their Uber driver. I asked him why he thought that and he was like, well, you didn't say a single thing the whole ride. And he wasn't even wrong. I was acting like an Uber driver. I just don't know how to talk to new people.
Nobody talks about how scary it is when your mom picks you up from school because you're sick. Like, I don't think I've ever seen my mom as mad as when this would happen because she never believed that I was actually not feeling good. She just thought I wanted to go home. So she would be like, you made me miss watching my TV shows because you have a cough. But what was funny is if I made any sort of noise on the drive home, she would be like, I don't want to hear sound out of you. If you're sick, you shouldn't be making noise. Then when we would actually get home, I had to give her my phone, my PlayStation, my TV, my kidney. She would always say if I was actually sick, I should just lay down the whole day and not do anything. One time I even farted on the way back from school and she asked why I did that if I was really sick. It's like being in prison when you go home sick. I love you though, Mom.
If your friend ever calls you in the middle of the night, don't answer it because my phone was ringing at 2 a.m. last night. So I awoke from my slumber to see who was calling me and it was my friend. Now this guy is not a night person, so I would have expected him to be sleeping, which made me think something serious must have been happening for him to be calling me at this time. So I nervously pick up the call and I just hear a smacking sound. I say, hello, is anyone there? Then my friend finally goes, Tyler? And I say, yes. Then he says, hey, you have an air fryer, right? So I tell him I do. Then he responds with, can you tell me how to use this thing? I'm trying to reheat my pizza, but I've never used one of these before. First of all, you called and woke me up at 2 a.m. because you're reheating food and needed help. And second of all, it's an air fryer. You just put the food in and set the timer. I thought he was in danger or something. Meanwhile, this man was just going for a midnight snack. You can always tell if someone grew up with just brothers or just sisters because I had friends who fit both of these descriptions, but the way they acted was completely different. Like there was one time where we were gonna go bowling with these girls, so we wanted to look our absolute best. And I was trying to figure out what to wear, but every time I would show them a potential outfit, my friend with just sisters would be like, you know, it doesn't look that bad. But then my friend with just brothers would straight up say, you look fat. Like people who grew up with sisters are definitely gonna be way more thoughtful when they're speaking to you. If they don't think you look good, they're gonna break it to you in the nicest way possible. Meanwhile, someone with just brothers is gonna tell you the first thing that pops up in their head without any more thought. But the craziest part about learning this is the fact that I only have brothers. I guess that explains why I usually don't think before speaking. Nobody talks about how scary it is when your friend that takes forever to respond to your text finally texts you back. Because when this happens, you literally have 5 minutes to say something back to them before they stop responding until next year. One time my friend texted me saying he had something super important to tell me, but I didn't respond for like 30 minutes because I was busy. So by the time I saw the text, I texted him back saying, yeah, what do you need to tell me? But I was too slow and he didn't text back for 3 days. Then when he finally did, he was like, oh, I forgot what I was gonna tell you. Like, I don't know if my friend just thinks I'm a girl on his roster or something, but he always does this. At this point, it would be faster if I just wrote him a letter and had a pigeon fly it over to him. Now that I think about it, We should start doing that again, actually. Never take an old person to go see a horror movie, because I went to the movies last night, and when I arrived, I saw a lady that was probably 80 years old there with her grandson. But I don't think she knew this was gonna be a scary movie, because immediately, the movie starts with a jump scare in the first scene, and when it happened, she screamed. But this wasn't a one-time thing. Every time there was a slight jump scare, she would go, ah! So I was thinking, this lady's grandson needs to get her out of here before she has a heart attack. Like, he must have been first in line in her will or something. But about 30 minutes into the movie, she stopped screaming. So I assumed she just got used to the jump scares, but that wasn't the case. Because I looked over at her, and now, she was sleeping. She went from screaming to sleeping all within the same hour. He should have just took her to bingo or something. If you're ever thinking about eating someone else's leftovers, don't do it. Because in the middle of last night, I was starving. So I snuck into the kitchen to see what options we had, and that is when I saw my dad's leftover spaghetti. It looked delicious, so I start munching on it, but there was a problem. Because the spaghetti almost tasted like there was sand in it. Like, I could literally feel these little flakes in my mouth whenever I took a bite, but I was so hungry that I did not care. I finished the rest of it, but sadly, about 30 minutes later, I realized how big of a mistake this was. Because my stomach started to really hurt, so I knew it was from the spaghetti, but I didn't know why. Until I looked on the kitchen counter and saw laxatives. My dad's been mixing these powder laxatives into his food lately to help with his colon. But my colon's fine. I don't need those, so I was on the toilet for the next hour. I almost fell asleep in there. Oh, you think you're having a bad day? Well, I just dislocated my finger playing basketball, and then when I got home, I walked into the kitchen to get a snack, and what do I see? My mom's making dinner using the crock pot! Could this day get any worse?
Why are fashion trends so weird? Like, tell me why. I just saw a video where this guy was wearing pants with a pee stain on them. So this girl got his attention and was like, hey, I don't want to embarrass you, but I think you might have peed yourself. And he looks down at his pants and starts laughing. The girl asks what's funny, and the man goes, I didn't pee myself. The pants come like this. So then she goes, what do you mean? And he tells her he bought the pants with the stain on them. But when the girl asks why, he says, cause it's fashion. Dog, that's not fashion. That's first grade after you drink too much water at recess. So then I looked it up, and they literally do sell these pants online that come with a pee stain on them. People will literally buy anything these days. Choosing to have pee stains on your pants is literally almost as bad as wearing jorts. That's still the worst one.
I've been getting hit on by a bunch of lesbians in my DMs ever since I got this haircut, and at first, I wasn't sure why this was happening. But after reading more and more of the DMs, I realized these women think I'm a lesbian too now because of the haircut. I know I said I look like Ellen, but I didn't mean it in that way. If you see a video online of me getting interviewed in public, please don't watch it. Because a street interviewer just came up to me while I'm in Vegas and asked me the question, if I could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be? But I got nervous, so I just said the first thing that came to mind, which was wind. And I thought that was a decent answer, until he asked the same question to a girl behind me, and you know what her response was? World hunger. And I said the wind.
Why do schools get upgraded as soon as you leave? Like, while you're going there, it'll look like Gotham City, but the moment you leave, they turn it into a 5-star hotel. The school I used to go to didn't even have air conditioning when I was there. So there would be days where it was over 90 degrees outside and it felt like a sauna inside the classroom. There'd be sweat dripping down from my back to my crack, and it would be awful. But just the other day, I drove by the school again for the first time in a while, and originally, I thought I was in the wrong area because they turned my old school into the Taj Mahal. Where'd they get all this money from? Back when I was there, they had mold coming out the ceilings and they took 3 months to fix it. Kids were getting sick left and right, but they didn't care. Fast forward a couple years, and now they have enough money to have a Chick-fil-A in the school? Was I the problem? Have you ever noticed the difference between how boys are on the last day of school versus girls? Because the girls always seem to be super sad. Like, since they're not gonna see a lot of their friends over summer, they might be crying or hugging each other, saying they should hang out when they know that's definitely not gonna happen. But for some reason, boys don't experience any of those feelings because the way they act is completely different. Like, boys know that there's no consequences on the last day of school since you're not gonna be there again, so you can do something crazy. One time on the last day, this guy in my class had a really big crush on the teacher the whole year. So he literally brought flowers to school and asked her if she would go on a date with him. Sadly, she said no, because I guess she had a husband already or something. And the kid was 12, so that would have been pretty weird. But hey, those are the shots you take on the last day. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is to order at a restaurant that has weird names for their food. I was eating at one of those millennial burger places the other day where everything is overpriced, but as I was reading the menu, one specific burger caught my eye. It had bacon and grilled onions, so I knew that was the one I wanted to get. Except there was one problem. It was called the Good Boy Burger. How do you expect me to look the waiter in the eye and say, hi, can I get the Good Boy Burger? Yeah, with extra freak sauce, please. I was in front of my family. I can't say that. But I really wanted that specific burger. So when the waiter came and asked what I would like, I just pointed to it on the menu, but he couldn't see it. So then I just said, what's the burger with bacon and grilled onions? And then he goes, oh, you're talking about the Good Boy Burger, huh? Then I go, yeah, that's the one. And as he was writing it down, I saw a little smirk on his face. These places know what they're doing.
Does anyone else have a friend that tries to make everything you say dirty? Like, you could be talking about puppies and they'll still find a way to say something freaky. Cause I was at the gym one time with my friend and I was deadlifting, but I was doing way more weight than I should have. So when I tried lifting it up, I hurt something in my back. Right when this happened, I immediately dropped the weight and grabbed my back. So my friend was like, bro, what's wrong? But this is where I messed up because I said, my back. I think I blew out my back. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, how can I help? He just starts laughing and goes, oh yeah? Did it feel good when you got your back blown out? Keep in mind, I am literally unable to move because of how bad this hurt. But all this man could think of is to make a joke about it. I can't even judge him though because I'm like this too. It's just natural. Never share an AirPod with someone in school because one time before class started, my friend was like, hey, can I borrow one of your AirPods? I forgot mine. So I said yes, but that was a mistake because I was wearing the other AirPod. And he asked if he could choose the music we listened to during class. So I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I underestimated just how bad his music taste was because right when class started, this man starts playing Friday by Rebecca Black. At first I'm like, oh, I get it. He's just trying to mess with me. But then I look over at him and he's bobbing his head completely locked into the song. I tried getting his attention to let him know that my ears were bleeding, but he wouldn't look at me. And he was playing it on full volume. So if I took it out of my ear, the whole class could hear it, which meant I either had to keep it in or take it out and get in trouble by the teacher. By the time class ended, I didn't even want the other AirPod back. Had a bunch of earwax in it anyway.
I accidentally just cut this guy off while driving, so he sped up right next to me, and I thought he was either gonna flip me off or curse at me, but instead, he just did this. I lost my phone at the movie theaters yesterday, and I just went back to ask the employees if they had it, and they did. But this phone was missing for over 40 hours, and the moment I got it back, I turned it on, and guess what? 0 notifications. Who wanna hang out? Seriously.
Does anyone else have a friend that lived super close to school but was always late? I don't even understand how this is possible because I knew someone whose house was across the street from school. Like, you could literally see it from the inside of our classroom. And the teacher knew he lived there, so whenever he wasn't on time to class, all of us, including the teacher, would just stare outside the window at his house and wait to see how long it took him to go through his front door and walk to class. The kid hated living this close though because since he was late so often, he would always try to make excuses for it, but none of it would work because he would be like, oh, sorry I'm late, I had a dentist appointment. Then the teacher would go, we literally all just saw you walk from your house to this classroom 5 seconds ago. We know you're lying. I don't know why he took it for granted so much though. If I lived that close to school, I would have just crawled from my bed to class.
I made a video about how people are screenshotting my face whenever I look really stupid and making it their profile picture. But today, someone told me to check out my profile picture on the website Famous Birthdays. So I did. And what is this? Even Famous Birthdays is screenshotting my face when I look ugly and making it a profile picture. But the worst part is, I can't even change it. I don't have control over that. When is this gonna stop?
I'm so scared for the day we have a Gen Z president because there was a kid in my class last year who said he was gonna be president in the future. Like, he was super confident about it and he was going to law school and everything. So at first I was like, yeah, you're a smart dude. Maybe you could be president one day. But then I saw him in the dining hall a few days later and he was eating food with his headphones in. So I peeked over his shoulder to see what he was watching. And you know what it was? He was watching one of those TikToks where they show a whole movie in like 500 parts with half the screen showing the movie and the other half showing a slime video. Our future presidents and governors are all watching brain rot content. We're doomed! And if this is how our first Gen Z president will be, just imagine what our first Gen Alpha president will be like. When that happens, I'm moving to a different country like Hawaii or something.
I just got catcalled for the first time ever while being in Vegas, and it made me feel so good that after about 5 minutes, I purposely went out of my way just to walk by them again, hoping that they would keep hyping me up. I understand that girls don't like being catcalled because some guys can be creepy, but as a dude, this is the best feeling ever! If you're ever feeling embarrassed, just know that I was on a bus yesterday that didn't have any air conditioning and it was completely full. Like, there were no open seats. But at one of the stops, this little kid got on the bus with his mom and said, Mommy, I want to sit down. But then she went, honey, there's no seats open right now. So trying to be a nice civilian, I say, oh, you can take my seat. And the kid looks excited for about a second until I stand up, because then I hear him say, never mind, I don't want to sit there. So I glance back at the seat and what do I see? Butt sweat stains from me sitting there. Even I didn't want to sit back down now, so the seat was just left open with an imprint of my butt on it. Just put air conditioning on the buses, please.
Have you ever met an old person that listens to Gen Z music? Because I was on the bus the other day and I saw this man that couldn't have been any younger than like 112. Like, I would not have been surprised if he saw the Titanic sink IRL. But he had these wired headphones in his ears. So of course, out of curiosity, I was thinking, what would a man of his age be listening to? A 10-hour video of TV static? I wasn't sure. So I tried figuring it out. And obviously, old people don't have the best hearing. So his music was playing pretty loud. So I leaned a little bit closer to try to listen to it. And I heard a faint noise through his headphones that sounded like this. At first, I was like, wait, is this man listening to what I think he's listening to? So I leaned a little closer. And after a few seconds, I was able to confirm that this man was listening to Playboy Cardi. At his age, I feel like if I tried listening to Playboy Cardi after the age of 50, I would have a heart attack. I ain't judging. I'm just wondering who showed this music to him.
I'm currently getting canceled by one person because they sent me a DM that said, "Why'd you like this post, weirdo?" Then they sent the post they were referring to, so I clicked on it to see what it was, and now I understand why they're trying to cancel me. Because the post was a picture of this cute dog that said, "Like this photo, ... So I liked it. But what I didn't notice the first time was that there was a second slide which said, "If you think Diddy should be free." I didn't read that part because I always like posts after looking at them for 1 millisecond and then scroll. So if you ever see me liking posts that start out wholesome but then turn freaky, just know I didn't read the whole thing, okay?
Nobody talks about how scary it is to be friends with someone that collects embarrassing pictures of you. Because just the other day, I FaceTimed my friend, but when he answered, he told me that he was hanging out with this girl that I knew he liked. And she could hear me. So to mess with him, I said, "Oh, okay, I'll let you guys hang out and FaceTime you later. I just wanted you to know that I got you the rash cream you were asking me for. Just let me know when you want me to bring it over." And then I hung up after saying that. But this was a big mistake because a couple hours later, I see that he posted something on his story. So I click on it, and what is it? This picture! I don't even remember him taking this.
This is why I need to keep a straight face at all times.
If you wake up in the middle of the night, do not go on your phone because I was sleeping last night, but around 3 a.m. I woke up in that mode where you're kind of awake, but kind of still sleeping. So I didn't know it was real or not, but I checked my phone to see the time, and I saw that I got a text from my brother asking if I needed him to pick me up at the airport today because I had a flight on that same day. So I texted him back saying, "Yes, please pick me up." And then I went to sleep again. But fast forward to this morning, I went to the airport, got on my flight, and when I landed, I texted my brother saying to let me know when he gets here, but he responded with, "What?" So I sent another message saying, "I just landed. Let me know when you're at the airport." Then he replies with, "You never told me I was picking you up." So I'm like, "Yes, I did. I texted you last night." But then I looked at the previous messages and realized I never actually texted that. I hallucinated the whole thing. This was almost as bad as when I hallucinated going to the bathroom at 3 a.m. when in reality, I just wet the bed.
I was messing around with the settings on my phone and I accidentally changed the language to Japanese, but I can't read Japanese. I could barely read English, so I don't know how to change it back. I tried texting my dad asking how to fix this, but all my contacts are in Japanese now too. If any of you can read Japanese, please help me.
Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you make an internet reference to your friends and they don't understand it. Because you can't even explain it to them either without sounding like a psychopath. Like one of my friends went to see the Minecraft movie yesterday, so we were all talking about it. And he mentioned how the movie itself wasn't good, but Jack Black was funny. So then out of nowhere, I blurted out, "Chicken jockey." And I thought that would have made him laugh, but instead, he just looked at me like I had Tourette's. Then everyone in the group was like, "What was that?" So then I was like, "It's a reference from the movie. You don't remember?" Because I thought he would have understood it since he literally just watched it, but he was like, "Oh no, I don't know what that means." It's times like this where I forget that not everyone is as chronically online as me.
A random lady just came up to me and gave me this flower, but when I asked her why, she said it's because most men never receive flowers in their life until the day they die. And then she just walked away. So like, is she saying I'm gonna die soon? My mom just texted me saying to come outside as quickly as possible because she has groceries and she needs me to help bring them in. So I put on the first pairs of shoes I could find, which were a sandal and a roller skate, and I got out here. But it's been 5 minutes now, and she's still not here. Where are you, Mom? If you see a video of me from like 5 years ago where I'm in class and I laugh so hard that a snot rocket comes out of my nose, just know that it's AI, okay? I did not actually do that. AI is just getting really good. I was getting bullied by someone on TikTok today, and it made me so angry that I started yelling at my phone. But then out of nowhere, I was like, wait, if I don't want to deal with this anymore, I could just turn my phone off. So I did, and guess what? The cyberbullying stopped. Why didn't I think of this sooner? Nobody talks about the difference between a girl's comment section when they post versus a guy's. Like, they're both crazy, but in different ways. Because for girls, they'll post a selfie and the comments will be something like, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty, I'm literally gonna punch a hole in the wall. I'm literally ovulating looking at this." And as a guy, when I see that, I'm like, damn, are you complimenting them or threatening them? But when a guy posts a picture, the comment section is just straight up freaky. Like, what do you mean I literally just posted a flick of me smiling like this? And you drop a comment on it saying, "I'm gonna touch you." But that's not even as bad as one I just got the other day that said, "It's all over my screen." I didn't even know what that comment meant at first until someone explained it to me. My parents follow me on here, dog. Why do you keep commenting such freaky stuff that I have to explain to them?
Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you make an internet reference to your friends and they don't understand it. Because you can't even explain it to them either without sounding like a psychopath. Like one of my friends went to see the Minecraft movie yesterday, so we were all talking about it. And he mentioned how the movie itself wasn't good, but Jack Black was funny. So then out of nowhere, I blurted out, "Chicken jockey." And I thought that would have made him laugh, but instead, he just looked at me like I had Tourette's. Then everyone in the group was like, what was that? So then I was like, it's a reference from the movie. You don't remember? Because I thought he would have understood it since he literally just watched it, but he was like, oh no, I don't know what that means. It's times like this where I forget that not everyone is as chronically online as me.
I just saw a video where someone made an edit of me and it looked really cool. So can y'all make more edits of me? I'll even do some poses for it right now. Here we go.
Failing a test in high school feels so different from failing a test in college because whenever I would get a bad grade in my high school class, I thought my life was over. I would study all night just to make sure I didn't get a C. But when I got to college, that all changed. Because after about a month, whenever I would take a test, I would try to go for a C. I didn't even bother taking notes or studying in class anymore. I would just use TurboLearn because this app would let me convert my notes into podcasts so I could study them while turning my brain off. And then when the test came, I would just hope for the best. I got my results back from a test in college once and I was smiling so big so my friend said, "Oh, you must have done good, huh? What'd you get?" 72%. I used to do whatever it took to get A's in high school, and I would even be sad with an A-, but in college, I just use AI to take all my notes for me, and I'm happy if I get a C. I can't believe how much my standards have dropped.
Have you ever compared answers with your classmates after taking a test and realized you definitely failed? Because I used to do this all the time until I figured out that nothing good comes from it. I remember there was this one specific test that I was super nervous for because I really needed to do good on it or else I would have to retake the class. So after it finished, I felt pretty confident about it until I heard some other kids comparing their answers. Because at first, I wasn't gonna stop, but then I heard someone say, "What'd you get for question 3?" And I remember that specific question being the most difficult one. So I paused to listen to what they said, and they went, "Oh, I got 37.5. And the kid who asked the question went, "Okay, cool, that's what I got too." But my heart dropped when they said this because my answer was -2. But to make it worse, I didn't even know there could be a 0.5 in our answers. I thought we were supposed to round up. So when I got that test score back, let's just say I was not getting into Harvard anytime soon.
Does anyone else have a rich friend that doesn't realize how rich they are? Because I know a person like this, and I went to his house one time, which was already super nice. But when I got there, he was giving me a tour of the place, and eventually we made it to the backyard. But in the backyard, there was a separate house. So I was like, dang, you guys even have a guest house? But then he was like, huh? No, we don't. So then I went, well, whose house is that? And I pointed to it. But you know what his response was? Oh, you're talking about the doghouse. The what? Then he goes, yeah, that's where the dog spends a lot of his time. Brother, that dog has a bigger house than my family of 5. And then he has the audacity to say, well, don't you have a doghouse for your dog? Yeah, we do have a doghouse. Not a full estate. So of course, I did the only logical thing you could do in this situation, and I asked if I could be their new pet. Like, I'll bark and play fetch all you want if you let me chill in the house. That dog better be paying rent.
My alarm clock didn't go off this morning, so I missed my flight, and I didn't know why this happened at first because I vividly remembered setting it for 7 a.m. But then I realized I was super tired last night when I did this, so I didn't set my alarm in the clock app. No, I set it in the calculator app.
Never fall asleep with your phone on silent mode because the other night I went to bed around 10 p.m. But in the morning when I woke up, I had like 15 text messages from my friend, including a couple photos. So I was thinking, what could he possibly be texting me this much about? But then I opened up the messages and they said things like, bro, get here ASAP. Where are you? Hurry up. So I still had no idea what he was talking about until I clicked on the photos he sent. And then my jaw dropped because you know who was in these photos? LeBron James! Me and my friend live in LA and he was randomly at the same restaurant as LeBron last night. And he knows LeBron is my glorious Pookie Bear honey bun. So he texted me trying to get me to come to the restaurant. But I was stupidly sleeping already, so I didn't see the messages until the morning. Do you know what I would have done to meet LeBron? I would have missed my own birth just to sniff the seat that LeBron was sitting in. Yet I didn't, all cause my stupid phone was on silent. I accidentally spilled apple juice all over my phone so it's super sticky now and I don't want to touch it, but I tried wiping it down with a damp paper towel and that didn't get the stickiness out. So can someone please tell me how to fix this? I was cooking this pizza and the instructions said to set the oven to 300 degrees for 20 minutes, but I didn't want to wait that long, so I just set it to 600 degrees for 10 minutes instead. And now I see why you're not supposed to do that. Oh.
I just found out that I passed away a couple days ago, so can you guys please comment how funny and beautiful you thought I was when I was alive? Also, if any of you had a crush on me, feel free to confess it now that I'm gone, because I won't know.
I just got a text from my friend telling me happy birthday, but my birthday isn't for another 8 months, so I texted him back saying, what are you talking about? And he was like, isn't today your birthday? And I said, no, where did you hear that? And he told me he got a notification on Snapchat saying that it was. So I had to explain to him that I just set my birthday as a random day on there. But you know what's funny about this? We've known each other since we were 7 years old, and he's been to my birthday party multiple times, yet he still didn't know my actual birthday. The best part about being unemployed is that you can walk everywhere because you have so much free time. I'm currently walking from Los Angeles to Hawaii. To the vegans who were protesting in the middle of the street today causing traffic, you guys made me late for the movies, so because of that, I ordered double the amount of chicken I was going to just to cancel out the meat that you don't eat. Just got my first shiesty. Who wants to be ops with me, huh? Although I should warn you, I can only have oppositions until 9 p.m. because that's my bedtime. But just comment down below if you want to be ops and we can make it happen. Just don't say any bad words, please. My friend just FaceTimed me out of nowhere and I wanted to be funny, so I answered the call doing this pose. But after I answered, I could tell he didn't think that was funny, so I was like, oh, what's wrong? And it turns out he was FaceTiming me to tell me that he couldn't go to the beach with me this weekend because his aunt passed away. Last time I tried doing that. I just got a really weird message written on my coffee from the person who made it, and I don't know whether I should be scared or laughing because I'm pretty sure they recognize me from social media, and look what they wrote on it. Oil up Tyler. I don't even want to drink this no more. Someone just DM'd me a video of them talking in sign language, but obviously I didn't know what they were saying because I don't know sign language. So I told them that, and they responded by telling me that they were signaling the phrase, "You will be single forever." So I was like, oh, haha, very funny. And then I asked them if they were deaf. But you know what they said? They said, no, I just learned this so I could roast you. You guys are learning new languages just to cook me? How do people break up then say they hate their ex? Because I know so many people who are like, my ex is the worst person on earth. My ex is so ugly. You literally chose to date them. A couple of months ago, you said you loved them. Do you know how much you have to like someone to date them? And now all of a sudden they're ugly? Like, why can't a relationship just end and both people say, oh, we just weren't a good match? Your ex doesn't always have to be the worst person on earth. Personally, I don't think it's a good look when you talk that negative about your ex. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I cracked my phone today, and now every time I try to record a video, if I move too quickly, it like freezes. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go backwards, and when I move quickly across the screen, it'll freeze. Watch. Why did it freeze so early? I had a teacher that passed away during the school year one time, and the next day, my friend's baby brother was born. But the weird thing was, his newborn brother would always do this movement with his pinky, which was the exact same thing our teacher would do. So my friend is convinced to this day that after our teacher passed away, he came back in the form of his baby brother. And I don't know what to believe. I got these new shoes yesterday, but every time I run in them, they make this really weird sound. Here, I'll show you. Apparently, if you wear one of these safety vests, you can go wherever you want, because I was just at McDonald's, but when I walked in, the worker was like, oh, are you here to fix the air conditioning? No, I'm here for a Big Mac. I keep getting tagged in a video that accuses me of throwing my pet hamster off a balcony when I was younger. So when I saw this, I was like, what? That's not true. And I DM'd the person who made the video and was like, where'd you hear this information? And you know what they told me? They said, oh, I just made it up because I was bored. How are y'all so creative? My car just got hit by this lady, and I was super angry at first, but then I saw her get out of her vehicle, and she was gorgeous. So she apologized, and I was like, oh, it's okay, it's not that bad, but I should get your phone number for insurance or something, right? And guess what? She gave it to me. I may have to pay $1,000 to get this repaired, but hey, a win is a win. I was just eating this chili, and it made my stomach hurt really bad, but a couple days ago, this girl told me that her stomach hurt, and when I asked why, she said it was because she was ovulating. So that must be what I'm doing right now too. I was driving and I sneezed, so I swerved a little bit and the car next to me honked. But they didn't stop there. No, they sped up right next to me. And remember, they have tinted windows so I can't see inside their car. And I was thinking this guy's either just about to flip me off or curse at me or something. So he rolls his window down, and what does he do? He throws a piece of cheese at my car, then rolls his window right back up without saying anything. Why do you even have cheese in your car? Are you going to a picnic or something? To the homeless man I just caught digging through my backpack for money while I was in the bathroom, let me know if you found anything in there, because I'm broke too. Like, you shouldn't have ran off. You should have told me. We could have looked together. I just saw two little kids holding hands, and it made me think how much I miss being young and in love. Like, if I could switch places with that kid right now, I would. Not because I want to hold hands with a 12-year-old. I just miss being a child. Okay? I'm gonna stop talking now. I fell asleep watching this Italian brain rot video last night, but I didn't turn my phone off, so it played the whole time I was sleeping, and it gave me nightmares. I can't stop hearing it. You know a man is beautiful when he looks good with any hairstyle. I don't know who made this post, but that's facts. That is so true. I made this post. It was me. A lady came up to me today and asked if I could take a picture with her daughter, so I said yes. But after we took it, we started talking, and eventually she asked where I was from. So I told her California, and then I asked her, where are you from? And she told me, Korea. But you know what I said next? I said, oh, North or South? It was South, by the way. Never buy clothes off Temu, because I found some really cheap shirts on there the other week, so I was like, oh, I have to buy these. But they just arrived today, and this is what they look like. I look like I work at Victoria's Secret! I just got a comment on one of my videos from someone that said they can tell I'm super unathletic. So I'm gonna do a backflip to prove to you guys that that is not true. Here we go. I'm starting to become schizophrenic because my Alexa keeps making these weird laughing noises when I'm not asking. Do you hear that? Alexa, stop. Bro, what? I don't care how old I get. The moment I hear that ice cream truck song, I'm running after it. I got it. The rumor that me and Anne Hathaway are dating is false. Whoever keeps spreading this misinformation, you need to stop. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of you guys believed it was true because you could definitely see us together, but it's not. For now. Why are people editing my face onto pictures of random families? At first I thought it was just that one post, but then I started scrolling through my tags and it's everywhere. I don't even understand why this is happening and why does it look so real? This one pretty much looks like my dad. I ain't even gonna say nothing about this one. Someone stole a package I got delivered last night, so I emailed Amazon telling them about it, but they told me to send a picture of the stolen package to prove that I'm not lying. How am I supposed to do that? It's not there! Okay, Amazon, here's a picture of the stolen package. Obviously, as you can see, nothing is here because it got stolen! If you're ever thinking of living somewhere where it gets super windy, don't do it. Because I came outside for 5 seconds to go from my house to the car, and look what my hair looks like. I look like the things from the Trolls movie! I just got an invitation to my friend's wedding, but inside the card, it tells me to wear a suit and not a white dress. I thought what we had was special, Michael. I just saw an old lady crying, so I went up to her and asked what was wrong, and she told me that she just lost $200. And I felt so bad that I decided to give her $10 out of the $200 I just found on the ground. I just found out that my mom vapes because I saw this in her room. But I know so many people that have gotten health problems from vaping, so Mom, I'm throwing this away. It's for your own good. This random lady just screamed out loud asking if anyone wanted ice cream, so of course, I went over to get some along with a couple other kids. But when I got to her, she said, "You're too old to be one of my kids' friends." And that's when I realized she was asking her son and his buddies if they wanted ice cream. Not just anyone at the park. She still gave me some though. Would any ladies like to come Netflix and chill with me? We could watch whatever you want on this bad boy. Boss Baby, Minecraft movie. It will be in black and white though, just so you know. To the cop who just pulled me over and gave me a ticket, I did not deserve this. I was only going 2 miles per hour over the speed limit. And sure, maybe I also crashed into a stop sign, but that's besides the point. I just found out that my doctor follows me on social media, but he got angry at me last time I saw him because I told him I never eat vegetables. So now, I gotta start pretending I like these so he doesn't get mad at me again. Look at me, Dr. Sheridan. I love vegetables. I just got a super creepy text from a number I didn't recognize which says, "Congratulations, the United States has drafted you to be number 4 of 100 to fight the gorilla." I don't want to do it, and I especially don't want to be number 4. Mr. Beast, if this is you, please don't make me do it. If this is real, I'm joining the gorillas team. I'm sorry, it's gonna be 99 versus 2. I just saw a video of my barber having surgery today, but the scary part is, I have a haircut appointment with him scheduled tomorrow, and he didn't postpone it. Do I still go to it or what? He could barely speak in the video he posted. I know he's gonna cook me. I'm so scared. I almost just got kicked out of the airport because someone airdropped me a video while I was waiting for my flight. And being the curious person I am, I accepted it. But this was a big mistake because with my phone on full volume, this was the video that played.
There's a bomb strapped to my chest! It's gonna explode!
I just got a DM from someone telling me that they're getting bullied at school, and they asked me if I had any advice. So I was like, yeah, just try your best to ignore them. But then they were like, well, that's kind of hard because I go to online school. So I was like, wait, how are you getting bullied if you go to online school? And then they were like, well, you see, my bully is actually my mom. I ain't no Dr. Phil, kid. I can't help you with that one. I just tried a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the first time ever, and these things are so good. What are in these? Seriously, I need the recipe. If you know how to make these, please tell me what's in these. I accidentally kidnapped someone's cat the other day because I was at the veterinarian since my cat needed shots. But after they finished, they gave him back to me in this big box and said he was sleeping. So I just figured I would let him rest and not take him out of the box. Until I was about halfway home because I heard him meow. But my cat has a really high-pitched meow, and this one was more like meow. So I opened that box as quick as possible, and it wasn't my cat. I took it back, and the vet was like, oops, we mixed it up. What? Hi, I'm Tyler Vitelli. I was nominated by my mom to do the Get a Job challenge, but unfortunately, I will not be participating. Instead, I will be doubling it and giving it to the next person. I nominate everyone watching the video. I'm currently watching 3 homeless people give each other flu shots in an alley. It's so nice that they care about their health even though they're homeless. Oh, wait, those aren't flu shots, never mind. Did I just say I want to have a 6-pack before summer 2 hours ago? Yes. Am I now eating an ice cream cone with 5 scoops on it? Maybe. Hi, I'm Tyler Vitelli. I was nominated to do the Ice Bucket Challenge by my friends Nick and Aubrey. Here's the ice bucket. As you can see, I nominate LeBron James, World of T-shirts, Jadion, Dax Flame, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and Anthony. Here we go. And this is for mental health, by the way, so yeah, here we go. Oh my God. I downloaded an app called Grindr because I thought it was for people that are grinding in life, but after creating a profile on it, I started scrolling through it, and that is not what it is for. Don't download it. I made a video the other day asking people to draw pictures of me, and then last night, I got a DM from someone that said, "Hey Tyler, I drew you." So I was super excited to look at the drawing, but then I clicked on it, and this is what it looked like. But the crazy part about it is obviously the person in this picture is super ugly, but at the same time, it low-key looks like me. I don't even get how that's possible. I just Googled all the symptoms of the sickness I've been having the past few days, and based off everything I just read, it looks like I'm either pregnant or on my period. I didn't know either of those things could happen. If someone ever texts you the words, "Are you busy right now?" do not respond, because yesterday I was on the toilet going number 2. But out of nowhere, I got a text from my friend saying, "Are you busy right now?" And I don't like to lie, so I told him, "No, I'm not." But this was a mistake because I assumed they were just gonna text me asking me something. But instead, 2 seconds after I sent that text, they FaceTime me, and it felt like I got flashbanged. So I declined it because I'm not gonna FaceTime someone while I'm on the toilet. But this made them upset because they texted again saying, "Why didn't you answer? I thought you weren't busy." Yeah, I'm not busy. But that doesn't mean I wanna FaceTime. The toilet is my place of meditation. Please just let me enjoy it. Can we stop using AI for literally everything? Because my friend just found out he's gonna have a baby, and he was trying to figure out what to name it. But he said he wanted it to be something unique. So he asked me if I had any ideas, and I said no. So then he chat GPT'd names that don't sound like an NPC. And now his kid's name is gonna be Absidy, and it's gonna be spelt ABCD. That's not right. I was trying to listen to depressing music today because I've been pretty sad, but I accidentally put my playlist on shuffle, so these 2 songs just played back to back. I think I just watched the most emotional, amazing movie ever created, and now I can't stop crying. I was watching a bunch of motivational videos last night, and they hyped me up so much that I set my alarm for 5 a.m. this morning because I was gonna go on a run. Well, now it's 5 a.m. and I have no idea what I was thinking last night. I'm going back to bed. A bug just flew in my nose! A bug just flew in my nose! It just flew out. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna destroy it. It amazes me that bugs can go anywhere they want, but they choose to go up my nose and up my butthole. Seriously, if I was a fly, I would go to Hawaii or something. Instead, they choose to hang out with me while I try to beat them to death with a bat. Found it. No! A bug just flew in my nose! A bug just flew in my nose! I just found out that I'm a Nepo baby because I was at a restaurant last night, but randomly after I finished my meal, the waitress brought me a slice of lava cake. So I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't order this. It must have been another table." But she was like, "No, the cake is free." So I was confused, but I ate it anyways. And as I was getting ready to leave, I get the receipt for the meal and I see that on the back of it, there's a note that says, "Tell your mom Laura says hi." Apparently she was my mom's childhood friend. I can't believe people complain about being Nepo babies. This is awesome. I just got a text from my friend saying that we're not friends anymore, but when I asked why, he said, "Oh, well, I posted a photo on social media of us together and I tagged you in it, but when I checked the post this morning, I saw that you untagged yourself from the picture." Yeah, I did. Cause the picture you posted made me look like Quasimodo and you look like Brad Pitt. What was I supposed to do? You were mogging me. I just sent my friend a picture of this donut and told him how excited I was to eat it, but he responded back by saying that eating donuts is gross because of how unhealthy they are for you. But what's funny about that is, this man can't go 4 seconds without hitting a vape. And he's telling me donuts aren't healthy for you. You rely on flavored air to live. I don't think a donut is your biggest worry. If you're ever eating this cheese, just know you are not supposed to eat the red part. It's wax. I didn't eat the red part, but someone I know did, so don't do it. If you're ever feeling bored, just buy a pregnancy test and leave it somewhere in your friend's house so their whole family can argue about who it belongs to. I'm currently putting one under my friend's couch. I love instigating. What's the first thing you would do if all the people in the world with foot fetishes disappeared? I'll go first. Personally, I would. My doctor told me I need to eat more healthy, so I'm trying to eat an onion, but every time I cut into it, it makes me cry. You know what never made me cry? Ice cream. I'm going back to that. I was going for a run with my shiesty on, but then an old lady got in my way. So I said out loud, "I'm coming through on your left." And when she turned around and saw a man with a mask chasing after her, she screamed, "I hope she's okay." I just met an Amish person for the first time, and I feel so bad for them because they told me they don't use internet. So I was like, "Wait, does that mean you don't know who LeBron is?" And they said, "Who's that?" I had to pull up highlights just to show him who that is. I can't imagine trying to live without knowing LeBron.
Someone left a block of cheese out and I was really hungry, so I was gonna eat it. But when I went to go pick it up, this trap snapped on me and now I can't feel my finger. How do I get this off? I got a DM from someone asking if they could send me fan mail, so I was like, yeah, sure. And I thought they were gonna send me a drawing or something like that, but their package arrived today, and tell me why they sent me 8 bottles of baby oil. What am I gonna do with all this? I ran out of clean cups to put my drink in, but as I was looking for something to use, I was like, wait, you could just put your drink in an empty mayonnaise container. Why has no one thought of this before? I just saw this guy at the store buying a pregnancy test, but as I walked by him, I accidentally sneezed and some of the snot got on him. So he looked me directly in the eyes with an angry look on his face and said to the employee, you know what? Give me one more pregnancy test. Is he saying he's gonna use this on me? Why do people send you so many videos and expect you to watch all of them? My friend got mad at me for not responding to this, but I can't scroll through all these. That's a full-time job. Stop sending me so many videos. I let a spider bite me on purpose because I was hoping it would turn me into Spider-Man, but instead of giving me powers, I just feel really lightheaded. I think I need to go to the hospital. I was about to use this sunscreen, but after I sprayed it on my arm, I was like, that smells a little weird. So I looked at the label, and it turns out this isn't sunscreen. It's cooking spray. Why do they make the bottles look so similar? Now my arm smells like I'm about to be put in an oven. I took a nap at 4 p.m., but when I woke up, my clock said it was 8. So I thought I slept 4 hours, but then I realized the date on my phone is the next day. It's not 8 p.m., it's 8 a.m. I slept 16 hours. I went to school with a guy who dropped out because he said he was escaping the Matrix, but then I went to McDonald's today, and he was the one taking my order. I don't know if this is what he meant by escaping the Matrix, but he does make some good chicken. Oh, you think you're having a bad day? Well, I just got this haircut, and then on my way home, I found out my barber went straight to the hospital after doing this to me because he got hit by a car. But to make things even worse, my license got suspended because I may or may not have been the one to hit him. I told my barber I wanted the same haircut as the guy in this picture, but after he finished cutting it, I was like, dude, I look nothing like this guy. And he said, yeah, that's because he's better looking than you. I'm going bald! If you work at the Starbucks in West Hollywood, just know that I dropped a venti dump in the toilet 5 minutes ago. My stomach was hurting, I couldn't help it. I took a drink of this vanilla extract because I was in the mood for something sweet and I love vanilla, but this tastes nothing like vanilla. Who named this? If you work at the Starbucks in West Hollywood, just know that I dropped a venti dump in the toilet 5 minutes ago. My stomach was hurting, I couldn't help it. I put on Rain ASMR to help me sleep, but every time I close my eyes, the only thing my big back can hear is chicken being fried. I can't help it. If anyone ever tells you that 1 minute isn't a long time, tell them to do a plank. I can't make it much longer. How long has it been? Oh, it's been 12 seconds. I forgot to get chopsticks for the sushi, but I don't have any at home, so I just picked up the first thing I could find to eat these, which was my little cousin's Barbie doll. And it's a lot harder than it looks. My friend stole my TV remote last night, but before he left, he changed the channel to the show where this bear speaks Chinese, and now I can't change it back. Someone please help me. I'm done sharing my location with my friends, because tell me why I just got a text while I was at the store that said, bro's really shopping at Goodwill right now. So I asked him how he knew that, and he said he was looking at my location. But then 30 minutes later, he texted me again and was like, really bro? Burger King for dinner? Stop stalking me! I bought this blue drink because it looked like a shield potion from Fortnite, but after opening it, it smelled really weird. So I checked out the label, and it turns out this isn't a big pot, it's laundry detergent. I'm gonna need to get revived if I drink this. To all the people who make fun of me for being colorblind, I can still do everything that normal people can do. Like right now, I'm about to eat an orange. Oh. Why is it so sour? Why did no one tell me that they created the rose emoji in real life? I was just outside for the first time this year, and as I'm walking, I was like, wait, this is the emoji from my phone. How did they do this? The worst part about having a girlfriend is that she's always trying to record videos of me. Babe, give me my phone back. Stop. What am I doing with my life? I tried using my microwave as an alarm clock because my phone died, but I don't think you're supposed to do that because after about 2 hours of using it, it just started flashing like this. I think it's gonna explode. My ice cream cone is melting, but I can't lick it yet because I haven't found a good video to watch while eating it, and I physically cannot eat without watching a video. What do? I couldn't find a video. If you ever have to call 911, do not hang up no matter what. Because I called them for the first time today when I was going for a hike in the mountains and I started to smell smoke. So I looked around and saw a fire starting, but it wasn't that big yet. So I was like, I better call 911 so they can stop it before it gets worse. And without thinking twice, I dialed the number. But for some reason, the moment I pressed the call button, I got super nervous because I've never called 911 before. And I felt like I was gonna get in trouble. So before they answered, I hung up. And instead, I just told one of the people that worked at the mountain that a fire was starting. But then I started to freak out because I thought about how the police probably saw that I called them right while I was next to the fire. So they were gonna think I did it. So then I was like, should I call them back and apologize or what? But I don't think you can just call 911 back. Am I supposed to leave a voicemail or something? I don't know. Never DM your celebrity crush. Because my friend and I were talking about our celebrity crushes the other day and he dared me to DM mine. So I did it right away without thinking twice about it because I thought there was no chance she would see it. And I completely forgot I even sent this DM until the next morning when I'm on my phone and I see that she viewed the message I sent to her. And you might be like, well, Tyler, isn't this supposed to be a good thing? No, because since I thought there was no chance she would ever see the message, I let my friend decide what to say. And this is where I went wrong because he asked for feet pics from my account. So since she saw that message and left me on red, I was like, oh, I better DM her back and tell her that it was just a joke. But I couldn't because she blocked me. My celebrity crush blocked me because she thought I was a weird fan who likes toes. If you're seeing this, I don't, I promise. How are you still single? How have you never had a girlfriend before? I was just at the store and a girl told me I smelled nice, but you know what my response was? I said, are you sure? I haven't even showered today. I don't know what to do anymore. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you're hanging out with two people and your mutual friend leaves. Like for some reason, I just completely forget how to talk when this happens. Because I was at the carnival with my friend one time, but his other friend, who I didn't really know, also came. And it was going fine until we got to the Ferris wheel. Because we were all gonna go on it together, but when we got to the front of the line, the worker told us there was only 2 people allowed per cart. So my friend was like, oh, well, I invited both of you guys, so I don't wanna make either of you go by yourself. How about you go together and I go alone? And I didn't wanna be rude, so I was like, yeah, that's fine. So we went on the Ferris wheel, just us two, but it was horrible because we were literally facing each other, not saying anything. So I tried to break the silence and I was like, what's your favorite color? But then he just goes, green. I just gave up after that. And we just sat in awkward silence for the next 5 minutes.
This is your warning to never be friends with a bilingual person. Because I have a friend that speaks English and Spanish, but his parents are from Mexico, so they don't know any English. So when I met them for the first time, it was a nightmare because my friend likes to troll a lot, but he had to be the translator for me to communicate with his parents since he was the only one who knew both languages. So when we talked, he would purposely mistranslate what I said to his parents because he thought it was funny. Like I was in the car with his whole family and his mom asked what type of music I listened to. So I told her that I mostly listen to rap and R&B. But when I said this, my friend starts chuckling when he's trying to relay the message to his parents. But then I understood it because when he spoke Spanish back to his parents, I only recognized one of the words he said, which was Diddy. He told his parents that I like to listen to Diddy. So from there on out, I just started using my phone to translate what they said.
Never make eye contact with someone who has a lazy eye. Because the other day, I was at the airport and someone right behind me goes, excuse me. So I turn around and look at them, but right away, I noticed they had a lazy eye, so I couldn't tell if they were looking at me or not. But when I looked back at them, they said, do you like that jacket? But this is where I messed up because they had headphones in and I wasn't wearing a jacket at the time. So since one of his eyes wasn't looking at me, I just assumed he was on the phone and I turned back around. But when I did that, he went, that was rude. So I turned to look at him again, but he still looked like he wasn't talking to me because of his lazy eye. So finally I just go, eh? And he nods his head yes. So that was when I realized he was talking about the jacket I had on in my screensaver. So I apologized, but I didn't know what else to say because I couldn't just be like, oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't tell you were talking to me because of your lazy eye. I should have just pretended to be deaf.
Why do I look so different in pictures compared to real life? Because I don't think I'm bad looking, but when someone takes a picture of me, I'll look at it and be like, oh, I thought you were taking a photo of me. Not Jabba the Hutt. But it makes no sense because I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, this is what I look like. But if I don't move and take a picture in that exact same spot, I don't recognize myself. And the worst part is, if my friend takes a picture of me and I say how I look ugly in it and it doesn't look anything like me, they'll be like, what do you mean? That's what you always look like. What? You're telling me my face always looks like something a 3rd grader would draw with their non-dominant hand? That doesn't make me feel better. And for some reason, I look completely different in all the app's cameras. So I know it's not just my brain playing tricks on me. I just don't know which app shows the real me in the camera. For all you guys know, I don't even look like this in real life. Nobody talks about how Gen Z has a secret way of communicating. Because the other day, I texted my friend, but they got a new phone, so they didn't recognize my number. But when I told them who I was, they were like, I would have never guessed it was you based off the way you talk. So I asked what they meant by that, and they told me that I communicate like an old person, not someone in Gen Z. I didn't know what that meant, so I made him explain what exactly
talking like a Gen Z person looks like. And he told me almost everyone in our generation never capitalizes the first letter of a sentence. But I do, so that's why he thought I was old. The worst part was he made fun of me for it, saying it looks dumb how I text. But like, dog, you're laughing at me because I use correct grammar? There's no way I'm the one getting cooked. So I asked him why everyone in our generation does this, and he was like, it just looks better. Since when do you care how good your text message looks? This ain't the Declaration of Independence. I don't care if it looks pretty. Never double text someone you have a crush on, because I used to do this all the time until one day. I was texting this girl I liked, and she told me she was going to the mountains for the weekend. So while she was up there, I texted her asking how it was going, but she didn't respond. So about 10 hours later, I text again thinking that she probably just didn't have cell service and couldn't see the first text. Then I go to bed, but when I wake up in the morning, there's still no response. So I check her Snap score to see if it's gone up since the last time she responded to me. It's not weird, everyone does it. But anyways, it did go up. So I knew she had service, and I was just like, well, let's just try texting her one more time just in case she didn't see the first two. But you know what happens right when I send the text? My messages go from being blue to green. You know why? She blocked me. This was so embarrassing though, because I could just imagine her reaction after I sent the third text being like, damn, another text? This guy won't shut up. But I learned my lesson that day. Now, I don't talk to women at all. Why is it so hard to date in Gen Z? Like, I'm pretty sure everyone in this generation is gonna end up alone. Because there was this girl that would like my story every time I posted, but in real life, she would never talk to me. So eventually, one of her friends came up to me and was like, dude, why don't you talk to Sarah? So I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, you know Sarah likes you, right? She's been trying to flirt with you for a while now. And I was like, no, she never even talks to me. But then her friend was like, yeah, but she always likes your stories. So that's how people flirt now? I just figured she thought the memes I reposted were funny. Like, how am I supposed to know that's flirting? But I understand why no one wants to talk normally to the people they like in this generation, because if you do, odds are that what you say is just gonna end up in a screenshot that the whole school will see, and then they'll make fun of you for it. Am I speaking from experience? That's not important. If you ever need an excuse to skip school, do not say you have to go to a funeral. Because one time, I was going on vacation with my family, so I was gonna miss some school. But I needed an excuse to tell my teacher to not get in trouble, and I decided to tell her that I was going to my grandma's funeral. But I really didn't want her to question it, so I made it super dramatic, and I was like, yeah, this is the last grandma I had. But I really shouldn't have said this, because the teacher told me to take as much time off as I need. So a couple months later, the end of the school year came around, and this was my last year of elementary school, so we had like a graduation event for everyone that was gonna be moving on to middle school. But guess who came to this event? My grandma. And I totally forgot that I told my teacher she passed away. So when the event ended, my teacher came to say goodbye, and she started talking to my whole family, including my grandma. So when my grandma introduced herself, my teacher looked as if she saw a ghost, because she probably thought she did. Once I realized why she had that look on her face, I was like, okay, time to go. I'm just glad I never had to go back. Never buy shoes off Temu, because I was in class the other day and this kid walks in with a brand new pair of shoes, but they looked a little bit weird, so I knew right away that he got them off Temu, because that man shops on that website like it's Black Friday every day. So anyways, he's wearing these shoes and we had a test that day, so the whole class was completely silent. Like, if you talk, the teacher's gonna fail you. So while everyone is taking the test, a song randomly starts playing out of what sounds like a really low quality speaker. And everyone starts looking around trying to find where it's coming from, but then I look at the Temu kids' shoes and they're flashing red, matching the sound of the beat. You know why? Because the song was coming from his shoes. The shoes had speakers in them. Apparently the shoe can play like 3 songs, and he accidentally tapped the button that starts it. So he immediately pressed the button again, trying to turn the song off as fast as he could. But why would you wear your Temu shoes to school in the first place? Did anyone else have a friend growing up that your parents trusted, even though they shouldn't have? Like, my parents would let me go anywhere when I was younger, as long as my friend Jaden was coming. Because he was really good at talking to adults, so they thought he was the most responsible, respectful kid ever. Like, when he came over, he would always shake their hands and be super mature, so my parents just figured that he was a good kid for their son to be around. But what they didn't know is how he acted when adults weren't around, because the moment we would leave, he would turn crazy. Like when Jaden's pet fish passed away, instead of burying it or flushing it down the toilet like a normal person, he filled the fish bowl with Coke and Mentos, which made the deceased fish shoot up into the air. It literally flew like 15 feet and then splattered onto the ground. I didn't know whether to be terrified or amazed by what I just saw, but this was like normal for him. He would do things like this all the time. But the moment that adults came around, he turned on that parents' riz. This is your warning to never compliment a pregnant lady. Because I was at the doctor's office the other day, but right as I arrived in the waiting room, all of the seats were taken except for this one next to this lady who looked really pregnant. So I asked her if anyone was sitting in it, and she said no, so I sat down. But this led to her making small talk with me, and she complimented my outfit, so I wanted to give her a compliment back. And since she was very pregnant looking, I said, thanks. You make pregnancy look easy with how much energy you've got. But right when I said that, her face dropped and she went, I'm not pregnant. So I immediately turned red and I'm like, yeah, of course you're not. I don't know what I was thinking. But as I'm rambling, trying to apologize, she goes, I'm just kidding. I love telling people I'm not pregnant when they bring it up just to see their reaction. That's not cool.
I'm pretty sure she almost made me go into labor.
You can always tell when someone is a middle child because they do not get treated like everyone else. Because one time, I was at an amusement park with 5 other people, and one of them was a middle child. So during this whole day, we were going on different rides, but it was super crowded there. So about 3 hours into being there, we realized we lost our middle child friend. So I was like, wait, guys, has anyone seen Cole? But no one had, so we figured he just went to the bathroom or something without telling us. So we called him to tell him where we were at, and he finally met back up with us. But we asked him what happened, and he told us he got separated from us right when we entered the park. So we were like, you got separated from us 3 hours ago and didn't try to call to find us? And he was like, nah, I'm used to people losing track of me. It happens all the time at home, so I just wandered off and went on some roller coasters by myself. I felt horrible for that, but honestly, I respect middle children a lot. They're way less needy than us younger siblings.
Why do best friends never take pictures together? Because I was talking to this girl the other day and I was telling her about my friend because I thought they would like each other. But then she said, oh, well, do you have any pictures of him you can show me? So I started looking through my camera roll because I've known him for a while, so I was super confident I had a picture of us together. But after scrolling for about 5 minutes, I only found one picture. And the only reason I had this one was because it's the picture that the Postmates driver takes of you when they deliver your food. I had it saved because the Postmates driver used flash to take the picture, so we looked terrified and I thought it was super funny. So I had no other option but to show this picture to the girl, and she was like, is that the best pic you got? Then I was like, girl, that's the only pic I got. Keep in mind, we've been friends since 1st grade, yet the only picture I had of us together was one that the Postmates driver took. I just got banned from my favorite restaurant for life because my friend thought one of the girls that worked there was super pretty. And we eat here all the time, so eventually he got her number, and soon after that, they started dating. But this was really dumb of my friend to do because after a while, he lost feelings and broke up with her. So they were not on good terms, but she still worked at the restaurant and we still wanted to eat there. But we knew we could never go when she was on the clock because she hates us now and it would be super awkward. But the first time we tried going after they broke up, it ended horribly because she told all her coworkers about how my friend broke her heart. So they just gave us the worst service ever on purpose. Like I ordered a burger and I'm pretty sure that thing was still mooing because they did not cook it at all. They also didn't come around to give us refills once. I don't know why I got dragged into this though. I didn't do anything to her. I just wanted my half-pound burger with American cheese and grilled onions. But instead, I gotta keep eating this dang yogurt. A person I went to school with passed away like a year ago, and I was going through a list of the people that I follow, and their name came up, so I'm trying to decide if I should unfollow them or not. I feel like it's messed up to do, but we weren't close or anything, we were just acquaintances. And I know this may sound crazy, but I have a feeling that if I unfollow them, their ghost will haunt me. I know it probably won't happen, but I don't want to take the chance. Like, they're never gonna post again, so do I need to follow them? Also, their account is private, so if I unfollow them, I will never be able to follow them again. What do I do? Gender reveals are going way too far. Because tell me why I just saw one where the couple was in a jacuzzi. So I was thinking the color of their bathing suit would change to blue or pink when they got out or something like that. But no, instead, they count down going 3, 2, 1. And then there's just an awkward silence for a second where no one moves until you slowly start to see the water in the jacuzzi turn pink. They were finding out the gender of their baby by peeing in a jacuzzi. And they were doing it in front of their whole family. There's no way one of them thought of that idea, pitched it to their partner, and they were like, wow, that's a great idea. I'm convinced someone forced them to do this. But somehow, that's not even as bad as another gender reveal I heard about on the news because they used colored fireworks and it started a forest fire. There goes that kid's college fund. Like, why can't y'all just stick to slicing open a cake or something? Someone put my number on Craigslist saying that I'm selling wheelchairs. So now every day I'm getting calls from old people asking to buy these wheelchairs. So old people are horrible with technology and they don't understand that there's no wheelchairs. So they keep calling me back every day. I don't know if these people just have dementia and they forget that they already called me 20 times, or if they're just horrible at using the internet. But either way, they won't stop. So if you see someone selling wheelchairs on Craigslist, it's fake. Don't call the number.
Nobody talks about how scary it is to see your teacher in public. Because I was at a restaurant with my family one time, but as the waitress was seating us, I see my teacher eating with her family. So I tried looking in the opposite direction because I didn't want her seeing me, but then we arrive at our table, which happened to be the one right next to them. So we sit down and I've just got my head turned like this, which makes my parents be like, Tyler, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, you know, I just got a sore neck. But then they're like, you look ridiculous, sit up straight. So I do, and despite trying my hardest to avoid eye contact, the teacher sees me. So she waves and goes, oh, hi, Tyler. Is this mom and dad? But I didn't want her talking to my parents because I knew she was gonna tell them how bad I behave in class. So I'm just like, yeah, and then she goes, this one's a big troublemaker, huh? And my parents look at me confused because they had no idea about my behavior in class. So to stop her from saying any more, I was just like, enjoy your dinner, Miss Garendo.
This is your warning to never text a girl past midnight. Because I used to like this girl, so I would stay up late texting her every night, and I really enjoyed it. But this turned out to be a huge mistake because one night, we're texting at like 12:15 a.m. and I'm super tired because I went on a hike that day, so I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. But we're having a really good conversation, so I don't want to just end it and respond the next day because that would have ruined the flow of it. So I'm fighting super hard to stay awake until eventually, my body forces me to fall asleep. So the next morning, I wake up and check my phone to see that this girl texted me saying, "Wow, that's so rude of you to say." But I don't remember what I said last night, so I'm like, what is she talking about? So I click on our conversation to see what made her say that, and then I started to remember what happened. Because before I fell asleep, my friend was also texting me asking when I wanted to go snowboarding. So I responded to him saying, "I don't care." Or at least I thought I did. Turns out, I actually sent the girl that text because I was so tired. But this was really bad because you know what she said before I sent that text? She said, "My grandma's had heart disease for a while." So basically, I said, I don't care about that. Well, isn't that great timing?
How do people break up, then say they hate their ex? Because I know so many people who are like, my ex is the worst person on earth. My ex is so ugly. You literally chose to date them. A couple of months ago, you said you loved them. Do you know how much you have to like someone to date them? And now all of a sudden they're ugly? Like, why can't a relationship just end and both people say, oh, we just weren't a good match? Your ex doesn't always have to be the worst person on earth. Personally, I don't think it's a good look when you talk that negative about your ex. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Why does everything cause cancer these days? Like, someone told me that I needed to start wearing sunscreen or else I would get skin cancer, so I did. But then when I started using the sunscreen, I saw a video talking about how that exact sunscreen causes cancer too. What am I supposed to even do at this point? I'm scared to breathe because I think someone's gonna say that causes cancer. I'm just gonna stay inside my house for the rest of my life.
Why does school make you so ugly? Like every morning I wake up and get ready for about 30 minutes trying to look my absolute best for all the ladies. And when I leave the house, I feel like I look like Brad Pitt. But the moment I walk through those school gates, I turn into Quasimodo. And you might be like, oh, Tyler, it's all in your head. But no, I've literally taken pictures before to prove it. I took a pic of myself right before leaving for school, and then I took a pic when I arrived in class. And when you compare them, I looked more different than Michael Jackson when he switched colors. But how I know for sure that I'm not crazy is this doesn't just happen to me. Like, there are girls I went to school with, and whenever they would post on social media, I almost wouldn't recognize them because of how different they looked online compared to in person. But the most frustrating part about all this is right when school ends and I go back home, I look fine again. Who's doing this to us? Why are people in scary movies so dumb? Because I was just watching a scary movie that made me so frustrated with the characters that by the end, I was hoping the killer would get them. Like, tell me why I'm watching this movie where these girls are given a videotape and they're told that if they watch it, they will pass away. But what do? Immediately watch the tape. Like, I have no sympathy for you. People in horror movies just need to mind their own business. Don't watch these haunted tapes, don't go inside any freaky tunnels, and don't buy a house where the past 40 people who lived in it mysteriously passed away. Have you ever noticed that every person who doesn't make it in a horror movie was snooping around somewhere they shouldn't have been? Like, this is how I would be if I was in a horror movie. What's that? Oh, you think we should go into that creepy house over there even though you literally just saw a ghost turn the last person who entered into a pretzel? Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I hate Christmas for one reason, which is the fact that I don't know how to react to receiving gifts. Like, someone could literally give me a Lamborghini as a present and this would be my reaction. Oh, nice. And that's not even an exaggeration because one year on Christmas, I really wanted a specific bike. I told my parents how bad I wanted it for months, but it was really expensive. So they were like, sorry, Tyler, but don't expect to get the bike for Christmas. So when Christmas Day came, I ran into the living room to see if there were any big boxes that could have this bike in it. But there weren't any, so I was super sad until we all finished opening presents and my mom said, wait guys, there's one more gift for Tyler. Then she went into the garage and came back with the exact bike I asked for. I was so happy on the inside, but because I'm so bad at reacting to gifts, my parents thought I didn't even like it. So next time I get a gift, this is how I'm gonna be. A screwdriver? No way, Mom and Dad, you guys are the best. This is your warning to never work at a fast food restaurant. Because when I was 15, I got my very first job at a Taco Bell, but I quit after a week because I didn't realize how bad it would be. Like, I had this coworker who was at least 50 years old, and he would always work the same exact shift as me, but he was going through a divorce at the time. So every day, he would just tell me about his family problems. He was talking about how his wife was gonna leave him and take the kids with her because he couldn't afford to pay the bills, and I was like, well, yeah, you work at Taco Bell. But he would talk to me like I was his therapist. Like, dog, I'm 15, I've never been in a relationship. How do you think I could possibly help you with this? Just put the tacos in the bag. He's working there to keep a roof over his family's head. Meanwhile, I'm just clocking in so I can afford the new Fortnite Battle Pass. Like, I did not sign up for this. And don't get me wrong, I felt bad for him. So I still tried giving him advice. It definitely wasn't good advice because they still got divorced, but I tried.
Does anyone else have a friend who eats non-stop but never gains weight? Like, I know a guy who will eat in literally any scenario, yet he's still super skinny. And I'm not even exaggerating, because his sister had a baby recently, and he sent me a bunch of pictures of him holding it for the first time in the delivery room. And he said they were taken like 20 minutes after the baby was born. But what I found odd about the pictures was that in a lot of them, his mouth looked full. So I was like, dude, did you get stung by a bee or something while you were in there? And he was like, no, I was eating Burger King. So I was like, hold up, let me get this straight. You were eating Burger King in the delivery room 20 minutes after your sister had a baby. And he goes, yeah, I was hungry. You're always hungry. That doesn't mean you eat a Whopper 14 seconds after your baby nephew was born. But the craziest part is that he does stuff like this all the time, yet he never gains weight. Meanwhile, I sniffed a cinnamon roll the other day and gained 13 pounds. Must be nice.
Have you ever gotten close with someone you never thought you'd talk to? Because back in school, I had two separate friends that hated each other. Because when I would hang out with one of them, the other one would get upset that I wasn't hanging out with them. So one day, I had the idea for us to all eat lunch together. Because they never even actually talked. The only reason they didn't like each other was because of me. So we all ate lunch together that day, and I think both of them started to realize that they had a lot more in common than they thought, and the only reason they disliked each other was for a dumb reason. So over time, we started to hang out as a group, and I was super happy about it at first. But unfortunately, they grew way closer than I ever expected because eventually, they started hanging out without me. It was basically like introducing your girlfriend to your homie, and then she cheats on you with him. I hope y'all are happy together, man.
This is a warning if you're thinking about texting your crush first, because I used to like this girl, but I would never text her because I thought to myself, if she likes me back, she'll initiate the conversation. But she never did, so we literally never talked. And I saw her for the first time in years yesterday, and I asked her, why did you never hit me up? And she said, I was waiting for you to make the first move. So we literally never talked because we were both waiting for the other person to make the first move. And I was thinking to myself like, damn, I wonder what could have happened between us if I hit her up first. But now she's engaged, so I think that's off the table. But this should be your sign. If you like someone, text them first. They'll probably be happy you did, or they'll block you. At least you'll get an answer.
Nobody talks about how scary it is to play music with your parents in the car. Because I never realized how dirty most of the songs I like are until I listened to them around my mom and dad. Like one time, I was in the car with them and I needed to charge my phone, so I plugged it into the aux, which made my music start playing. Then I was like, oh, let me choose a good song so my parents think I have a good music taste. So I put on the song With Them by Young Thug. But if you've ever heard this song before, you know that the moment it starts playing, it gets really inappropriate. So my mom was like, oh my gosh, Tyler, this is so vulgar. And my dad was like, heck yeah, this is awesome. But I was so embarrassed. I quickly changed it to gospel music just to try to make them forget about what happened. Like I literally had no idea how dirty that song was until I listened to it with my parents in the car. I guess I just never actually pay attention to lyrics, but I learned my lesson. Never again.
Situationships need to be abolished. Because every time I hear someone talk about their situationship, it just sounds like a bad rom-com. Like, what do you mean you guys have been in the talking stage for 2 years? Let's be real. If you are not dating by then, you're never gonna be. But then they'll be like, no, we're soulmates. We've already planned our future together. Yet at the same time, they will purposely avoid making eye contact with them when they pass each other at school. But it gets worse because one day they'll be crying, so you have to ask them why they're crying, and then they'll say it's because their situationship is talking to other people. So then you say, well, are you guys dating? And they say no, so then you say, yeah, that's what happens when someone's single. They talk to other people. But then they say, she's not single though. What? Situationships are more confusing than my math class, and I'm almost failing. I genuinely get a headache trying to understand them. You know what a situationship really is? Delusion. Because has anyone ever had a situationship that actually worked out in the long term? No. So that means you should break up with your situationship. Or don't, actually. I don't care. Just stop talking to me about them.
Why are guys so bad at taking hints? Because I fumbled a bag with girls so many times because I couldn't tell they were flirting. Like I used to sit next to this girl in school, and one day she was like, man, my back is super sore. I really wish I could get a massage. But as she said this, she leaned over towards me as if she was insinuating that she wanted me to give her the massage. But being the clueless man I am, I was just like, oh, I actually have back problems too. I could recommend you a really good therapist. But then she was like, oh no, that's okay. I think I really need the massage like right now. Then she scooted over even closer. So finally, I knew she wanted me to give her the massage. So I said I could help her. But I still didn't know she was flirting. So I did not give her the massage she was looking for. Because I just did the karate chop on her back. She was like, why are you doing it like that? And I said, the massage therapist told me this is the best way to get the knots out of your back. Trust me. But after about 5 seconds, she was like, It's okay, you can stop. I can never notice the hints until it's too late.
Does anyone else ever text someone on one social media app while having a completely different conversation with them at the same time on another app? Like my friend was texting me on iMessage telling me how angry he was with me because I couldn't make it to his birthday party. But then on another app, we were texting about if we think we could land a plane if the pilot passed away. Like he didn't even seem angry in that conversation, but on the other app, he was furious. But this gave me an idea. If your girlfriend or boyfriend is mad at you, just start texting them on a different app.
they might not be mad at you anymore. This could actually work.
Welcome back to oversharing to you guys because I don't have any friends to overshare to. So I always thought I was gonna want an open casket at my funeral, but I recently found out that that is a horrible idea. Because last month I went to a funeral that had an open casket, and while everyone was super sad and crying, there was a girl that's about 11 years old, and she ran up to the casket and took a selfie with the corpse. Yes, she took a selfie with a deceased body. Now I don't blame her, she's a child, but if you think I'm gonna get caught lacking at my own funeral and let someone take a selfie with me while I can't pose, that's not happening. I get insecure when people take pictures of me when I know it's gonna happen. You think I'm gonna let someone take a picture of me while I can't pose? No. Like imagine if they get a picture of your bad side. That's so embarrassing. I'm not letting that happen.
This is your warning to never invite me to a funeral. Because I went to one of my friend's grandma's funeral a long time ago. But right when we arrived, everyone was crowding around her casket. And I didn't know why, so being the young, curious kid I was, I walked over to the casket. And this was one of the first funerals I've ever been to. But prior to this, I had no idea that some funerals have open caskets. So I walk right up to the casket and see that it's open. But I was too little to actually see inside it. So I got closer to it and stood on my tippy toes. And that was when I saw my friend's grandma just chilling there. I screamed so loud because at the time, I genuinely thought that I saw a ghost. It just looked like she was sleeping and I had no idea what was going on. So I started crying. Not for the same reason everyone else was, but it just made the whole situation so awkward. If anyone from that family is watching this, my bad. This is your warning to never date someone who's the youngest child. Because I was talking to this girl once and she invited me over to have dinner with her family. But what she didn't tell me is that she's the youngest sibling and she has 3 older brothers. So right when I walk in their house, all 3 of the brothers are in the living room staring at me. And they had a very serious look on their face. So I introduced myself to them. But I could tell they really wanted to intimidate me because they shook my hand really hard. So the intimidation was working because later on, we're all at the dinner table eating until one of the brothers goes, "Hey mom, look at this new toy I got." Then he goes into his room and comes back with a machete. So we're all just eating dinner while he has a machete at the table. But the scary part is he started sharpening it while making eye contact with me. He was basically saying like, "Hey, if you mess with my sister, I'm gonna use this thing on you." And listen, I liked this girl, but not enough to fight off ninjas. So that was the last time I ever went over there.
Never let your parents see your browsing history. Because one time, I was trying to find this song that I couldn't remember the title of. So I typed the only lyrics I remembered into Google. But these lyrics happened to be very weird, and this is how they went. "If you was my sister, then I would kiss you." And I made the mistake of not clearing out my browsing history once I found the song, because a couple days later, my mom asked if she could look something up on my computer, so I let her. And right as she typed the letter I into Google, it showed my previous search, which was, "If you were my sister, I would kiss you." So when she saw this, she was like, "Tyler, why would you Google this?" And I was like, "Mom, it's not what it looks like. I can explain." But then she goes, "Actually, you know what? Don't even tell me. I don't want to know." But I was like, "Mom, no, I promise it's not as weird as it sounds." But I could tell she didn't believe me. So now I'm pretty sure that she thinks I want to kiss my sister, and I don't even have one.
Never meet your online friends in person. Because there was this person I was friends with on social media since we both watched each other's content. And we talked quite a bit, so eventually they were like, "We should meet up in person." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm down." But this was a big mistake because we planned on meeting each other sometime in 2025. But a couple weeks after we planned it, I opened up social media one day and find out they're on the run from the police because they were involved in their therapist passing away. When I first saw this, I was like, "Oh, it just must be another internet joke." But then I saw actual news stations reporting it, so I was like, "Wait, they might have done this." So I call them, no response. Text them, no response. And after a couple days, my text messages went from being blue to green. So I don't know where they're at right now, but I can tell you that we are not meeting in real life anymore. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when your teacher says to get into groups, but no one wants to work with you. Because one time, I was put in the math class at my school that's meant for the smartest students, so it's really hard. But I'm not smart with math. I don't know why I was put in it. So when the day came where we had to do a group project, it was awful because the teacher said to get into groups of 4. So I start looking around at everyone I know in the class. But every time I'd make eye contact with someone, they'd look away because no one wanted to work with me. And I don't blame them. I would have just held them back. But what made it traumatizing is since I couldn't find a group, I asked the teacher if I could work alone. But since there was no one left to work with, she was my partner. I mean, the good thing was I got an A on the project because of her, but still.
Remembering you have free will is so crazy because I used to get bullied in school for being a little chubby. It wasn't that bad. It was just kind of annoying. But anyways, this one guy would always make jokes about me. So one day, I'm at school and he's cooking me like usual, saying I got more rolls than a Thanksgiving dinner. Good one, can't lie. But he's making all these jokes and I'm getting so angry that I'm about to do something that's gonna get me put in detention. But then randomly out of nowhere, I was like, wait, I don't have to listen to this. So as he's making fun of me, without saying anything, I just start walking away. And the guy kind of stutters for a second because he's confused what I'm doing. So then he's like, hey, where are you going? But I just ignored him and kept walking until he stopped trying to say anything to me. And once I realized this works, I just did it every day until eventually he stopped bothering me. I'm gonna just leave every time I'm talking to someone I don't want to talk to. Nobody talks about how scary it is to go to school the day after a substitute leaves a bad note. Because one time, my class had a substitute who was an old lady, but she was super small and not intimidating. So the whole time she would try to teach, everyone would just mess around and talk over her. It got to the point where she had to scream just so everyone would be quiet. But after she did that, she said she'd be leaving our teacher a note about how bad we behaved. So the next day, I walk into the classroom and see a list of 7 names on the whiteboard, but one of them was mine. So the bell rings and the teacher goes, everyone sit down and don't say a word. So we did. Then the teacher says, never in my 35 years of teaching have I gotten a note this bad from a substitute. They left me a list with names of everyone who misbehaved, and all of you who are on it will be staying an hour after class for the next week writing an apology essay to the sub. So if you have a substitute, just behave. How do you compliment the opposite gender without making them think you're flirting? Because the other day I saw this girl and she had a sick jacket on. So I said, I like your jacket. And she was really sweet, but she was like, oh, thank you. But I actually have a boyfriend. Okay. And I have a goldfish. Like, are we just naming things that we have or what? Like, I don't think I could have said nice jacket any more platonically than I did, but it still sounded like I was flirting. But the worst part is that now it seems like I was desperate for her and I just got turned down. So how do I make it sound like I'm not flirting? Like, do I just need to be like, girl, that jacket is slaying? Because I've thought about it, and that's like the only way I think I can give a compliment without it sounding flirtatious. What if I just start giving compliments in sign language? Would that work? I'm gonna be like, girls who grew up with brothers are way different than girls who grew up with sisters. Because I have 2 friends that are girls. However, one of them only has brothers while the other just has sisters. And the difference between them is night and day because we would eat lunch together all the time, but eventually I noticed something strange while we ate, which was that the girl with just brothers would always eat her food like 5 times faster than the girl with just sisters. But not only did she eat faster, she also always looked worried that someone was gonna take the food from her. So one time I was like, damn girl, no one's gonna steal your food. But then she explained to me that it's a habit for her to eat like this because when she was younger, she had to eat her food super fast or else her brothers would just take it all. She rarely ever got to actually have a full meal because her brothers would just eat the majority of the food. Meanwhile, the girl with the sister ate like a damn turtle. You know she wasn't competing for food in her house. School bathrooms have to be the scariest place on earth because one time my mom bought me donuts for breakfast and I love donuts, so I ate 7 of them, then went directly to school. But about 2 hours into class, I felt rumblings in my stomach and it felt like Mike Tyson was in a fight with my intestines. So at that point, I knew I had no choice but to go into the school bathroom and go number 2. So I went into the stall, but then someone else walked into the bathroom with a speaker playing music. Then I heard another person come in, and another. And another. Eventually there was like 30 people inside the bathroom and they were all singing along to the music that was playing through the speaker. But they were going crazy in there. They were shaking the stall doors, throwing pencils. It felt like a war zone. I was terrified, but I had no idea what was going on. So when I got out of the stall, I asked someone what was happening. And apparently they were having a memorial for Harambe passing away because this was the day after that happened. Honestly, I wasn't even mad because I miss Harambe too, man. This is your warning to not be an instigator because I got 2 kids suspended from school for being one. So there was these kids in my class who had beef with each other because they dated the same girl and I sat next to the one who was currently dating her. But this was math class and it was super boring, so I decided to instigate. So these kids would just stare at each other with angry looks during class, but it never felt like they were actually gonna do anything. It was like when 2 dogs bark at each other from behind a gate, but then when you open the gate, they stop acting tough. It was like that. But then one day, the kid I sat next to showed up to class really angry and I was like, what's going on? He was like, my girl's ex keeps talking trash about me. And because I was so bored, I was like, oh, this is my shot. So I was like, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, what do you mean? And then I said, you're just gonna let him talk like that? Personally, I wouldn't allow that. And then he was like, should I do something? And then I said, well, only if you love your girlfriend, yeah. So this motivated him and he told the other guy to meet him at lunch to fight. And the other guy agreed because they both still liked the girl. So they fought and the teacher saw and they both ended up getting suspended. And the worst part was it wasn't even a good fight. I feel kind of horrible because this was definitely my fault. So don't do this, guys. Don't do it. Never tell your barber that you don't like their haircut because one time I was at a barber shop and the barber literally sliced a dude's ear. Like his ear started bleeding. It looked like Mike Tyson bit it. But because the guy was so scared to tell the barber that there was a problem, he just told him it was fine and to keep cutting his hair. And I know he was lying because I could literally see him trying to hold back tears during the rest of the haircut. But there was nothing you could have done to make that man tell the barber that he had a problem with the haircut. You just can't do it. I don't know why. You can never tell the barber you don't like their haircut. I think it might be illegal.
Waking up first at a sleepover is the worst thing ever. Because whenever I was at a sleepover, I would always wake up at like 6 a.m. because I can't sleep unless I'm in my own bed. So I'd obviously be the first one awake. But this was a big problem because the only other person who was up would be my friend's dad. And don't get me wrong, I like my friend's dad, but he scared me. He wasn't much of a talker. So when the morning came around and it was just us 2 up, he would be like, I'm making breakfast right now.
I'll make you some too. And I couldn't decline the breakfast because that would be rude, but when he made it, we would just sit there eating together without him saying anything. We'd literally be at the table sitting across from each other and he would just be silent the whole time. And I was like 10, so I didn't know how to have a conversation with an adult, so it was the most awkward thing ever. But after the first couple times this happened, I just pretended to be asleep after I woke up. I'd still be up at like 6 a.m., but I would just sit there with my eyes closed for like 4 hours waiting for my friends to wake up. Maybe the reason I always woke up first at my friend's house was because he would just give me a cardboard box to sleep on and not a real bed. I miss those days.
Third wheeling a couple can either be the best experience ever or the worst experience ever, because I used to third wheel my friend and his girlfriend and it literally felt like I was their child. I loved it. But when they would argue, it was horrible because they would make me get involved. Like my friend forgot their 1-year anniversary, so she got really angry at him. And then they started arguing with each other, so they asked me for my opinion on the situation. And what am I supposed to say? No matter who I agree with, someone is gonna be mad at me. But the worst part was that when they broke up, I literally felt like I was a child going through divorce. Like after the breakup, she would talk trash about him to me and he would talk trash about her to me. And I was like, you guys know that I'm still friends with both of you, right? Like stop talking bad about each other. Grow up already. You signed the papers already, all right? The divorce is final. Leave me out of it.
Have you ever told your mom to say no to a sleepover because you didn't want to go? Because I hated sleepovers as a child since I'd always be the first to fall asleep. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night with a tooth missing or something because everyone else would mess with me. But I have cool parents, so most of the time when one of my friends asked if I wanted to sleep over, my mom would say yes. So eventually, when I didn't want to go, I would just text my mom and be like, Mom, I'm gonna call you in a couple minutes to ask if I can sleep over at my friend's house. Please say no. And my mom would rather have me sleeping at home than at a friend's anyway, so she had no problem doing it. But my friends would always get mad at me because this is how the phone call would go. Hey mom, can I sleep over at my friend's house? No. Okay, bye. So they'd be like, dude, you didn't even try to convince her at all. And I would just be like, what? Yeah, I did. Little did they know, I was just terrified to fall asleep around them.
Never hire a Gen Z person to work for you. Because I was just at Chick-fil-A and the line was taking forever. But when it was my turn to order, I tell the guy what I want. But as I'm doing that, he keeps looking up directly behind me every 5 seconds. So I thought there was a ghost standing behind me or something. But then out of nowhere, he looks at the clock again, turns around, gets his stuff, and then leaves. Right in the middle of taking my order. So another worker sees this, rolls her eyes, and then finishes taking my order. But I asked her why that guy just left randomly, and she said he always leaves the second his shift ends. So the reason he was looking up behind me is because there was a clock on the wall, and the minute that clock struck 8 p.m., he was out of there. Honestly, I respect it because if you ain't getting paid to stay longer, you might as well leave. But bro, can you at least finish taking my order next time? Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when someone says you look like someone that is not good looking. Because I was at the mall the other day and a person who watches my videos came up to me and was like, Tyler, I'm so glad I found you. So I respond with, oh yeah, why is that? And he goes, because every time I watch your videos, I always think of how you look so much like this one movie character. So I ask what character and he says he'll show me. But before he does, he goes, you probably won't see it at first, but if you really look, there's a resemblance. So I'm thinking he's about to show me a picture of Brad Pitt or something, but then he turns the phone and it's the rat from Flushed Away. Immediately I was like, what are you talking about? I look nothing like him. But then he was like, here, compare it to a picture of yourself. So I do, and after a few seconds, I'm like, oh my gosh. I do look like him. You gotta be kidding me, man. Imagine meeting someone who watches your content in public and they just cook you. I can't catch a break. Nobody talks about how much worse pick-me boys are than pick-me girls. Cause I hear people all the time roast girls for being pick-me's, but boys are way worse. Cause I went to school with a pick-me guy and we sat next to each other in class. But there was also 2 other girls at our table and he would always try flirting with them. And they didn't really seem interested in him, but this kid was bold. So he would straight up just be like, do any of you guys wanna give me your number? And when they would politely decline, he would be like, yeah, I get it. I'm probably just too ugly, huh? But the very worst pick-me thing he ever did was when he brought a book to school and during all of lunch, he looked like he was reading it. So I asked him what the book was about and he said he didn't know. He just pretended to read the book hoping that girls would notice him. I respect it though. Game is game. Why do old people never throw expired food away? Like they'll have food from before World War II in their house, and that's not even an exaggeration because I went to my friend's grandpa's house one time and we were hungry, so my friend asked his grandpa if he had any snacks and he was like, yeah, check the fridge. So we open it and we find some cheese, so we're like, ooh, let's have cheese and crackers. So my friend asks his grandpa again if they have any crackers and he says, yeah, check the pantry. But we couldn't find any, so he comes to help us look and he reaches all the way in the back to find this dusty aluminum container, and when he opens it, there's crackers inside. But the container looks straight out of the war, so my friend made a joke saying, hey grandpa, did you get this when you were fighting in the war? And with a straight face, he goes, yeah. So my friend was like, wait, are you serious? And he says, yeah, I got these fighting in Vietnam. Those crackers were 60 years old. He lost his hearing in the war, but he made sure to keep his crackers. Having class with your friend is the worst thing ever because during school one day, a girl tripped walking to her desk and it was so bad that she dislocated her ankle. So she starts crying, but it's not like a cry. No, she's screaming. So the teacher and her friends are trying to console her while they're waiting for the nurse to get there. And the rest of the class is just kind of silent watching this happen, including me. until I look over at my best friend because he had the tiniest smirk on his face. So the moment I saw that, I started laughing out loud. It wasn't on purpose. I just can't stop myself from laughing every time I see that face. But the girl and her friends heard me laugh, and there was no way for me to explain that I wasn't laughing at them. I was laughing at my homie. They should blame my friend though. It's not my fault he was looking at me with that John Pork smile.
I'm never gonna understand Gen Alpha because I was at the airport the other day and this little kid on my flight recognized me. So we were talking a little bit, but then he started to tell me about the girl he has a crush on. And he starts describing her to me, but he's blushing as he's doing it, so I can tell that he really likes her. So eventually, I ask how they met, and he says that they've known each other since birth. So I'm like, oh wow, are your parents friends or something? But then he goes, no, my mom is her dad's sister. At first I'm like, oh, cool. But then I think about it a little more and I'm like, wait, your mom is her dad's sister. That means that girl is your cousin. He's still young though, so that's not a big deal. But I was thinking that I should probably tell him that it's not gonna work out between them. So I do, and he goes, oh, okay, I won't like her anymore then. I like another girl anyway. And I go, oh, really? Who? Then he says, my crush's sister. That's still your cousin, dog. At this point, you do you, bro.
This is your warning to never use the bathroom on an airplane. Because I was just on a flight and I got up to use the restroom, but someone was in there. So I waited until I heard the seatbelt sign turn on and the captain said, we're gonna be running into some slight turbulence for a little bit. Please sit down. But I really had to go to the bathroom, so I stayed by the door. And there was a moment where the whole plane shook really hard from the turbulence and I heard a loud thud come from the bathroom. So about 30 seconds later, the man in the bathroom comes out and he's staring at the ground, making sure to not make eye contact with me. But then I look down at his pants and they're all wet. So I go inside the bathroom and there is liquid all over the place. So I don't know if he was in the middle of going number one while the turbulence hit us and he lost control, or if something else happened. But it got even worse because after I was done in the bathroom, I came out and someone else was waiting, but right when they walked in, I heard them say, ew. So they definitely thought I was responsible for the mystery liquid. Thanks a lot, bathroom man. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when someone says, you would be a cute couple to you and your crush, but they don't agree. Because one time, I was talking to this girl and my friend knew that I liked her, so to help me out, he became my wingman and said, you know what I just realized about you guys? You would look so good as a couple. When he said this, I waited to see how she would react before I did anything. But immediately, with no hesitation, she just starts laughing hysterically. No words, just laughing. I've literally told her actual jokes before and I couldn't get her to laugh. But this did. So I don't know what to do now and I just start laughing trying to match her energy. But then she's like, wait, why are you laughing? And I was like, well, why are you laughing? And she goes, because we never date, obviously. So then I'm like, yeah, that's totally why I laugh too. But then she just responds with, oh. What do you mean, oh? Like, why is it fine when you do it but not me? Does she want me to like her or not? I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
To every person who thinks they would save their school if they had a school shooter, trust me, you would not. Because I used to think the same thing until one day I was in class and there was an announcement over the speaker saying that someone was walking around campus with a weapon. And at first, I thought it was just another school drill until my teacher said, guys, we don't have a drill scheduled today. This is real. And he sounded really nervous saying that. So it was in this moment where I realized I was not built for this. Because you know how they say you either go into fight or flight mode during these situations? Well, I went straight into flight because I ran to the back of the class as far away from the door as possible. I even took this girl's Stanley bottle to use as a shield because those things are basically bulletproof. But after about 5 minutes, there was another announcement that said it was a false alarm and the weapon was fake. Don't get me wrong, I was super relieved, but I also realized I am not Batman.
Why do girls make it so hard to tell when they like you? Because I probably would have had a girlfriend by now if all girls weren't like this. Like anytime I was ever into a girl, when I would see them, I'd smile and try to make it really obvious that I liked them. But the response back would always be them giving me a face like this. And you may be like, well, Tyler, that just means they don't like you. And that's what I used to think too, but no. Because there have been multiple scenarios where a girl would look at me as if she thought I was the most disgusting creature ever, only to find out later that she liked me. I don't know what love language that is, but all girls seem to have it. And this is why I never ask girls out, because even if I like someone, I literally have no idea if they like me back because of how girls act when they're into someone. She could literally despise me or have a crush on me, and she'd give me the same exact look.
Nobody talks about the difference between how girls make plans versus guys. Because with girls, they make them months in advance. I've met a girl before that had her next 6 months planned out in a calendar day by day. But for guys, it's way different because my friend recently got married, but we haven't talked a lot the past couple years. So when I saw him post on social media that he proposed to his girlfriend, I wasn't sure if I would get invited to the wedding. So about 6 months went by and I never received an invitation, so I figured I just didn't make the list. But then randomly, I get a phone call from him, so I pick it up and he goes, yo man, long time no see. What are you doing on November 9th? And I was like, November 9th as in tomorrow? And he goes, yeah. So I tell him I'm not doing anything. And then he's like, oh, bet. Well, do you want to come to my wedding? So then I said, Aren't you supposed to invite people months in advance? But apparently, the only reason I got an invitation is because someone else couldn't make it, so I just filled the spot. I'll take it though. Free food is free food. Never eat in public, because the other night I was at a restaurant and the people in front of me were taking a selfie, so I was in the background of the picture. But I didn't notice they were taking a picture until the very last second. So if you look back at the photo, it looks like I'm just creepily staring into their camera. So I could literally see the girl look at the photo and then turn back at me like this. But the most embarrassing part is that after this happened, I could still see her phone from where I was sitting. So you wanna know what she did? She made a sticker out of my head on Snapchat. So in someone's camera roll somewhere, there is just a random sticker of my floating head. This is what happens when I go out in public. So yeah, I'm never leaving the house again.
Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you accidentally talk to a stranger because you thought your friend was behind you. Because I was at an amusement park with my friends one time, but when we're all together, we make some weird jokes. So we're all walking, but out of nowhere, my stomach starts to hurt from the nachos I ate earlier. And I knew I needed to get to a bathroom because they were gonna come out one way or another. So I let out a little fart because I couldn't control it. And I had to say something after that because it's really awkward if you just fart without acknowledging it. So I turn around to what I thought was my friend and say, "It feels like my butt is having a fireworks show." But right as I say that, I see a dad with a big beard holding his daughter's hand. So they both heard it. I thought my friend was walking right behind me. That's why I said it. I literally jumped when I saw that I was talking to the wrong person because not only did he hear this weird sentence I said, but he also heard the fart too. Right when I saw him, I said sorry and quickly turned around and went as fast as possible the other way. It was like this. Dude, it feels like my butt's having a fireworks. Shut up! I'm sorry to that man.
You know how when you have a crush on someone, you stalk all their social medias to learn more about them? Yeah, well, I do not recommend doing that because one time I liked this girl and I was looking through her profiles online and I found a picture of her with her mom. So being the investigator I am, I clicked on the mother's profile to check it out. But when I did that, I found a picture her mom posted with a man. So I was like, oh, this must be my crush's father. But then I click on his profile and see that he has a different last name in her. So I'm like, that's odd. And after a little more research, I found out that her parents were divorced and this was the mom's new boyfriend. So fast forward a few days later, I'm talking to this girl and she's telling me about how she had a hard childhood. So I slipped up and was like, yeah, I totally get it. I mean, having divorced parents can't be easy. But then she goes, wait, how'd you know my parents were divorced? And I was like, you told me, duh. Anyways, look at that bird. So then we changed the subject, but she definitely knew I was doing some investigating on her.
Why do people make their phone flash when they get a notification? Because my friend almost got beat up for this the other day because we were at a restaurant and he was holding his phone, but then he got a text, so it started flashing like a fire alarm. And at first, no one said anything until he got another text about 30 seconds later, which made it flash again. But my friend was holding his phone like this when he got the notifications, so it was flashing to the table next to us. And the people sitting there was a family with 2 little kids. So the dad yelled at my friend and was like, "Hey, why are you taking pictures of my family?" So my friend tried to explain that he wasn't taking pictures and it was just his ridiculous notification alert. But the dad didn't believe him at all, and I don't blame him, because who would choose to make their phone do that? But then my friend showed him that he was telling the truth by having me text him. But honestly, I was kind of hoping the dad would beat my friend up, just so he would finally change the damn ringtone.
Nobody talks about how scary it is when you get called to the principal's office and your whole friend group is there. Because one time, I was in class and the school phone starts ringing, so my teacher picks it up and is like, okay, I'll tell him. Tyler, you need to go to the principal's office right now. So I'm thinking my mom pulled me out of school to go on a vacation or something, and I'm not worried at all until I arrive to the office. And inside, I see 4 of my friends. But not only were they my friends, they were all people I'm in a group chat with. And they're looking at me all worried, so I'm like, oh no. I know what happened. Our group chat text finally got leaked. It's over, we're cooked. Or at least that's what I thought, because once I arrived, the principal told us she was glad we were all there because she needed to talk to us as a group. But what she told us was that she saw us jaywalking one day after school and that we need to stop doing that. When she said that, we all took a big exhale looking at each other. As long as she didn't find out about the group chat, I don't care what we're getting in trouble for. Never go to the chiropractor if you get embarrassed easily, because I've been having back problems lately, so my friend was like, hey, you should try going to the chiropractor. And he gave me the number of the one he goes to, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I regret saying that because I show up, and this guy is like super friendly, like over friendly. And he tells me to lay down on the table, so I do. And he starts rubbing his elbow in my back real hard. And it's kind of hard to breathe when he does this. By the way, I had Chipotle before I came here, which is an important detail. Because the chiropractor would do this thing where he would be like, okay, take a deep breath. And I would. And then he would tell me to exhale. And he would push on my back really hard. But I was not aware just how much force he was going to put into my back when he did this. So I exhaled and he pushed into my back. And I let out the loudest fart ever. It was like the fart was being shot out of a cannon with how aggressive it sounded. But I think I almost blew my shorts off. And the chiropractor chuckled a little bit, but then he was like, oh, don't worry, this happens all the time. But then he starts coughing, and I'm like, damn, did I just gas this guy out with the fumes from my fart? So he finishes adjusting my back, but then he's like, do you want me to adjust your neck too? And I almost said yes, but then I thought about it, and I was like, is he just asking this so he can snap my neck for revenge? So I said, no, thank you, and I left. But I'm just gonna suffer through the back pain from now on I'm not going back.
What would you do if a little kid's mom screamed at you for roasting her baby? Because that's what happened to me.
So I was at the mall the other day waiting to check out, and the person in front of me is holding a baby on their shoulder. And because I'm so full of jolly and glee, I start making funny faces at it trying to make it laugh. And it does, but the mother notices her baby chuckling, so she turns around to see why. And she sees me, so I say to the mother, she's got a cool laugh, referring to the baby. But the mother did not like that, because then she goes, what'd you just say? So I go, your baby's laugh is cute? And I'm just thinking in my head, what could I possibly have said wrong? But then the mother goes, my baby is not a she, it's a boy. Boys can have long hair too, you know. And listen, she's right. I messed up. I shouldn't have said that, but you don't gotta grill me for it. So I apologize to her, and she goes, James, don't look at him anymore. And she turns her baby around. Me and James were just becoming homies too.
Nobody talks about how scary it is when you're at your friend's house and their parents start yelling at them. Because I had a friend whose house I went to once and never again, because the one time I went, it was so awkward. Like right when we walked inside his house, he tried introducing me to his mom, but she wouldn't even acknowledge my existence because right away, once she saw her son, she was like, Riley, why did I just get your report card in the mail and see that you're failing math? And he was like, Mom, we talked about this the other day. So they start yelling over each other, arguing, but Riley made a huge mistake because he got so mad that he cursed at her. And right when he did that, the mom completely stopped talking, went into another room, came back with a belt, and whooped him. All while I was right there watching. And then when it was over, he's wiping tears from his eyes, and I'm just like, hey man, I got a call from my mom. I actually have to go, sorry. What are you even supposed to do in that situation? I don't know who felt more embarrassed in that moment, me or him.
Nobody talks about the difference between how girls act when they have a crush versus guys. Like I knew this one girl that was obsessed with this dude at our school. And I used to think that when girls have a crush, they just tell their friends about it at a sleepover while giggling and kicking their feet in the air. But instead of doing all that, this girl literally just stalked his whole family tree. Like she found his parents' social medias, where everyone in his family went to school, their birthdays. I mean, she probably knew all their blood types too. Like, they should have made the TV show that's called You about this girl. But when a guy likes a girl, we just imagine fake scenarios in our head of us being together. Because last time I liked a girl, I had a dream that was literally just the plot of the Shrek movie, where I was Shrek and she was Fiona and I saved her. But sadly in real life, I just stared at her awkwardly and hoped that she noticed me. Talking to Gen Alpha kids will make you believe that the next generation is doomed. Because last weekend, I decided to help my friend coach a youth baseball team with kids that are 10 to 12 years old. And my friend warned me about how these kids acted, but I was like, they're 10. How hard can it be? But I regret saying that now because I arrived to the game and immediately one kid got there late, so the coach asked him why he wasn't on time. But before he could answer, one of his teammates responded by saying, he was doing the 3 a.m. challenge with Livy Dunn. I immediately felt like I lost brain cells after hearing that sentence, but this is how they talk the whole time. They would only speak in brain rot terms. Luckily, I'm chronically online, so I know some brain rot too. So to get them to be quiet, I told them we were gonna have a mewing challenge just so I could get them to keep their mouths shut. That was the only thing that actually worked. And we were supposed to have flying cars by now. Gen Z is gonna be the worst parents ever. Because I was recently invited to a 4-year-old's birthday party. It's not weird, I knew his uncle. But anyways, since it's his birthday, a lot of people got him presents. But one person decided to give him $500. So when the kid opened the envelope with the money, his Gen Z dad's eyes lit up and he said, here, give me the money. I'll keep it safe for you, buddy. So the kid reluctantly gave it to him, and you would think the dad took the money and just saved it for when he was older, right? Wrong, because the kid's uncle who I was there with told me that every time someone gives that kid money, his dad takes it and says he'll keep it safe for him when in reality, he just gambles it. So I was like, well, is he at least gonna give the kid some of the money he wins when he's older? But my friend was like, brother, there is no money. Because even if he does win, he just gambles all of that until eventually he has nothing left. That little guy's getting robbed.
Have you ever noticed how every group chat has 3 different types of people? Like whether it's a group chat for your friends, family, or one for school, they all have the same 3 people. First, you got the one that always reads the messages, but never responds. You'll send something and they'll be the first one to see it, but they won't say anything. You'll just see their little bitmoji staring at you, but not responding. The second type of person is the one who just sends memes. They literally don't even communicate with words. This one is low-key me because I never know how to respond to people. So if someone says, my girlfriend broke up with me, I just respond by sending a picture of Peter Griffin shooting a fadeaway. But the third person that every group chat has is, to be honest, I don't know. I could only think of 2. Y'all are gonna have to be happy with that, sorry.
I just fought a little kid at Disneyland because me, my friend, and his younger brother were waiting in line for a ride for over an hour. But right as we got to the front, this guy that was bigger than the Hulk cut in front of us. And he also had a little brother, so we weren't gonna say anything because this guy was terrifying and we didn't want any problems with him. But my friend's little brother was not having it, so he told the other kid that they have to go to the back of the line. But the kid said no, so they started yelling at each other. But then my friend's little brother said, my brother and his friend will beat you guys up if you don't go to the back of the line. And when he said that, my heart dropped because remember, the guy that cut us was big enough to pick me up like a Barbie doll, so I definitely could not beat him up. I pulled my friend's little brother to the side and I was like, bro, you gotta chill. This man would destroy me. So we just let them cut us. What else could we do? Tell Larry the Lobster to go to the back of the line? I sure wasn't going to.
This is your warning to never share your location with your friend. Because my friend Mikey just started sharing his location with me, and I check it like multiple times a day because I'm nosy. But the other day when I looked at it, it said he was in Cuba. But we're American, and he doesn't have a passport. So I was like, how did he get there? So I called him to see what was going on, but no answer. So I wait until the next day and check the location again, but now it's turned off. And later that evening, I get a text from an unknown number that says, hey, it's Mikey. So I'm like, Mikey, what happened to your old phone? Last time I checked, you were in Cuba. But then he told me that while he was at dinner last night, someone stole his backpack that had all his stuff in it, including his phone. Keep in mind, he was in California when this happened. These thieves out here move quick, man. Imagine losing your phone and then checking the location of it one day later and it's halfway to Europe. That phone's traveled more than me.
Does anyone else have trauma that's like actually funny? Because I have a fear of garages from a horrible experience I had with one when I was younger. And what happened was I used to play a game where my dad would press the button to close the garage door, and I would wait to see how long I could let the garage close before running under at the last second. So one day I was doing this like always, but for some reason this time I decided to just let the garage door close a little bit more before I tried to sprint under it. And the worst possible thing that could have happened. As the garage door got really close to shutting, I tried to sprint under it, but I tripped, so I didn't make it through in time, and the garage door got stuck on my neck. Yes, literally, on my neck. Talk about clumsy. Luckily, it didn't put any pressure on me, but it was pretty funny because my parents were already inside the house, so they didn't know this happened. And all of a sudden, they hear me screaming, so they sprint to the garage, and they see the door literally on my head. My mom said she thought I was decapitated. Anyways, my dad pressed the button to make the garage door back up, and they could see that I was okay. So after I got up, my mom was crying, and she gave me a big hug super tight, and then she got the belt and started spanking me. She was literally crying as she was spanking me with the belt because she was so traumatized, and she was like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Then stop doing it, Mom! But she didn't, and I deserved it. But anyways, now I'm terrified to walk under garage doors anymore.
Why do guys always take on the personality of their girlfriend? Because I have a friend who just got in his very first relationship, and he's clearly madly in love. Good for him. But the only problem is, I texted him the other day showing him a picture of a new jacket that I got, and his response was, it's giving Hunger Games. First of all, ow, that hurts my feelings. Second of all, it's giving? When did you start saying that? I don't even think you knew what that phrase meant 3 months ago. Also, when he said this, I still hadn't met his girlfriend at the time. So about a week later, we all go to lunch together and I finally meet her. And this girl asks what I do for work. And after I tell her, she says, slay. Right when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, now I see what happens. This man just completely stole his girlfriend's whole personality. But good for him. He's in love. I'm not mad about it. Because if you ask about my love life right now, it's giving lonely.
What would you do if an animal ruined your day at the zoo? Because that's what happened to me today. So I was at the hippo exhibit, and they have this big pool area for them to swim in, which is like 50 feet away from all the people. So I was just chilling, looking at the hippos roam around until one of them decided to go for a swim. But what I didn't realize about hippos is just how heavy they are, because this hippo did not just stroll into the water. It sprinted full speed, then jumped in. And since the hippo is so big, when it hit the water, it made the biggest splash since Rihanna at the Super Bowl. So somehow, the water came all the way from the pool, 50 feet over to me and everyone else standing by me. We all got drenched because none of us were expecting the water to come that far, so we didn't have time to react. This is literally how it went. Oh, look, the hippo's about to jump in the water. Oh no. You know how when you were in school and your teacher was late to class, everyone thought that if they didn't show up within 15 minutes to class, you could leave? Or maybe that was just at my school, but one time this actually happened in my class, but I didn't know this rule was a thing. So after the 15 minutes passed, a kid told me about it, and for some reason, I just completely believed him, no question. So I left because I was really hungry. So I went to go get a snack from the store next to our school, but apparently this rule is completely false because I came back to school for my next class, and all of a sudden, someone walks into our class, whispers into the teacher's ear, and then the teacher goes, Tyler, they need you in the office. So I go to the office, and that is when I received my first and only ever detention. But then the next day, I show up to the class where the teacher was late, and she was acting like it was my fault. She was like, Tyler, I heard you ditched class yesterday. No, I didn't. You did. But yeah, don't try doing that. It's not true.
This is your warning to never use an online dating app. Because my friend was really down bad, so he started using one, and he met this girl on it that he really liked, which led to them agreeing to go on a date. But this date ended up being a nightmare because they decided to do it at a coffee shop. But when my friend arrived, he went up to the girl and started talking to her, but she acted like she had no idea who he was. So to give her some clarity, my friend told her that he was the guy from the dating app, but instead of smiling after hearing that, she frowned. But you know why she frowned? Because my friend made a big mistake when he created his online dating profile, which was to say that his height was 6'1", but that is not how tall he is. And you might be like, oh, so what? He added a few inches to his height. Everyone does that. But no, he didn't just add a few inches because he's 5'4". He almost gave himself a whole nother foot. So I was like, why would you possibly lie that much about your height? And he said he wasn't getting any matches until he changed it to that. I respect the hustle, But what did you expect to happen when you met her?
Have you ever had a dream about someone so then you started liking them in real life? Because one night, I go to sleep like normal, but I have a dream out of nowhere about this girl in my math class. And it felt straight out of a rom-com. So when the morning comes, I'm in love with this girl. And you may say, well, Tyler, surely you liked this girl before the dream too, right? No, I barely even knew she existed. She was a girl in my math class I talked to maybe once. Which is more than I talk to most women, I guess. But anyways, the point is, I never thought about this girl. But all of a sudden, when I had that dream, I thought she was my soulmate. Like I was planning our future together in my head, but this just shows how much I didn't know who she was. Cause I start looking into her more to learn more about her, and it turns out she had a boyfriend the whole time. So I don't know who's responsible for writing these dreams, but why do you have to play with my emotions like that, man? I mean, would I have even talked to her in real life? Probably not, but still.
This is your warning to not text in lowercase, because one time I was texting a girl in lowercase and I thought it was going really well until she said, why are you texting like that? But I didn't really understand what she meant, so I said, texting like what? And then she said, you're typing in lowercase. That's supposed to be for girls only. And then she stopped talking to me. I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt, but I also had a bunch of respect for her because it was true. Every time I typed in lowercase, I always felt just a little sassy, you know? It didn't feel right. I only did it because everyone else did it, but now I learned my lesson. I'm never typing in lowercase again.
Gen Z has to be the dumbest generation ever. Because I just had my final exams for school, which determined whether I passed or failed my classes. And I thought I did really good on them until I got my results back yesterday. Because in one of my classes, our final exam was an essay, but since I'm chronically on my phone, instead of using correct punctuation and spelling, I just wrote it like how I would write a text. Like every time I typed the word you, I just spelt it by putting the letter U. And instead of saying because, I just said cuz and spelt it C-U-Z. I even wrote LOL in one of the sentences. I just completely forgot how to write normally. So when I got the paper back, my teacher circled all the incorrect grammar I used and literally said, this doesn't make any sense. This was almost as bad as the time I was in Spanish class and we had to create a short film speaking in Spanish, but I forgot and just did the whole thing in English. Maybe Gen Z's not dumb actually. Maybe it's just me.
Why can't people sit in silence together? Like sometimes I want to hang out with someone, but I don't want to talk. I just want to be in their presence. But whenever it gets quiet, we always feel the need to say something. And then it leads to stupid conversations like, who invented the order of the alphabet? Like, bro, I don't know. Can we just be quiet?
Rich people will always try to make it seem like they aren't wealthy because I went to school with a guy who would wear the same thing every day. A black t-shirt with jeans. Nothing special, right? Well, one day we're in class and he's eating blueberries, but he drops one onto his shirt and stains it. So he immediately pulls out his phone, goes online and buys a new black shirt. But you know how much the shirt was? $900. It was a plain black Prada t-shirt. What's the point of spending that much money on a plain t-shirt? I could get one that looks the exact same from Walmart for 40 quarters. But this isn't surprising because this is the same guy who brought a water bottle to school every day from a company called Berg. But he's the only person I've ever seen drink this water. So I Google it and guess what? It's $45 per bottle. Apparently, it comes straight from the icebergs of Greenland. Dog, mine just comes straight from the tap. I want to be rich so bad.
Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when you know someone is lying, but you can't say anything because of how you found out. Because the other day, I was hanging out with my friend and he gets up to go to the bathroom, but he leaves his phone on the table. And at first, I wasn't even looking at it. But then I hear a ding sound go off, and out of habit, I glance at his phone, but I still wasn't gonna read anything until I see that it lit up because he got a text from someone with the contact name Baby Girl. But as far as I knew, my friend was single, so I was itching to know who Baby Girl was. And all of a sudden, my hand starts levitating over towards his phone without me having any control over it. That phone was calling me like the Green Goblin mask, so I pick it up, and the text says, love you, have fun. So he comes back from the bathroom, and to see whether he would lie or not, I go, is it just me, or are you tired of being single? And suddenly his voice gets really high as he goes, yeah, bro, I'm so tired of being single. So I just had to sit there without saying what I wanted to. And it wasn't until 3 weeks later that he finally told me he had a girlfriend.
Nobody talks about the difference between being boy pretty versus girl pretty. Because back in high school, pretty much all the girls in my grade had a crush on the same dude. But this confused me because there were other guys at the school that were in way better shape, more conventionally handsome, yet they got way less attention than this guy. So it wasn't until I asked the girls what was so attractive about him that I started to understand it. Because when they were describing what they liked about him, they didn't say any physical features, well, except for his height. But besides that, they mostly talked about his energy. So I was like, what do you mean by that? And this one girl helped me understand it a lot when she was like, do you know the main character in the Ratatouille movie? And I was like, yeah, the rat? But then she was like, no, the guy. That's the type of energy we're talking about. When she said this, I was like, Oh, now I see why y'all like Pete Davidson so much. Looks like me pretending to be nonchalant and mysterious this whole time was all for nothing.
Nobody talks about the difference between how your mom punishes you versus your dad. Because whenever I did something wrong as a child, my mom would start crying and be like, if you keep misbehaving, you're gonna end up like that kid Johnny that lives down the street that went to juvie. And I'd be like, Mom, Johnny hit an old lady with his bike. I just snuck some goldfish into my room. And then she would take my phone away. But with my dad, he wouldn't even discipline me at all. He would just be like, hey man, can you just listen to your mother? All right. Cool, thanks. And that would be it, unless I did something really bad, which in that case, getting punished by my dad was so much worse than getting punished by my mom. Because there was nothing more scary growing up than when my dad was angry. I would go to sleep thinking I was gonna wake up the next morning with a finger missing or something. But I am glad to say, I still have all 10 though.
This is your warning to never wake your mom up when she's sleeping. Because when I was younger, I had a really bad tummy ache one night and I didn't know what to do, so I went into my parents' room, tapped on my dad a couple times trying to wake him up, but of course he didn't because he's busy snoring at 500 decibels. So then I go over to my mom's side of the bed, and my mom is a really light sleeper, so right when I tapped on her arm, she goes, and I start panicking like, oh my gosh, Mom, are you okay? She jumped up like she was just in a nightmare getting flashbacks from the war. But then once she sees me, she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? So I'm like, that's weird. But I kind of just brush it off because my stomach hurts so bad. But the next day, I asked her why she always jolts up like that right when I wake her up. And she goes, what are you talking about? She literally did not even know that's how she reacts when someone wakes her up. I guess she must just not be fully conscious yet when she does that. I had to stop waking her up in the middle of the night because it scared me so much. It was like winding up a jack in the box waiting for it to jump out at you.
High school teachers are so much better at teaching than college professors because I'm in college right now and I have a history professor who does not know how to teach. Like when he's teaching the class, he'll tell us to take notes because we need them for the test, but then he'll refuse to put any slides or notes on the screen. He just reads them from his computer and hopes that we write them down, but the problem is he has a really thick accent that I can't really understand. So when he says something that's not very clear, we'll ask him to repeat it and he'll just be like, no. So I started using an AI note taker called TurboLearn that listens to your professor and takes notes. It literally just listens to what your professor says and then makes notes for you using AI. But then one day, I have my phone on my desk and he gets mad at me for using a phone in class. Like, how are you gonna get mad at me for using technology to do your job? Like, the teachers in high school actually care about the students compared to college. Like, I remember in high school, I used to have a teacher that would give us free ice cream if we got an A on the test. Why can't all teachers be like this?
Have you ever had a friend that will leave the group chat for attention? And they'll do it thinking everyone's gonna beg for them to come back, when in reality, no one cares. Like, I have a friend that will leave the group chat for any minor inconvenience he has, so he does it like once a week. But every time he does this, no one even says anything about it. He leaves, and then we just continue whatever conversation we were having before. But the most funny part is that after about 5 minutes, when he realizes that there's not gonna be anyone begging for him to come back, he'll text one of us separately and be like, hey bro, can you add me back? But I know he feels so embarrassed sending that text every time because one time after he left, instead of texting us, he just created a whole new group chat hoping that we would use that instead, but no one did. They be acting like the world's gonna stop spinning when they leave. So if you're the person in your friend group that does this, trust me, it's not worth it. Why does asking your friends to hang out feel like begging for spare change? Because I'm pretty sure most of my friends just don't actually like me since the only time we ever hang out is when I beg them to. But it's not just like a one-time beg. No, I have to ask for days until they get so tired of me doing it that they're just like, damn, fine, I'll hang out with you, just so I stop. And trust me, I would prefer to not do this, but if I stopped, we would never hang out again. And they'll always have an excuse for why they can't hang out, like, oh, I don't have any money. But they'll say this, and the next day, I'll turn on my PlayStation just to see that they bought 12 new skins in Fortnite that cost a combined $200. But I have a theory. I'm convinced they spend all their money on purpose just so they can tell me they don't have any when I ask to hang out. Do my friends actually like me? How do people date their friend's sibling? Like when I'm looking at any of my friend's sisters, I feel like I'm looking right at my friend. They have way too many similarities. And if you think your friend doesn't look like their sibling, just look at them when they laugh. I guarantee you'll see the resemblance. So basically, if you kiss your friend's sibling, you're practically kissing your homie. Well, some people like that, but not me. But you are literally attracted to your friend if you date their sibling. And if you say that's not true, you're in denial, buddy. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you're at your friend's house and they tell their mom you're hungry. Like, great, now your mom hates me. Because when I was younger, I would hang out at my friend's house after school a lot, but he had an appetite smaller than a celebrity on Ozempic. So I didn't want to ask him for food at his own house. I wanted him to offer it. But he was never hungry, so what I did is give him subtle hints that I was hungry, hoping that this would make him offer me food. Like, we would see a Taco Bell commercial on the TV, and I would be like, dang, Taco Bell sounds really good right now, doesn't it? But he would just be like, nah, not really. But one time when I did this, instead of responding to me, he was just like, hey, yo, mom, Tyler's hungry. Can you make him something? Why would you say it like that? Now your mama just thinks I'm a big back who wants to empty all her cabinets. I mean, I am, but still.
Gen Z in nursing homes is gonna be so scary because my friend's grandpa lives in one right now, and he told me that the last time he went to visit, there was two old people arguing, but the way they talked was so funny because it still sounded like they were in the 1950s. They were saying phrases like, "You bet your bottom dollar," and then one lady trying to stop the argument was like, "Simmer down, boys." So this made me think about how ridiculous Gen Z people are gonna sound when we're in there. Because if we still talk like we do now, good luck to the nurses. Like an argument between us in the nursing home would be like, "Bert, I know you cheated during bingo." "That's cap, I did not." "You're lucky I don't go to town on you right now." Wait, pause. And when we eat, it'll be like, "Man, this oatmeal hits different." We're gonna be the first generation to have brain rot in nursing homes. There's gonna be no nurses left that wanna work.
What would you do if someone ended your friendship over a joke? Because that's what happened to me today.
So we were at dinner with a bunch of our other friends, and one of them got a new dog recently. So she was asking us for recommendations on what to name it, and everyone was giving names. And as a joke, I said, "You should name it Diddy, so when it's misbehaving, you can say, 'You're a bad boy, Diddy.'" But no one heard me say this except for one person, and I knew he heard it because he was making eye contact with me. And I could tell by his reaction that he thought it was funny, but instead of telling me to say it again so everyone could hear it, he turns to the rest of the table and literally says, "You should name it Diddy, so when it's misbehaving, you can say, 'You're a bad boy, Diddy.'" And the whole friend group just starts laughing hysterically. He literally repeated my joke word for word, but said it louder and then took credit for it. But this isn't the first time he's done this. When I saw him looking at me after I said that joke, I knew exactly what he was gonna do. You can't trust people like this.
What would you do if a girl made her dog attack you? Because that's what happened to me today.
So there's this girl in my apartment complex that I thought was super pretty, and I would always see her around. But I was too shy to ever talk to her until one day. She walked by my door with her dog at the exact same time I was leaving, so we were like 2 feet away from each other. And we made eye contact, so I had to say something. So I was like, "Oh, your dog is so cute. Can I pet it?" And she let me, but as I'm petting it, I see that it's wearing a dog tag that has a phone number on it. So then I'm thinking, wait, this is probably her number. So I look at it for about 5 seconds, just pretending to pet the dog when in reality, I'm just trying to memorize the number. But she sneezes while I'm petting the dog, which frightens it. So it bit me. So then she apologizes like 100 times and I'm like, "It's okay, don't worry." And then I leave. So I'm thinking, yes, I have her number now. But immediately after that, I was like, wait, what am I possibly going to do with it? Send her a text and say I got her number from her dog's collar? Yeah, that definitely won't make me sound like Jeffrey Dahmer. Gen Z is the most unserious generation ever. Because my friend used to have cancer, so he was completely bald. But instead of wearing hats or beanies to cover up his hair, he did the exact opposite. Because we had this class together that was super boring. So once he went bald, the next day, he brought these mini plungers to school. But when he pulled them out, we were like, "What are these for? Like, did a Smurf clog up a toilet or something?" But then he told us he bought the plungers so we could try throwing them at his head during class. So we would do a competition to see who could get the most to stick. And this was his idea. Because we were like, "Are you sure about this?" But he was just smiling and was like, "Yeah, this is awesome." People in this generation don't even take it seriously when they get diagnosed with a chronic illness. I shouldn't even be surprised though, because this is the same guy who dressed up as Mr. Clean that same year during Halloween and put a bunch of baby oil on his head to make it more shiny. Sleeping over at a rich person's house is so crazy because one time my friend Colin invited me over for a sleepover, but I had never been to his house before. So when I arrived to the address he gave me, I knock on the door and a man in a fancy outfit answers, but I knew it wasn't his parents because I've seen them before. So this guy asks if I'm here to see my friend and I say yes. So he welcomes me in and tells me where Colin's at. And when I get to Colin, I ask who that guy at the front door was and he goes, "Oh, that's our butler." "Dog, you have a butler? I thought that was just a thing in Batman." But then it gets more crazy because around midnight, he asks all of us if we want to go to the movie theater. So I was like, "I mean, that sounds fun, but isn't the movies closed by now?" And he goes, "Oh no, we have a movie theater in the house." So he takes us into the movie theater room and there's like 10 reclining chairs and like a 500-inch TV. The moment I saw this, I was on my best behavior the rest of the time because I was hoping his parents would just adopt me. If you have to poop at your friend's house, make sure they have a good toilet. Because I just met my friend's parents for the first time at their house, so they don't know me at all. But his family is Latin, so I walk into their house and see that they're making this big dinner. But if there's one thing to know about Latin food, it's that it can be super spicy. But anyways, when all the food was ready, I started eating and they fed me like a king. They kept telling me to eat more and more, so I did because I didn't want them to think that I wasn't enjoying it. But about 20 minutes after we finished eating, my stomach started to rumble. And I realized I had to get to the bathroom ASAP. So I did, but like I said, I ate a lot. So after I was done on the toilet, I tried flushing it, but it got clogged. And I started to panic. Then I looked for a plunger, but I couldn't find one. So I flushed the toilet again. But that just made the water rise even higher until it almost spilt out the toilet. So eventually, I just had to tell the family what happened. And they all laughed. And then the father said, "Not everyone can take the heat." That man wasn't lying. A girl whose love language is physical touch is usually also a girl who hates being touched. Because I liked this girl one time, but she was never really interested in me, no matter how hard I tried. So I asked her friends what I could do to get her to like me. And they were like, "Well, she always talks about how her love language is physical touch." So I was like, awesome, I'll use that to make her like me. But this was a dumb thing to think because we sat across from each other in class. So what I would do is play footsie and tap her feet with mine. It sounds weird, it wasn't. But anyways, I would do this hoping that she would tap my feet back in like a flirtatious way, but no. She would always quickly pull her feet away when I tapped them until eventually she got fed up with it and was like, would you stop touching my feet? So I went to her friends and was like, what the heck? I thought you guys said her love language was physical touch. But then they humbled me so hard by saying, yeah, but only if it's from people that she likes. Well, that would have been useful to know earlier. Now everyone in that class probably thinks I'm a weird foot toucher.
No one talks about how different cultures have such different expectations for their kids, because one time I was taking a test and I got a 71% on it, and I was pumped because that meant that I passed the test, but the girl next to me was crying. So I said, why are you crying? Did you do bad on the test? And she was like, yeah. So I said, what did you get? She got an 88%. She was crying over that. So I was like, that's a great score. Why are you crying? And she told me that her parents will probably smack her for not getting an A. I was like, damn, you're gonna get smacked for getting an 88%? My parents are probably gonna take me out for ice cream just because I passed the damn thing. So now that I think of it, I see why she's going to an Ivy League school right now and I went to community college. But is anyone else's parents like this? Why do rich people get so defensive when you mention that they're rich? Like, I go to school with this kid that everyone knows is really wealthy, and sometimes people will make jokes about it and his response is always like, I'm not even that rich. Like, bro, what are you doing? Because if I was rich and someone tried to make fun of me for it, saying, oh, look, there's the rich kid, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm rich. I'm super rich. I would be flexing on him. Trust me, there's a lot of things that I'm insecure about, but being rich would not be one of them.
You can always tell when someone grew up with divorced parents because during my high school graduation, the person I was sitting next to acted super nervous the whole time. So I was like, are you nervous about graduating too? But she was like, oh no, I don't care about the graduation part. I'm nervous for what's coming after that. So I was like, I see. You don't know what you're gonna do with your life after high school yet, huh? But then she says, what? No, I'm going to Duke, I'm fine. I meant that I'm nervous for what's gonna happen tonight. So I ask her to explain more and she tells me that her whole family is coming to watch her graduate, but they're all going to dinner together after. So then it clicked what was going on and I was like, oh, are your parents divorced? But not only did she say yes, she also said that this was gonna be the first time they were all together since they signed the papers. So she was super nervous because she had no idea how it was gonna go. I low-key almost asked for an invite to that dinner. I wanted to see how it was gonna go down. My friend got hit by a car the other day and you may not think that's funny, but it is due to how he reacted. Because he was riding a bicycle going super fast, but when he rode across an intersection, a car that was turning right didn't see him because of his speed and accidentally hit him. But the part that makes it funny is he broke his wrist. So I asked how bad it hurt when it happened and he was like, honestly, I was in pain at first, but then I looked up and saw how many people were looking at me and I just got super embarrassed and left. So I was like, wait, you left after getting hit by a car? And he goes, yeah. So I was like, well, did you at least get the information of the person that hit you? And he goes, nah, I didn't want anyone to see me because of how cringe I probably looked getting hit. But the most funny part is that his bike didn't even work anymore. So he just picked it up and jogged away with it. He's the only person I know who will not react to getting hit by a car just so people think he's nonchalant.
Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when you show someone a movie, but they don't pay attention. And then they'll ask questions during it, even though they wouldn't have to if they just watched it. Because the other day, my friend told me that he's never seen the movie Interstellar. And I was like, bro, that literally may be the best film of all time. You have to watch it. So I decided to show him it, and I'm super excited because it's such a good movie, I think he's gonna love it. But about 5 minutes into watching, I hear him laughing, and I'm like, this part of the movie ain't funny. So I look at him, and he's on his phone texting. So I'm like, bro, you're missing the movie. And he's like, oh yeah, my bad. Wait, who's this old lady talking right now? Maybe if you actually paid attention, you wouldn't have to ask these questions. So he puts his phone down and starts watching, but literally 1 minute later, he's back on it. Like, if you don't want to watch a movie that I'm showing you, just tell me. I'd much rather you do that than say you want to watch it, and then when I show it to you, you just completely ignore it. Does anyone else do romantic stuff with their friends on accident? Because the other day, me and my friend had this great idea to get a bunch of different snacks, meet at the park, then put them all in one bowl and eat them. So that's what we did. But as we're at the park eating, I look around and see 2 other people also eating together. But these people were clearly a couple, and then it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh. And then my friend said, what's up? Then I go, dog, are we having a picnic together right now? Then he paused, looked around for a second, and was like, oh my goodness, we are having a picnic. But you can't just randomly have a picnic with your one homie. So after we realized this, we just went straight to the car and ate the rest of the snacks there because it felt way too weird to do it outside anymore. But like, is it normal for homies to have picnics together, or is that off limits? Because it was low-key kind of peaceful. But at the same time, it felt like something you should only do with a person that you're in a relationship with. I need to get a girlfriend, man. If you get a call from a no-caller ID, always answer it. Because I got one the other day and I picked it up, but the person calling asked if my name was Raymond. So I said no, and they hung up right away. But the next day, I get another call, but when I pick it up, I recognize that it's the same voice from yesterday. But this time when they ask if it's Raymond speaking, I say yes, because I'm like, you know what? If they're gonna waste my time, I'm gonna waste theirs. So then they go, Raymond, would you be interested in selling your house? And I say,
Yeah, actually, I would be. Then they ask what price I was thinking, and I just throw out a random number and say 500,000. But then they're like, we can work with that. And then they said they'll contact me again soon with more details. So if your name is Raymond and you live in Southern California, just know that you might be getting a for sale sign put in your front yard in the next couple of weeks. My bad.
Does anyone else have a friend you can't talk to on speakerphone when you're around other people? Because I was in the car with my mom the other day, and I get a call from my friend, but I was super scared to answer it because this guy says some weird things sometimes. And I was driving with my phone connected to the car, so my mom could hear anything that my friend was about to say. So I'm thinking, okay, I have to decline this. So I go to do it, but then my mom's like, no, you can answer it. It's okay. Then I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll just call him back later. Then she's like, Tyler, it's rude to not answer your friend's calls. So she makes me answer it, and literally all I do is say, hello? And my friend just starts moaning into the phone. It sounded like there was two whales mating inside my car. So I slammed the end call button immediately, and my mom didn't say anything, but she gave me that look like she was thinking, is this how all your phone calls go? And this was the moment where I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. Have you ever met someone who's completely different at school versus at home? Because there was a kid I went to school with named Barry, but Barry was very shy and antisocial. A lot of people at school didn't even know who he was because he never talked, and the only reason I did was because we sat next to each other in class. So I just figured this was how he always acted, until one day we got put together for a group project, and I needed a way to contact him. So I looked up his name on social media and I found his profile, but it was a lot different from what I expected, to say the least. Because you know what he posted on there? He posted videos of him rapping. Outside of school, he was pursuing a full-blown rap career. But the best part was that his username was Lil Barry. So when I asked him at school who Lil Barry was, his face got super red because I don't think he wanted anyone to find out. But he should have been happy to show it off. He was low-key pretty good.
If you see your teacher in public, do not talk to them. Because one time, I was at the grocery store and out of the corner of my eye, I see my history teacher. But he was one of the teachers I actually liked, so I was gonna go up to him and say hi. Until he made eye contact with me, because once he did that, he looked away super quick and started walking the other direction. So I was like, dang, I guess he just doesn't like me like I thought. But then it started to make more sense what really happened the next day at school. Because I walk into his class and he has all the lights off, and right as the bell rings, he looks super tired and tells the whole class that we're gonna be watching a movie today instead of doing any actual work. So this is where I started to connect the dots of why he actually ran away from me. Because when I saw him at the store, he had a lot of alcoholic beverages in his shopping cart. So he definitely went home that day and drank a bunch, which is why he was tired. But he probably just didn't want me to know that. You could have just told me that though, Teach. I ain't mad at you. If you have a Gen Z lawyer, you are not beating your case. Because I had jury duty the other week, and the person on trial was there for robbing a gas station without a weapon. So you wouldn't think they would get that big of a punishment, but I knew they were cooked right when their lawyer walked in. Because first of all, he had that fluffy, messy Gen Z haircut, which is fine, but not in court. The judge ain't taking you seriously with that haircut. But that wasn't even the bad part, because the whole time he was trying to talk during the trial, it was a mess. Like, he would be explaining why his client wasn't guilty, but then the lawyer going against him would interrupt him and say something. So eventually, the Gen Z one got fed up and he was like, are you gonna let me speak? But then there was another moment where he crashed out because the other lawyer said, Your Honor, if this man isn't punished for his crime, he will do it again. And the Gen Z lawyer just went, nuh-uh. So let's just say that man did not win his case.
Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when your friend owes you money, yet they keep buying stuff. Like, me and my friend went out to eat one time, but he said he didn't get paid till next week, so he asked if I could pay for his meal, which came out to be $22. So when the day came where he got paid, I didn't even ask for my money back. I was just hoping he would give it to me on his own, but he didn't. So about 3 days later, we're hanging out and I ask him if he can pay me back. But he's like, sorry man, I don't have the money yet. Just give me a couple more days. So I'm like, no worries, dude, that's totally fine. Just let me know when you get the money. And I wasn't upset at all until I saw the story he posted the next day. Because you know where he was at? The casino! But the funny thing was, in the picture he posted, you could see the machine he was using, and it said he put $100 in there. Where'd you get that money from? He ain't borrowing from me anymore, I can tell you that.
Nobody talks about how sad it is when your favorite teacher yells at you. Because I only really liked one of my teachers throughout all of high school, and he was so cool that I would spend lunch with him every day. But one day during class, he spilled coffee on his shirt, and this put him in a really bad mood. So a couple minutes later, he's teaching the class, but the person next to me says something really funny, so I laugh. And normally, if I laughed while he was teaching, he would just ask what was so funny. And then when I told him, he would usually laugh too. But this time, he just screams, Tyler, if you want to keep interrupting this class, you can leave. And this almost made me cry because I thought we were homies. I was like, damn, you embarrassed me in front of all these ladies when I thought we were tight? But from this point on, it was never the same between us. I even had to stop eating lunch in his class because it felt so awkward now. It was literally like going through a breakup.
Why do teachers have such weird bathroom passes? Like, they'll give you a sword from the Revolutionary War and tell you to take that to the bathroom. And I'm not even kidding, because in one of my classes, on the first day of school, I had to go to the bathroom. So I went up to the teacher and asked. But I was terrified after doing this because when I did it, she pulled out a baseball bat. So I'm thinking she's about to swing on me or something, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I won't ask to go again. But then she tried handing the bat to me and she was like, here, take this. So then I was like, for what? And she goes, this is the bathroom pass. Oh, okay, I got it. One question though. Why? You couldn't have just given me something smaller? How do you expect me to go number one while holding that thing? I only got 2 hands, girl. Also, isn't that considered like a weapon? You're giving me a weapon as a bathroom pass. Do you know how ridiculous I looked going to the bathroom while holding that? Let's just say, it made the janitor's life a lot harder.
Gen Z people should not be cops because my friend recently became one and now I'm terrified for the future. Because he was telling me about his job and he was like, yeah, I pulled this guy over and he was acting hella sus, so I gave him a ticket. First of all, did you just call a person you pulled over sus? Dog, this is not Among Us. But it gets worse because he asked the person he pulled over for their license, and right when they gave it to him, he said he accidentally laughed, so I was like, why'd you do that? And he said it was because the name on the license of the person he pulled over was Bartholomew. So I was like, bro, you can't laugh at someone's name when you're a cop? Like, you're telling me that from now on, if I ever get pulled over, I have to worry about getting a ticket and getting roasted by the cop? We are so doomed.
If you're ever choking, do not ask me for help. Because last night, I was at dinner with some friends and the person next to me started choking. So I panicked because I didn't want him to pass away. So I pulled him out of his chair and tried giving him the Heimlich, but I never learned how to do the Heimlich, so I was just trying my best, and eventually he spit the food out, so I thought he would have been really grateful and thanked me for saving him. But no, instead, he was like, why did you do that? And I was like, what do you mean? I was helping you. And he said, no, you weren't. You were basically just punching me in the stomach. So I was like, oh yeah? Well then how did you get the food out, huh? And he said he swallowed part of it, so he was just able to cough the rest of it out. So from now on, I'm saving myself the embarrassment and letting people give themselves the Heimlich if they're choking. Nobody talks about how hard it is to tell if a girl is flirting with you or just being nice. Because when I talk to a girl, I just automatically assume that they don't like me. So whenever they're actually flirting, I never notice it. Like one time, I was sitting down at a coffee shop, but all the other tables were taken. So this girl asks if she could sit at my table, and I say yes, but then she looks at my coffee and sees that I got a cold brew with oat milk. So then she's like, oh my gosh, that's the exact coffee I get. Do you think it was fate that we met? And I was like, nah, cold brew with oat milk is like literally the most popular way to order a coffee. Then she said, yeah, I guess you're right. Are you getting a coffee for your girlfriend too? And I told her I don't have one, but right as she was about to respond, I said, I should probably get going because I have work. So then I leave and I'm in my car driving home and suddenly it hits me and I'm like, wait, was she flirting with me? I still don't know because I've thought girls were flirting with me before, so I would flirt back and then they would be like, no. So I never know what to do. Why does British food always look so bad? Because I just saw a video where this British guy was showing off his dinner and it looked like it came straight out of an easy bake oven. Like he was naming the food on his plate and one of them was called black pudding, which looked like a hockey puck. So I already thought it was gross, but then it got even worse because he was like, now this is called black pudding, which is made out of pig's blood. It's made out of what? You're choosing to eat pig's blood? I was genuinely concerned that someone was holding this guy captive and forcing him to eat this. But no, most British people choose to eat like this. And I get it. In America, our Fanta looks radioactive and all of our food is super unhealthy. But at least it tastes good. Because don't get me wrong, I love British culture. But when it comes to food, what are they doing over there? It's like they're in a Saw movie and eating this food is one of the challenges. Oh, and don't even get me started with beans on toast. That has to be a prank.
Oh, you think girls have it harder than guys? Well, one time I was on a hike by myself and I see these girls like 20 yards in front of me scream and then stare at something on the ground. So as I get closer, I realized they were looking at a snake, but they were afraid to walk past it because the path was pretty narrow and they didn't want the snake to bite them. So when I got there, they asked me if I could move the snake and I was like, are you kidding me? That thing could be poisonous. And they were like, yeah, but you're a man, you can do it. So then I said, I'm probably more scared of snakes than you guys are. Besides Jojo Siwa, snakes are literally my biggest fear. So I just tried making any excuse possible to not move that snake. I was like, well, I'm actually allergic to poisonous snakes. And the girl was like, yeah, no duh, everyone is allergic to poison. So eventually, I just had to man up and I got a really long stick and flung that thing off the path. Honestly, girls do probably still have it harder than us, but still, I'm scared of snakes too.
Why are people vegans? Because I have a friend that's vegan and every time I eat with him, he looks like he wants to throw up because of how bad the vegan food is. So I asked him why he's even vegan in the first place if he doesn't like the food. And he said, it's because I care about the animals and want them to live. Well, that can't be true because you're the one eating all their food now. And then he was like, well, I just feel guilty knowing that an animal was sacrificed just so I could eat it. But like, if you don't don't eat the animal, then it was sacrificed for nothing. You should feel guilty about that. Do vegans not understand that once the meat is in the grocery store, that animal is not coming back to life? Because I'm sorry, but I don't think you can revive a cow after it's already been turned into a Big Mac. And to any vegan who is like, well, if I don't eat meat, then less animals will be used for food. All I have to say to you is that's not true, because I've been eating double the amount of meat lately. Wait, pause. This is your warning to never be friends with short people. Because I used to have a roommate that was super short, and on the first day we moved in together, he went to the store and bought a bunch of food, but he left all of his groceries on the counter when he got home because he had to go to work. So he texted me asking if I could put them away, and I was like, yeah, do you care where I put them? And he was like, no, just put them wherever there's space. But this was a big mistake, because a couple months later, I go into the kitchen one morning, but something smelled weird. So I start looking around trying to find what it is. I open one of the cabinets and find a bunch of potatoes with this gross white goo on them. Now, I've never bought potatoes, so I knew they were my roommates, and I asked him why he didn't eat them, but he was like, I was looking for those forever, but I couldn't find them because you put them in the very top cabinet where I can't reach it. So honestly, it was my fault, but still, we need to put a ladder in the kitchen or something. Why did all the coolest things happen whenever you missed a day of school? Because one time, I was super sick, so I didn't want to go to school. And I sent a picture to my friends of me laying in bed at like 10 a.m. and said, haha, you guys have to go to school while I'm playing video games. But I was not prepared for what my friend's response was gonna be, because he replied by sending me a selfie of him with Shaq inside our classroom. So I responded and was like, please tell me why Shaq is standing inside my math class right now. And he said apparently our school had the best grades in the state or something. So Shaq came to congratulate us, and they had a bunch of free food and everything. Like, I had good grades too. I deserved to see Shaq. So the next day when I show up to school, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they'll have something really cool today also. But no. The first moment I walk into class, the teacher goes, okay guys, I know everyone had a lot of fun yesterday, but today we have a pop quiz. Why? Like, why do I never miss these days of school?
Have you ever had a friend that's always grounded? And it's usually for the most ridiculous reasons too. Like, I have one friend that's a triplet, so he has two brothers that look exactly like him. And one time, when we were younger, one of these brothers was saying mean things to another kid at school. So this kid went to the teacher and told on him to get him in trouble. But the only problem was that this kid got the triplets confused, and he ended up telling on my friend who had nothing to do with it. So the teacher called my friend's parents to tell them what happened, and when he got home from school that day, his mom was super angry and he had no idea why, so she grounded him. But the brother who actually did it just never admitted it until last year because he didn't want to get in trouble. Honestly, I can't blame him. I probably would have done the same thing.
The most embarrassing thing you could possibly do at a restaurant is not knowing how to pronounce a dish correctly. Because the first time I ever ate at a Vietnamese restaurant, I saw people at the table next to me eating soup. So I was like, dang, that looks really good. I want to order that. So I look in the soup section of the menu and there was only one option, so I knew it was that one. But when the waiter came and asked what I wanted to eat, with all the confidence in the world, I said, I'll have the pho, please. And he goes, you want the what? And I say, the pho. But he still doesn't understand, so eventually I just point to the thing I'm talking about, and then he just laughs really hard and goes, my friend, it's called pho. I was so embarrassed. I should have just ordered the spring rolls.
Why do people say they can't cook? Like, that doesn't even make sense. All you have to do is follow the directions that the recipe calls for. There's literally a movie about a rat being able to cook, but you can't do it. Obviously, if someone were to tell me to make a beef Wellington, I couldn't do it on the spot, but if you give me some directions, I could do it. Like, all you have to do is read. Add 1 cup of flour. Okay, add a cup of flour. How can you not do that? Does saying that you can't cook just mean that you can't like count or read? Because if you can read and count as good as like a 3-year-old, then there's no reason you shouldn't be able to understand how to add 1 dang cup of flour. Or the only exception I can see for people saying that they can't cook is if they burn their house down cooking. Yeah, you're right. You cannot cook, bro. But for everyone else that says it, do you not know how to cook, or do you just not want to cook?
Nobody talks about the difference between how girls text versus guys. Cause I got a new phone recently, but I lost all my contacts. So whenever someone would text me, I wouldn't know who it was because it just said their phone number and not their name. But I could still always tell whether it was a guy texting me or a girl. Because when it was a girl, they would use a lot more acronyms. Like I got a text from a girl saying WYDTATG. And at first I was just like, uh-oh, someone has spell check turned off on their phone. But no, it was just one of my friends that's a girl saying, what you doing tonight after the game? But when my guy friends text me, they just say the most random stuff for no reason. Like I got a text out of the blue that said, I just dropped the loudest fart in the library. And I didn't even have to ask who sent the message. Right when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's my homie Tom. Why are little kids so mean? Because I know a teacher that literally just quit her job because of how evil the kids were. But the scary part is, they're getting really creative. Like she said one of the reasons she quit was because she would always bring a cup of coffee with her to school. But one day, she went to the bathroom during class, and when she came back, she took a sip of her coffee, but she immediately spit it out because it tasted really thick and weird. All the kids started laughing when she did this as if they knew it was gonna happen. So she looked inside the cup, and you know what she saw? Dirt!
Some kid put dirt in her coffee. She asked who did it, and everyone pointed to the same kid because they didn't want to get in trouble. So she took him out of class and had a talk with him. And he literally said he just took a handful of dirt from outside and poured it in her coffee. She asked him why he did it, and he said, "'Cause I felt like it." Yeah, that's a great reason. Like, these aren't even silly pranks anymore. That's just straight up trying to send your teacher to the emergency room. She said sometimes when she sneezes, she feels dirt come out of her nose. We're so cooked. This is your warning to never get a haircut if a girl tells you not to, because I liked this girl when I was in school and I was pretty sure she liked me back. But one day I decided that I wanted to get a buzz cut. So that's what I did. And the next day I go to school and I sat right next to this girl. So every day when I'd walk into class, she would look at me, smile, then ask how my day's going. But this time I walk into class and we make eye contact for a second and her smile immediately drops. So I sit down and during the whole class, she tries her hardest to not look at me. I even asked her a question about the schoolwork and she just answered without making eye contact with me. So I asked her why she was acting weird and she said she just didn't expect me to get a haircut. But I knew she thought it was horrible because from this point on, she would never interact with me like she used to. So don't make the same mistake I did. Or do, honestly. It's probably just me because I look like a potato with a buzz cut. If you give a girl any information about a person, they will be able to find them, because one time I was at a basketball game with some friends and we took a group picture together, but I didn't look at the picture until the game was over. And once I did, I noticed a really pretty girl sitting in the background 2 rows behind us. So I was like, dang, I wish I saw her during the game so I could have talked to her. And I told my friend that's a girl about this and she was like, "Oh, I'll help you find her." And I was like, "Thanks, but that's impossible. I don't know her name or anything about her." But she was like, "No, I can do it." So I was like, "Yeah, right, whatever." But then about 3 hours later, I get a text and it's from her. But you know what's in the text? It's all the social media profiles of the girl from the game. I asked her how she found it and the way she explained it made it sound like she was a detective. Unfortunately, it didn't matter because I DM'd the girl and she never answered. But hey, it's the thought that counts, right? Have you ever taken a lie so far that you just had to stick with it? Because I saw my friend's cat get hit by a car and pass away when we were little kids. Because we lived right next to each other, but he was at baseball practice when this happened, so he didn't know about it. So I just assumed his mom told him about it when he got home that night, but a couple days later, I went over to their house to hang out, and I saw an orange cat inside. So I was like, "Wait, you got a new cat already?" And he goes, "What do you mean? We've always had this cat. You know him." But I literally just saw that cat pass away a couple days ago, so I was super confused. But as I looked closer at the cat, something looked a little bit off. So I compared it to a picture in his room of his old cat, and it wasn't the same one. It was really similar, but the lines on his old cat were just a little bit different. So his mom must have just thought that it would be a better idea to get a completely new cat instead of telling him what really happened and breaking his heart. And I never told him this because I didn't feel like it was my place to. So either they literally replaced their old cat without telling him, or I just saw the first ghost cat ever. Why do people have such weird group chat names? Like, I don't think I've ever met a friend group that has a normal one. It's always gotta be something freaky. And I would know because I get added to a lot of random group chats from people that follow me, and they always have the most insane names. Like, tell me why the other day, my phone starts going off a bunch during class, so I check it, and I'm getting texts from 5 Nights at Diddy's. My teacher sees me looking at my phone while she's teaching, so she's like, "Tyler, why are you on your phone while I'm teaching?" And what am I supposed to say back? "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Smith. I'm just getting a bunch of texts from 5 Nights at Diddy's right now." Please stop adding me to these group chats. Have you ever noticed that the most funny people are always the most sad? And you would never know it because I had a friend in school who literally could have been a comedian because he was literally the most funny person I've ever met. And I never saw this guy frown or get upset at school. But one day, I go into the bathroom during class and I hear someone crying in one of the stalls. So I look at their shoes and they're green, but I only knew one person who wore green shoes to school, and it was the funny friend. So I wait for him to come out of the stall and then ask him how he's doing. And he knew I saw him crying, so he couldn't lie to me anymore. So he was like, "Honestly, I'm not doing good at all." Apparently his parents were going through a divorce and it was really hard on him. But literally a couple hours ago, he was making everyone in class laugh. You would have never known what was going on in his personal life. So if you have a funny friend, make sure to check up on them. How can girls not tell when their friend has a crush on their boyfriend? Because I just saw a video this girl posted where her boyfriend and her best friend were playfully fighting. And I literally felt like I was interrupting something just by watching because you could tell they just wanted to make out the whole time. But the poor girlfriend is recording these videos behind the screen laughing as if it's some funny joke. No, girl, that friend of yours is in love with your man. And based off how your man was acting, he feels the exact same way. And I get it. I'm insecure, so I probably just think that everyone's cheating on me. But it gets to a point where it becomes so obvious that you can't miss it. Like, she was literally third wheeling, even though she's the one in the relationship. But the saddest part is, you can't even convince her that's the truth. You just have to wait until they inevitably break up. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you use the wrong humor with the wrong friend group. Because I have 2 friend groups, one from school and one that I played sports with, but they have very different senses of humor. My friends from school really find brain rot memes funny, but the other day, I was talking with the sports group, and one of the guys said he was gonna get a haircut, so he asked us for recommendations on what to get. And someone said, "Oh, you should get a low taper." So right after he said that, I sung, "Imagine if Ninja had a low taper fade." But right after I did that, They looked like they wanted to banish me from the friend group. So I was like, you guys don't know the Ninja Low Taper Fade meme? It's massive. But none of them knew it because they actually have a life. So I was just sitting there embarrassed. I need to touch grass, man. Have you ever had a friend that just can't spell anything over text? Because there was this girl I was talking to, but she thought I didn't like her back because we would text and I would be like, hey, do you want to hang out? And she would respond with a sentence that would literally take me 20 minutes to read because she didn't spell anything correctly. So sometimes I just wouldn't respond because I didn't know what it said. And eventually she was like, why don't you ever respond to my texts? I don't know. Maybe it's because I can't read them. Like I have a better chance of understanding someone speaking Japanese than understanding her text. And I don't speak Japanese. How do you expect me to read the word gorgeous when you spell it with 4 E's and an I? Like at least give me a chance. I hate having a Gen Z teacher because one time, while she was in the middle of teaching, a couple of kids in the back of the classroom were talking. So she was like, guys, what is so important that you have to talk while I'm teaching? But then one of the girls answered and was like, Sarah and Ryan broke up. But instead of just continuing to teach after they said this, the teacher goes, good for Sarah. I thought they were a bad match anyway. And she literally said this while Sarah and Ryan were in the class. But a couple weeks later, the teacher tells us that we have a seating change. And you know what 2 people she put right next to each other? Sarah and Ryan. Like this teacher literally loves drama and gossip more than the students. But also, since she just graduated a couple years ago, she knows that most students just use the internet to find answers for their homework. Cause during lunch one day, I asked her if she could help me with a problem from our classwork. And she said, no, not while I'm on my lunch break. Go look it up on Quizlet or something. That's what you guys do anyway. Like, can we just have robot teachers at this point? This is your warning to never be friends with a colorblind person. Because one time, I went to go visit my colorblind friend, but he lives in another state. So he was at work when my flight arrived. So he said his girlfriend was gonna pick me up, but they just started dating, so I didn't know what she looked like. So I asked my friend what kind of car she would be picking me up in, and he says it's a green Honda. So my flight lands, and I'm outside looking for a green Honda, but I don't see one. So after about 30 minutes, I call my friend, and I'm like, hey, is your girlfriend here yet? So he calls her, then he's like, yeah, she says she's been waiting for you for like half an hour. Then I was like, well, is she at Terminal B where I'm at? And he said yes. So I tell him to ask her to honk her horn so I could see if I hear it. And she does it. And guess what? She was literally parked 50 feet in front of me the whole time. I just never saw her because my friend said to look for a green Honda. And what was she driving? A red one. This is my fault though, because this is the same guy who used to think that Rudolph was the green-nosed reindeer. Does anyone else get more jealous when your friend talks to another person than when your crush does? Like, what do you mean you have other friends beside me? Because I was scrolling through social media the other day and I see one of my friends post a story of them at a Bad Bunny concert. So I swipe up on it and I'm like, oh, did you go with your family to the concert? But they said, no, I went with some friends. So I start twitching a little bit and I'm like, well, if you were going with friends, why didn't you invite me? And he was like, Tyler, it was a Bad Bunny concert. You don't even like him. And I was like, what? I love Bad Bunny. Then he was like, Tyler, you don't even speak any Spanish. Stop acting like you listen to Bad Bunny. And he was right, but still, I would have liked an invite. That was part of the reason I get so upset because he's my only friend and I don't want to lose him. That's not the point. This is your warning to never take your friends to the aquarium. Because I took mine the other day and it went horrible because one of my friends is the type of guy to do really dumb stuff to make everyone else laugh. And there was a section in the aquarium with a big fish tank and one of the fish in it kept coming right up to the glass and looking at us. So my friend thought it would be funny to take a selfie with the fish. So that's what he did. But unfortunately, he left the flash on when he took the picture and I think this did something weird to the fish because after he took it, the fish started to float vertically like this. But it wasn't moving. It was just floating. So at first we thought the fish just passed away, but then it started to move its tail a little bit, but it was still vertical. So I looked it up and apparently that's what fish do when they have bladder disease. So I don't know if my friend somehow gave a fish bladder disease with a selfie, but that's the best theory I got. Have you ever met someone whose face doesn't match their personality? Because there's this guy that always goes to the gym at the same time as me, and he's built like the Hulk. Like, he is terrifying, and he has an angry resting face, so I've never talked to him because of how intimidating he is. But one time, I was working out on the machine next to him, and after I finished my set, I feel someone tap on my shoulder, and it's this monster of a man. So I'm thinking, well, someone tell my family I love them. But then he opens his mouth, and he's like, hey man, I saw you working out. You're crushing it. Do you think you could spot me for my bench press? So I took a big exhale and was thinking, wait, you didn't come over here because you're gonna eat me for extra protein? Because I expected him to act way more scary. But the most funny part is, we started having a conversation and he told me he's a dentist. Like, imagine having The Rock as your dentist. I wouldn't be eating any candy. Why are dogs so awkward? Because I've had a dog for 5 years, so you would think he would be comfortable around me by now. But every night, me, my parents, and the dog watch TV together in the living room. But if my parents ever leave the room so it's just us two in there, the dog will literally look at me like this.
It's like we're hanging out with a mutual friend, but then that friend leaves, so we're just stuck with each other. And you might be like, oh, well, maybe your dog just doesn't like you. But no, he's like this whenever he's alone with anyone. He's just awkward. And don't even think about making eye contact with him, because if you stare at him for too long, he gets super uncomfortable. Like, there's no way he's not a human inside a dog body. It's probably my fault though, because I bet he sees that I'm really awkward, and since I'm his owner, he just tries to copy me. Because that's how I look at people when we're alone together.
Why do people say they can't cook? Like, that doesn't even make sense. All you have to do is follow the directions that the recipe calls for. There's literally a movie about a rat being able to cook, but you can't do it. Obviously, if someone were to tell me to make a beef Wellington, I couldn't do it on the spot. But if you give me some directions, I could do it. Like, all you have to do is read. Add 1 cup of flour. Okay, add a cup of flour. How can you not do that? Does saying that you can't cook just mean that you can't, like, count or read? Because if you can read and count as good as, like, a 3-year-old, then there's no reason you shouldn't be able to understand how to add 1 dang cup of flour. Or the only exception I can see for people saying that they can't cook is if they burn their house down cooking. Yeah, you're right. You cannot cook, bro. But for everyone else that says it, do you not know how to cook, or do you just not want to cook?
I just made a little kid cry at Crumble Cookie because I was waiting in line, but right when it was my turn to order, one of the workers says, "Attention everybody, we only have 2 of the pumpkin roll cookies left." And after he said that, a little kid behind me who would have been next up to order goes, "Mom, there's 2 pumpkin cookies left. We made it just in time to get one." But little did this kid know, I wasn't just getting cookies for me. I was getting it for my roommates too. And they all wanted the pumpkin one. So the employee asks what I want, and I say, "I'll take 2 of your pumpkin roll cookies, please." But right when I say this, the kid starts screaming. No words, just screaming. So the mom picks him up and walks outside the door as fast as possible. So he didn't even get any cookies. But the most sad part was, I heard how excited the kid was for the pumpkin roll cookie. So after I ordered, I was gonna tell him he could have mine, thinking that would make his day. But I didn't even get a chance to because his mom took him out of the store before I could do it. And I totally understand why he crashed out like that over a cookie, because these are really